This guy had been chopping firewood for 10,000 years. There was seriously wood piled up everywhere. The system in front of him said he had chopped nearly 4 million logs during all that time. I definitely wouldn't have that kind of patience just to earn the title of Saint Woodcutter. Before coming to this world, he was a professional basketball player, but it was the same old story. His knees gave out, and he ended up becoming a broke alcoholic. Then he was reincarnated into the Qinghong Academy. When he arrived, he thought he was going to become the strongest guy around. Reality was completely different. Instead, he spent years chopping firewood. Even though he had become a saint at chopping wood, he still couldn't cultivate. Just then, someone destroyed his entire pile of firewood. You almost feel bad for him, but the guy said the academy director had ordered him to go to the recruitment square and choose a disciple. He replied, "Got it." And that jerk went ahead and destroyed even more of his firewood. The woodcutter was feeling down because it wasn't like anyone would actually want to become his disciple. Meanwhile, at the recruitment square, everyone was crowding around the swordsmanship instructor. On the other hand, nobody showed any interest in Bai's talismans, our poor woodcutter. As everyone laughed and mocked the protagonist, an old man revealed that the reason Bai had been chopping wood for all those years was actually to protect the academy. At that moment, a young man showed up holding a snake. Not that kind of snake. Everyone laughed at him for carrying it, claiming the snake had cultivation. But while everyone else mocked him, only one beautiful girl realized the truth. He didn't even care about all the insults. Things got so ridiculous that some people actually knelt before the Grand Elder, begging him to remove Bai from his position. The old man asked Bai what he thought. Completely unfazed, he simply replied, "Whatever," looking just like a laid-back farm worker with a twig hanging from his mouth. The complainers thought they had already won. Just as the elder was about to announce Bai's dismissal, the beautiful girl suddenly told everyone to wait. She declared that she wanted to become our woodcutter's disciple. Looks like the guy got lucky. Not because he kept his position, but because he ended up with a disciple like her, if you know what I mean. Everyone was completely confused. Then she ran up to him, hugged him tightly, and begged him to accept this humble girl as his disciple. The swordsmanship instructor couldn't hide his jealousy. Meanwhile, the elder officially announced that she would become Bai's disciple. Bai himself had no idea what was going on. What nobody knew was that she was actually the reincarnation of a beautiful immortal. In her previous life, she failed to attain the Tao, so she kept reincarnating while preserving all of her memories. With both her incredible talent and her beauty, she believed she could eventually achieve the cultivation she had always sought. And there was our woodcutter, still standing there with a snake in his hand, wondering what he was supposed to do next. Meanwhile, the elder confirmed once again that she would be his disciple. The same guys from before had already decided they would eliminate her during the academy entrance exam. Bai simply ignored them, because he had no idea. But we already know that this disciple is only the first of many who are about to gather around the legendary woodcutter. Back on the isolated Qingluan Peak, the breeze blew calmly through the mountains. Giant piles of chopped firewood stood like towers amidst the serene landscape. Meanwhile, Su Liyue thought that if Bai Luochen were truly powerful, he wouldn't be bullied like that. She then continued her line of thought, wondering why he would endure it when he could destroy the entire academy. Breaking the silence, Bai turned to his new student and said there were a few things he needed to make clear to her. The first rule, he explained, is that in their department there are no classes as everything is based on self-awareness. Second, the master stated that they could both come and go as they pleased, without needing to report to anyone. Next, he pointed out that cultivation resources there were scarce due to the lack of students. However, Bai reassured her, promising that as her teacher, he wouldn't treat her poorly and would provide whatever she needed. When he finished, the man admitted he hadn't thought of a fourth rule yet and asked if she had any questions. Firmly, the new disciple replied that she had no questions for her master. Satisfied, he said he had carefully prepared 2 books and handed them to her with a gesture. The first book, he detailed, is the textbook covering all runic seals in order of difficulty. The second book contains practical exercises, and he advised her to follow her own pace without being greedy. Finally, the master warned that he would check on her progress from time to time, and she promised to remember his teachings. Pointing to the dorms, the master said they were all empty and she could choose anyone to stay in. Then he added that if she needed anything, she could go to the internal affairs department, which made her regret her choice. Still, the girl decided she just had to endure the situation, no matter how difficult. Meanwhile, Bai began to prepare the creature he had captured earlier for his barbecue. With his hands, he wrapped the pieces of meat around a wooden skewer. Then, the man lit a small flame on his fingertip. With it, he used the fire to light the charcoal on the grill in front of him. Back in her room, the smoke from the cooking wafted in and caught Su Liyu's attention. The disciple then remarked that the smell coming from outside was very good. Curious, she went to the window to see where the aroma was coming from. Then, the girl realized in disbelief that her master was roasting the dragon. In her thoughts, she remembered that dragons are immortal beasts and should be offered to the patriarch. Ignoring all protocol, the man took a big bite of the roasted meat. Shocked, the girl couldn't believe he had simply roasted and eaten the creature. Even without understanding, the smell of the food made the disciple's mouth water. Overcome by curiosity, the girl thought that even after cultivating for millennia, she had never tasted dragon meat. With this in mind, she approached and called out to her master in a sweet voice. As soon as he turned, the disciple said she was getting a little hungry and asked if she could have some of the meat. Without hesitation, Bai Luochen responded with a loud and definitive no. Shocked, the reincarnated immortal thought that if the Taoists from her past life knew about this, they would laugh her to death. Seeing her reaction, the master just told her not to look at him that way, as the answer was still no. Annoyed, Su Liyue turned and complained that her master was very stingy. She started to walk away quickly, but soon stopped in her tracks. Then, the girl turned to him once more and asked if she could eat now. With a quick motion, Bai removed one of the bones from the meat he was eating. Then he threw the bone toward the student, who watched it fly in her direction. As she caught it, the master told her to lick it. Confused by the request, the young woman didn't know how to react to her instructor's proposal. With a smile, Bai said she would understand why he was like this once she tasted the bone. Despite the strangeness, the way he spoke intrigued her about what she was about to discover. Hesitantly, the disciple decided to give the bone just one lick to taste it. As soon as her tongue touched the object, a wave of energy instantly coursed through her. With widened eyes, the girl could barely process what was happening. Suddenly, she exclaimed that the spiritual energy contained in it was too rich. Next, the young woman said she couldn't handle the flow of power anymore. In her thoughts, she realized that the energy from that small piece was equivalent to at least half a year of cultivation. With this, Su Liyue understood that if she ate the meat directly, her body would explode from so much energy. Then, the girl bowed and thanked her master deeply for his generosity. The instructor then advised her that one lick a day was enough, and she promised to remember the lesson. Far away, during the night, two masked figures approached a mysterious gate. One of them commented that Instructor Bai's horse has a lot of spirituality and has already defeated anyone who tried to steal it. Without wasting time, one of the intruders nimbly jumped over the wall. Once on the other side, the younger one asked if the two of them would be enough, but his older brother reassured him. Then, the leader revealed a vial that, according to him, would make any monster of grade 5 or lower faint. Even so, the younger one tried to express his concern, but was immediately silenced by his partner. Suddenly, the older intruder alerted his partner that someone was nearby. Then, the master threw the hay he was carrying into the wooden trough. While feeding it, he remembered when he found it, saying the horse was as thin and small as a donkey. Then, the instructor praised it, stating that now it finally had a majestic appearance. With that, he asked the animal to watch over the place as he was going to sleep. Hidden, the two men watched the master walk away towards his room. As soon as he entered, the man blew out the candle that lit the room. Seeing that everything was dark, the leader of the pair announced that he was gone and it was time to act. As they approached the animal, one of the thieves declared that the horse should return to their department. Meanwhile, a few minutes earlier, Su Liyue was in her room studying one of the books she had received. The girl flipped through the pages carefully, focusing on the material's content. Suddenly, a noise from outside made her stop reading immediately. The disciple wondered who would dare invade the Bluebird Peak to cause trouble. Right after, she stood up and walked toward the door to investigate the commotion. Determined, the young woman thought to herself that she would teach the intruders a lesson. Back at the stable, one of the thieves stepped forward, approaching the horse. The man then opened the vial with the potion, letting out a stifled laugh. He then approached the animal and said that Daddy brought some medicine for the little horse. At that moment, the girl appeared in a flash of aura and questioned the thieves about who sent them there. Confused, one of them asked when the peak got a maid, but the other deduced she was Bai's new disciple. With disdain, the intruder told the little girl not to meddle in other people's business and go back to her dorm. Unintimidated, she warned them not to even think about touching her master's belongings. Hearing this, the thief decided that he'd have to handle the situation the hard way. With that, the man rushed toward the young disciple at high speed. The intruder yelled that she shouldn't blame him because she asked for it. He tried to grab her, but the girl stood firm, ready for the attack. In a swift move, the disciple dodged the man's lunge. Missing the strike, the thief flew right over her through the air. Without hesitation, Su Liyue landed a precise kick to his head. The force of the impact threw the intruder violently to the ground. Seeing this, his partner ran to help, calling out his name desperately. Composing himself, the man said he was fine and had just lost his cool for a moment. Suddenly, a third man appeared and ordered the other to handle the horse because the girl was his. The new opponent then enveloped his hand in a large amount of energy. He then rushed toward the young disciple at high speed. The attack was fast, and it seemed he wouldn't give her a chance to react. Even so, Su Liu prepared a counterattack, concentrating energy in her leg. With a spinning kick, she hit him square in the chest. As he was hit, the man screamed that his hand hand was burning and the fire was consuming his spiritual energy. After defeating the second intruder, the disciple remained in her fighting stance. Seeing this, the last remaining thief charged at her, screaming an insult. At the same time, the man declared he would avenge his older brother. The noise outside finally made the master get out of bed. From his room's window, Bai Luochen silently watched the commotion unfold. He then simply stretched and let out a long yawn. With a quick motion, the instructor threw a small object out the window. An enormous energy barrier quickly formed over the entire courtyard. The intruder's blow was blocked by a wall of energy, stopping him from reaching the girl. Surprised, Su Liyue wondered if it was a silencing matrix. From the other side of the barrier, the disciple informed the thieves that it seemed her master had no plans of letting them go. Desperate, the intruders begged her to wait, but then immediately screamed in pain. Far away, a hand slammed hard on a table, showing great irritation. Angrily, He Shengsheng, the senior veteran of the Beastmaster's department, asked what they said. Kneeling, the men explained that the new disciple was too strong and swore to steal the horse as soon as they recovered. He Shengsheng then offered them restoration and chi-replenishing pills as compensation for their injuries. With a bruised face, one of the men repeatedly thanked his senior brother for his generosity. After handing them the items, he told them to rest and said he would settle the matter with the talisman department. The leader then ordered them to gather everyone as they were going to the Bluebird Peak. The man declared they would make Bai Luochen understand the repercussions of beating up members of their department. However, one of the group members tried to stop him, yelling that they couldn't do that. He reminded everyone that Bai Luochen was still an instructor and they would be punished for causing trouble. Unconvinced, He Xiangsheng asked if they should just forget that two of their members had been beaten up. With a cunning look, the other man suggested they could twist the story, since the disciple had broken the sect's rules. He explained they could frame her as the aggressor and ensure their word would prevail over Bai Luochen's. The leader agreed with the plan, saying they could force Bai Luochen to choose between the horse and his disciple. They then decided to take the case directly to the Hall of Law Enforcement. The next morning, the sun rose from behind the mountains of Qingluan Peak. As day broke, the door to Bai Luochen's house opened slowly. The master then came out of his quarters and began to stretch. As he was stretching, a sleepy voice called out to him, interrupting his morning routine. The young disciple then wished her master a good morning. Bai Luochen then asked if she had read the books he gave her the day before. Awkwardly, the girl began to explain that she had spent the whole night trying to understand the books. However, she confessed she only managed to read half a page before all her spiritual ki was depleted. Furthermore, the disciple admitted she couldn't even understand that half page. Seeing her hesitation, the master told her not to worry and just say how much she had read, as she wouldn't be scolded. In her thoughts, the young woman lamented that even as the reincarnation of an immortal, she was ashamed she couldn't understand the book. She then finally revealed out loud that she had only read half a page, causing her master's axe to miss its target. Surprised, the instructor turned to her and asked what she had said. Then, in disbelief, the man asked if she had really read half a page the night before. Repeating her question aloud, the master asks how she managed to read half a page in a single night. As the girl apologizes for disappointing him, the instructor corrects her, saying it was a pleasant surprise. He then confesses that he thought she would only be able to read a few questions from the book. Hearing this, the young woman wonders if her master thought she was stupid for being so surprised. The man denies her assumption, reaffirming he was just pleasantly surprised by the result. In his thoughts, the instructor reveals the book is a collection of his own runes and that he hadn't expected such progress. He then tosses an object to her, advising her not to rush to succeed, although knowledge is necessary. The master explains that with this token, she can go to the Academy's library to read books and get other manuscripts. Upon learning that the token's level unlocks more items, the girl asks what she needs to do to raise it. He replies that she can complete Academy tasks or participate in the disciple test. The disciple says she understands and thanks her master for the advice. In her mind, the young woman compares the token to her master's book, clearly valuing the latter more. She then remembers that she was an immortal for tens of thousands of years and possessed many treasures. Because of this, the girl concludes she has no shortage of martial manuscripts and dismisses the token as trash in her thoughts. She decides that the secret book given by her master is enough to study for a lifetime and that she needs nothing more. Noticing her master had suddenly stopped, the disciple asked what was wrong. At that moment, a powerful voice echoed from afar, ordering the disciple Su Liyue to come down and accept her punishment. Confused, the girl tells her master they might be the thugs she dealt with the night before. She then admits she didn't hold back and might have caused some trouble. With a smile, the instructor reassures her, telling her to leave everything to him and focus on her studies. The man then invites her to see what's happening, and the two walk toward the portal. Outside the peak, a huge crowd of disciples and masters had gathered at the entrance. The group waited in front of the portal, completely blocking the way back. As soon as they passed through, the master and disciple were met by the waiting crowd. One of the officials, Song Lang, announced that the Hall of Law Enforcement had received a report about Su Liu. Floating in the air, an official demanded they respect the academy's rules and hand over the girl. Seeing the commotion, Bai Luochen commented that it was quite a show. He and his disciple then moved forward, causing the crowd to part ways. Another official, Zhao Cheng, declared that the evidence was clear and asked Miss Su to come with them. With a swift motion, the master slammed his axe into the ground and told them not to be in such a hurry. Ignoring the official, Bai Luochen addresses the man hiding behind everyone in the crowd. The instructor says he wants to know about the disciples who invaded his peak to cause trouble. The group's leader then asks him how he dealt with the two intruders. With a smile, the man replies that they accidentally entered the peak and have already been severely punished. Unconvinced, Bai Luochen simply asks if the invasion was really an accident. He then states that his disciple also injured the intruders accidentally and that he can handle the matter himself. Angered, the man yells for him to stop, as the hall has already found her guilty and things won't end well for him. Turning towards him, the master asks if he's trying to teach him how to do things. At his response, He Xiangsheng stares at him, unable to say a single word. The man just gulps, unsure how to react to this change in attitude. Desperate, he turns to the officials and asks if they saw what just happened. One of the officials then declares that Bai Luochen is covering for the criminal, making the crime even worse. The group's leader then asks the senior brothers to take Su Liyue away quickly. Following the order, the two officials rush toward the girl at high speed. As they get closer, one of them warns that those who fight the hall never meet a good end. Unintimidated, Bai Luochen asks if these brats really think they can represent the Hall of Law Enforcement. The official then shouts that he dared to humiliate the hall and that he will take them both to be punished. Immediately after, the other official calls to his partner, telling him to advance on them together. Watching the scene, He Xiangsheng wonders if Bai Luochen still thinks of himself as the genius instructor from 10 years ago. The two men charged at high speed toward the master and disciple. The group's leader then reflects that a piece of trash at the revolving light stage shouldn't dare to confront the hall like that. Turning to his student, the master tells her to see this as a test of what she's learned, and not to disappoint him. Hearing the order, one of the officials shouts for her to die as he lunges forward to attack. With a smirk, the girl simply asks if that's all he's got. In a swift move, the disciple slips between the two men without being hit. She then easily blocks a sword strike from one of them. The official's attack only hits the ground, kicking up dust and debris. With the force of the impact, the weapon's blade gets stuck in one of the rocks. With this, the girl realized it was no wonder her master wanted to test her. She concludes that the two of them were so weak they weren't even worth her master's time. As she dodged their attacks, the girl thought that as long as she was near her master, she would be able to advance her cultivation in a very short time. Watching the scene, one of the officials wondered what Su Liyue was doing. He then realized the young woman was drawing runes in the air. In his thoughts, the man reflected that even a rune seal master needs to draw them in advance. At this, the other official became enraged, thinking she was looking down on them with that attitude. Seeing the situation, one of them shouted for his partner to use their special technique. The two then prepared to launch a combined attack against the disciple. Even so, the girl dodged the blow without interrupting her rune drawing. One of the men yelled for them to join forces to stop her, while she complained that they wouldn't let her finish. With that, one of them shouted for Su Liyue to go to hell as he launched a powerful energy attack. Unfazed, the disciple focused her own energy into her fingertips to counter. She then declared that this was all they amounted to. The two energies then clashed in an explosion that tore up the ground and shook the entire area. With that, the disciple launched her own sphere of energy at the two officers. The clash of techniques caused an explosion that devastated the surrounding area. The force of the impact threw the two men backward. Even so, one of them wondered if the attack had worked. As the dust settled, the girl emerged unharmed with two energy creatures by her side. She then declared it was time to start fighting a little more seriously. The two creatures then charged at high speed toward the officers. The men could only watch, terrified, as the attack approached. From a distance, the master watched the scene unfold before his eyes. He noted to himself that she had the thunder attribute, and he couldn't give her the snake's gallbladder. As one of the men fell in defeat, the disciple declared that she was done. Lying on the ground, the officer shouted at Brother He, questioning if he would do nothing since they were there because of him. Nervously, the man wondered why that damned Song Lang had to call him to this confrontation. With disdain, Su Liyue asked how he thought he could beat her when the other two couldn't. Without waiting for an answer, the girl shouted, "Go!" and launched another energy attack at the man. The attack struck the man square in the chest, shattering his armor on impact. Down on his knees, the man wondered why that woman had thrown a rune at him. In her thoughts, the girl wondered if she had missed her throw, since she was aiming for Song Lang. At that, the master intervened and ordered Liu to stand down, which she promptly did. On the ground, the officer accused him of provocation, disrespect, and fighting against law enforcement. The man then threatened him, saying the hall wouldn't let him go, but Bai Luochen simply questioned the word regret. The instructor then stated that the only people who should feel regret there were the three of them. Startled, the officer asked what he intended to do with that statement. Pointing at him, the master gave them a single, direct order: kneel. Suddenly, an immense pressure began to force the man's body down. With that, the three men were forced to their knees by a powerful energy that pinned them to the ground. The aura released by the instructor spread throughout the area, altering the surrounding environment. Unable to move, the officer wondered how someone at the revolving light stage could have such overwhelming spiritual ki. Bai Luochen then reminded them that this was Qingluan Peak and asked if they had recovered yet. The man realized that, as an instructor, he could borrow the spiritual ki of Lingfeng Peak. Suddenly, a light from a token in his hand made him wonder why Elder Two would contact him at that moment. Under the immense pressure, the man couldn't take it anymore and spat blood while screaming in pain. Seeing the officers retreat, Bai Luochen said he would spare Elder Two's honor this time. The instructor then turned to Hexiang Sheng and said that, as for him, the situation would be different. With that, he ordered him to remain kneeling there until Elder Brother Yu came to speak with him personally. Hours later, elsewhere, a man asked one of the officers what had taken him so long. The officer then began to report the entire situation to Vice Instructor Cheng. Upon hearing the explanation, the department's vice instructor, Cheng Kun, asked if Xiang Sheng was still kneeling on Qingluan Peak. He then dismissed the two officers and said he would handle the matter personally. In his thoughts, the officer concluded that Bai Luochen would be no match for someone at the parting aperture stage. Elsewhere, a master ordered his disciple to accompany him the next night to rescue their master brother. The next day dawned with the sun rising behind the peak's mountains. While eating, Bai Luochen thought that a whole day had passed, and no one from the beast department had shown up. Losing his patience, the instructor dropped his food tray on the table. Then the man stood up and opened the door to his quarters to leave. Outside, the disciple was practicing her energy control under her master's watch. She then swiftly kicked a piece of firewood into the air. The girl remained focused, watching the object as it hung in the air. With a hand strike, she broke the wood into several pieces. Right after, she shattered another piece of firewood with a precise kick. Su Liu continued her training, breaking more pieces of wood around her. As he approached, the master praised her silent movements, and she greeted him. The instructor then told her he had to leave and handed her a seal to use if the beast department showed up. Before leaving, Bai Luochen asked her to watch over the place, and the girl wished him a safe trip. The Kangwu Abyss was the home of the Yunhuang demon race, whose realm grew stronger in its depths. In its deepest part, there were 12 ancestral demons who were at the Mahayana stage. With this in mind, the master flew at high speed toward that location. As soon as he arrived, the man landed on top of one of the region's peaks. He quickly concluded that, with Liu's current realm, she wouldn't be able to use materials from an ancestral demon. Instead, the instructor decided to look for a demon king with the lightning attribute to demand some items. Suddenly, the man spotted a girl being chased just below the cliff where he stood. He then wondered if she was one of the academy's disciples. Meanwhile, the girl was running desperately to escape a shower of fireballs. With that, he thought that troublesome things just kept appearing in his path. Without hesitation, the instructor snapped his fingers and released a small spark of energy. He then decided he would go down there first to check on the situation. Fallen on the ground, the girl heard a mocking voice ask if she was out of tricks. Then, one of the men advised her to stop running, as she had nothing to lose by playing with him. Undeterred, the young woman told him to keep dreaming. Then, another man commented that the 4 arts department was just the academy's pet. With that, he told her to be a good girl and give him some good service so he would let her go. Determined, the girl named Yun Ruo declares that she won't let them touch her, even if it means she has to die. Ignoring her words, the man lunged forward, readying a punch. Then, the girl realized in shock that her spiritual powers had been sealed. Next, the man grabbed her face, commenting on how soft her skin was. He then added that other parts of her body must be even softer. In despair, the young woman wondered if she was fated to be defiled by these evil people. Suddenly, a mysterious voice instructed her to strike her opponent's danzhong point. Hearing the voice, she was surprised to find she could move again. Quickly, the girl struck the man, who wondered why he could no longer move. With that, she landed a direct hit, an energy blast to his chest. The impact of the blow created an explosion that sent him flying. On the ground, the man stared at the gaping, glowing wound in his chest. The girl could only watch the scene, surprised by the result of her own attack. Seeing what happened, the other man rushed to his boss's side. Afterward, the two girls thanked the mysterious man for helping them. The instructor wondered if all the students trained by senior sister Yue were this clumsy, watching the girls bow to thin air. At this, the man screamed that he would make the girl pay for what she had done. Even with little spiritual ki left, the young woman dared him to try if he had the guts. The man then lunged forward, telling her to stop pretending as he knew her energy was gone. Unfazed, the mysterious voice instructed her to step to the left and strike his kidney acupoint. As she dodged, the attacker taunted, "Did you think you could hit me?" Then, the man charged once more and yelled for her to go to hell. The blow grazed the girl's face and she watched him terrified. With a snap of his fingers, the instructor intervened from a distance. Suddenly, the man was trapped by energy chains that lifted him into the air. The voice then told the girl to go ahead and kill him. Instead, she asked if she could question him about her senior sister's whereabouts. Trapped, the man replied that it was no use, as the other girl had already blown up her Kai-Si and escaped. As he laughed, the young woman yelled that he was lying. The man dared her to kill him and revealed his sex name. With disdain, the girl addressed the captured man, calling him a bastard. In shock, the prisoner questioned why his sect had sent him to this place and how the other man had gotten there. Just then, Bai Luochen emerged from the forest, wondering if he was really that famous. The man then yelled that it was impossible, as he was just trash at the revolving light stage. Confused, the girl realized that the person who helped her was the useless Bai Luochen, known throughout the entire academy. Wasting no time, the instructor said he wasn't interested in interrogation games, but the man refused to talk. At that, Bai Luochen simply told him to die, and the man was engulfed by an energy that disintegrated him. The scene unfolded under the watchful eyes of everyone present. In despair, the young woman asked how she would find her sister now that he had killed him, but Bai said he knew how to find her. He then asked for one of her sister's belongings, and the girl handed him a handkerchief she had embroidered herself. With the item, the instructor created an energy bird and ordered the creature to find the handkerchief's owner. The small creature then shot off at high speed, following its owner's trail. The bird flew over a deep, dark abyss where the handkerchief had fallen. Down below, the missing sister thought that after escaping that bastard, she ended up falling into this place. Injured, the girl concluded that with her Chi-Si destroyed, this pit would become her grave. At the bottom of the pit, the injured girl wondered if Yunruo was safe. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice shouting for her senior sister. Then, the same voice asked if she was down there, at the bottom of the abyss. Shortly after, another voice called out to Yunruo, who looked up in disbelief. The girl then confirmed to Elder Bai that her sister was indeed there, though badly injured. With that, the young woman said she would go down to get her, but the instructor stopped her, telling her not to rush. He then created an ascension talisman, which surprised the girl with his skill. Without hesitation, the man tossed the talisman into the bottom of the pit with a swift motion. Down below, the talisman's energy split into several parts and surrounded the injured girl. Surrounded by the energy, the young woman wondered if they were bubbles. Soon, the bubbles began to lift her upward, and she questioned where they were taking her. During the ascent, the girl just let out a pained groan due to her injuries. As soon as she reached the surface, her younger sister ran toward her, shouting her name. The young woman then hugged her and said everything was okay now, as the other cried on her shoulder. After recovering, the two thanked Elder Bai for saving them. Suddenly, a golden pill materialized in the instructor's hand. He then offered the item to the two of them, telling them to heal their wounds first. The girl then recognized the object as the 5 Elements cultivation pill. Even so, she refused, saying it was a precious treasure, but he insisted she take it since he got it for free. At that, her younger sister took the pill and thanked Elder Bai for his help. Without hesitation, the injured girl ate the pill under her sister's watchful eye. As an aura of energy enveloped her, her sister asked if she was feeling better already. The young woman then remarked that her leg wound healed instantly, living up to the treasure's reputation. She then promised to repay his kindness, but the man said that with their level of strength, they shouldn't be here. With a serious look, the instructor questioned why they had come to the Kangwu Abyss. The two girls just looked at each other in silence, not knowing what to say. Meanwhile, back at the peak, Su Liu closed the book she was studying. With that, she celebrated finishing a page and decided to cultivate, as she felt she was about to break through. Next, the disciple approached an energy crystal in her room. Suddenly, a noise from outside caught her attention, making her turn around. In her thoughts, the girl concluded that, as expected, Someone had come to cause trouble while her master was away. Without hesitation, she flew across the rooftops to find the new intruders. Soon, a powerful voice echoed across the peak, accusing the maniac Bai Luochen of allowing his disciples to break the rules. The man then introduced himself as Chung Kun, the vice teacher of the beast-taming department, and ordered her to come and receive her punishment. A man asks if the two girls are tired of living, scolding them for entering the Demon King's domain. Yunruo takes the blame, explaining she was greedy while searching for materials to repair her master's instrument. However, Bai Luochen senses something strange about the whole situation. He reveals he was hunting an ice silkworm, and that the formless border sect was also after it, questioning their intense interest. He then considers that the demon might be far more powerful than Yunruo believed. Bai Luochen then confirms to them both that he will capture the silkworm, as it's the perfect material for his disciples' advancement. With the matter settled, he says he must return before sunrise, while the girls comment on how well he treats his apprentice. Suddenly, a powerful voice echoes through the mountains, demanding that Bai Luochen appear at once. Soon, two men arrive, floating before an opening gate. Su Liyue greets them at the door and apologizes, informing them her master is out. Without introducing himself, Chung Kun coldly orders her to kneel. Su Liyue asks why she should kneel, and the man replies it's a rule of respect for elders, criticizing Bai Luochen for not teaching her. Confused, she retorts that she's never heard of such a rule, and defends her master, demanding the man be more respectful. At her response, the vice teacher becomes enraged by the new disciple's insolence for daring to talk back to him. In an instant, he unleashes his energy. He lunges forward with an open hand, shouting for her to kneel. At the last second, Su Liu raises an energy barrier to defend herself from the attack. The impact of the collision between their powers blasts a large crater into the courtyard. Even while bleeding, she refuses to obey, insisting she won't kneel because she has done nothing wrong. Faced with her resistance, Chung Kun simply responds, "Very well." Then, the man challenges her to see how long she can keep her mouth shut. A crushing pressure then bears down on Su Liyue as the command to kneel echoes through the area. Suddenly, the vice teacher realizes his power is being restrained by an unexpected force. A new energy begins to completely repel the attack coming toward her. An aura then erupts from within Su Liu, shattering the ground around her. The girl then floats into the air, suspended by the intensity of her own power. Chung Kun realizes she burned her own realm just to avoid kneeling, and that it would tarnish his department's reputation if the story got out. For that reason, he thinks this disciple cannot be allowed to live. Chung Kun then orders his disciple to kill her, but the young man questions if it's the right decision. The master pressures him about disobeying orders, while the young man argues she's done nothing to deserve death. In a weak voice, Su Liyue remarks she didn't expect a failed master like him to have a more humane disciple. She then warns him that if she survives today, she will make sure he regrets it in the future. The disciple approaches and explains that if she just kneels, the matter will be over, as his master cares about his own image. He insists it's not worth risking her life for pride, but Su Liyue replies she didn't expect the sect to harbor someone like his master. Still not understanding, the young man asks why she cares so much about it. Su Liyue ends the conversation, stating that if his master wants to kill her, he should just do it, because she will never beg for mercy. As she prepares a technique, she apologizes, saying this move was meant for his master, while the young man laments that he cannot disobey orders. Unexpectedly, a black horse appears and charges the young man at the moment of the attack. The creature hits him with a violent impact, throwing him far away. The horse then lands with full force, creating a crater in the ground. Soon after, the young disciple is seen fallen and defeated amidst the debris. Su Liyue recognizes the creature and whispers the name Xiao. In the distance, Chung Kun realizes it's a spirit demon and understands the reason for He Xiangsheng's obsession with it. The horse then rears up, releasing an intense aura of energy. In an instant, Su Liyue appears mounted on the creature, shouting its full name, Xiao Wu! Chung Kun materializes an energy whip and states he wouldn't have even thought of the horse if it hadn't shown up. Chung Kun warns that since the horse revealed itself, he shouldn't be blamed for what happens next. The man then lashes out with the energy whip at the animal, ordering it to behave. Su Liyue desperately screams for Xiao Wu to stop as the creature is hit head-on. The horse digs its hooves into the ground, trying to resist the power dragging it. Even trapped by the energy, Xiao Wu pushes forward and faces its opponent directly. Chung Kun just yells for the evil beast to die. In an instant, he fires a concentrated attack that hits the animal and shatters its defense. The reflection of the impact is seen in Su Liyu's eyes. Then, a beam of energy strikes the ground near her. Lying in a pool of blood, the horse now seems completely defeated. Overcome with grief, Su Liyue can only whisper her companion's name. With energy exploding around her, she swears that if she survives, she will make the old man pay for this. A pillar of energy then rushes toward the girl, who braces for impact. The two opposing powers meet, frozen in front of each other. Chung-kun finally declares he will grant her wish. Su Liyue then moves forward, declaring that this is the right distance for the attack. With that, she unleashes the Moon Fairy Wheel, a technique that will hit its target without fail. She then reveals she burned her own realm just to be able to use this move and defeat him. The energy attack speeds forward. The blow strikes the vice teacher head-on, causing a massive explosion. Though wounded in the shoulder, Chung-kun thinks he was lucky to be prepared. He admits he would have died if he hadn't brought a treasure to protect himself. He then concludes the girl has her tricks and must be eliminated immediately. Meanwhile, Su Liyue gasps, revealing that her spiritual power is completely drained. Seizing the opportunity, Chung-kun traps her with his energy whip. He then yanks her forcefully toward him, shouting for her to come to him. With a swift movement, the man grabs her by the neck. Gasping for air, she threatens him, saying her master will make him pay for this. Chung-kun simply reveals he had already decided to kill him along with her, as he always considered him trash. On the ground, though injured, Xiao Wu begins to get up. Seeing the horse rise again, Su Liyue shouts for it to stay away and run far. Chung-kun then announces he will kill her first, then capture the creature and train it slowly. Almost losing consciousness, the girl can only think of her master. In a brief memory, Bai Luochen appears, handing her a talisman to be used if the beast-taming department caused trouble. Back in the present, the vice teacher notices Su Liyue managed to stick the paper to his arm. The man then scoffs, questioning what a simple piece of paper could do in this situation. In that same instant, the talisman explodes in a flash of intense light. An overwhelming force erupts from the seal and strikes Chung-kun head-on, sending him flying backward. The blast of energy hurls him violently away. From the impact, Su Liyue is thrown to the ground, coughing to catch her breath. Then, a large bird-shaped energy creature emerges from the site of the explosion. Struggling, Chung-kun steadies himself and asks in disbelief how that could be He stares at the creature, his face filled with astonishment. The energy bird then lands with an impact that cracks the stone floor. The creature then begins to gather power, emitting an even more intense glow. In an instant, the bird unleashes all its accumulated energy in a devastating explosion. Smoke and static fill the destroyed courtyard. On the ground, the treasure Chung-kun used to protect himself is now completely shattered. His disciple runs to him, asking if his master is okay. The man is now on the ground, his clothes torn and severely injured. Just as the young man reaches him to help, the young man suggests they retreat due to his injuries, but Chung-kun tells him to shut up and demands his 5 elements pill. With that, he swallows the pill, and a healing aura begins to restore his body. Even injured, Chung-kun refuses to believe that an instructor like him can't teach that girl a lesson. With a furious roar, he charges at the disciple, swearing he'll kill her. Fallen and weak, Su Liyue wonders if this is her end. Realizing the attack didn't hit her, she opens her eyes and wonders why he hasn't struck yet. Unexpectedly, she sees her master standing before her and screams his name. In an instant, a shadowy hand grabs Chung-kun's wrist, halting his advance. The vice instructor glares at the figure holding him with an expression of pure fury. While a shadow clone restrains him, Bai Luochen supports his disciple, warning her not to speak because her heart has been severely injured. He then turns to his enemy and asks if he took advantage of his absence to bully his apprentice. With that, the clone grabs Chung-kun's face with full force. Bai Luochen then questions if the morals of a vice instructor from the taming department are this low. Then, the clone smashes him into the ground with overwhelming violence. Even in defeat, the man shouts that he's at the parting aperture stage and ranks among the top 5 instructors in the academy. Unable to accept defeat, he keeps screaming, asking why this is happening. In despair, he questions why he can't beat some trash at the revolving light stage, unaware he's being defeated by just a clone. Meanwhile, Chung-kun's disciple is struck and thrown against the wall. Seeing this, Su Liyue begs her martial uncle Bai to stop and not hit him anymore. Ignoring her plea, Bai Luochen simply says the words, "Edict, Golden Bell." Immediately, a giant energy bell materializes and traps the young disciple. The clone then uses the bell to smash Chung-kun repeatedly against the ground. The vice instructor can only think about how savage his opponent is. With that, he wonders why he's being healed at the same time he's being beaten. The shadowy figure attacks him relentlessly as humiliation overwhelms the man. Then, a massive wave of energy explodes, devastating what's left of the courtyard. The clone then places a hand on the disciple's head, who is paralyzed with fear. A strange energy envelops him, making him tremble from head to toe. The shadowy figure then warns them that they should be grateful to Li Guanqi, because if it weren't for him, they would both be dead. The clone then orders the young man to take his master and disappear from Qingluan Peak. Covered in blood, Chung-kun weakly asks for his 5 elements pill. The disciple supports him and hands him the pill, telling him to eat it slowly, and that they will leave as soon as he's done. With the help of the pill, Chung-kun's body fully recovers. He then refuses to leave, yelling that his opponent only won because of a sneak attack. Reunited with his disciples, the man claims that Bai Luochen didn't show his true abilities and demands his storage ring. Meanwhile, Su Liyue apologizes to her master for failing to protect Qingluan Peak. She continues, lamenting that even Xiao Wu was injured trying to protect her. Bai Luochen reassures her, saying it wasn't her fault, and tells her to endure the pain as the crucial step to repair her heart meridian is about to begin. In the distance, Chung-kun orders his disciple Yin Hai to watch closely. He then releases his guardian beast from a scroll, revealing its complete form. With that, the man announces that the creature is an 8th grade spirit demon, his strongest guardian beast, the horned eagle. On the other side, Bai Luochen challenges him to see how he'll defend against what's in his bag. In an instant, the bag at his waist releases a blinding light. The eagle is struck by lightning and begins to writhe uncontrollably. Unable to resist, the creature flees into the sky as Chung-kun screams for it to come back. At that moment, Jiang Heming and He Xiangsheng arrive and ask what happened, while Bai Luochen asks them to take care of Su Liyue. On the wall, He Xiangsheng remarks that for many years, Bai Luochen tried to stay on Qingluan Peak and not provoke others. He Xiangsheng accuses him, saying that in return he went out of his way to take Qingluan Peak and even tried to kill his disciple. With his eye glowing with red energy, Bai Luochen just whispers the word blood. He Xiangsheng then realizes he has activated the blood-breaking talisman and asks him if he's gone mad. Seeing this, Chung-kun flees at high speed, thinking that the talisman can dissolve people into a pool of blood, not even sparing their souls. Unexpectedly, the shadow clone appears in his path, as the vice instructor screams desperately that he can't die. In the blink of an eye, the clone hits him with a devastating blow that sends him flying. The impact of the attack causes an explosion that destroys part of the academy wall. In the distance, the academy's headmaster, Li Guanqi, watches the scene, completely terrified. He Xiangsheng then warns him that he will suffer divine punishment for using that talisman against a fellow instructor. Bai Luochen simply replies that he is divine punishment itself. With that, a mass of red energy surges forward and envelops He Xiangsheng, who screams in terror. The energy then takes on a monstrous form and consumes him completely, as he screams for it to stay away. Suddenly, an energy barrier is raised to completely isolate the area. Jiang Heming watches the scene, his face pale with shock. On the ground, all that's left of He Xiangsheng is a bubbling pool of blood. With a snap of his fingers, Bai Luochen activates another technique. The mass of blood then condenses and dissipates over the man's clothes. Watching from afar, Yunruo comments on the brutality of the blood-dissolving curse, leaving only the clothes behind. Kneeling, Chung-kun stammers his master's name, while Bai Luochen laments that he didn't want to do it, but was forced. With tears in his eyes, Yin Hai begs for Master Bai to wait. Bai Luochen simply gathers new energy in his hand. Jiang Heming's disciple is struck by an invisible blow. Then, the dark energy begins to rip the clothes from his body. Bai Luochen then warns him not to covet what belongs to others and to find a teacher with some decency. As Bai Luochen walks away, the young man thanks him and promises to take the lesson to heart, not forgetting to take his senior brother with him. In the distance, the two sisters watch the scene unfold in silence. With that, Yunro suggests they shouldn't intrude on the two of them that night, and her sister agrees. Jiang Heming says his goodbyes and thanks him for the help, promising to return to repay the favor, to which Bai Luochen replies he can stop by whenever he wants. Even without understanding, Su Liyue asks if they will really come back often. With a snap of his fingers, Bai Luochen just says he needs to change. Then, the three of them silently observe the completely destroyed courtyard. Unexpectedly, he looks up at the sky with a serious expression. A strange, monstrous creature seemed to be watching everything from a great height. In an instant, the creature is undone by an invisible force. Su Liyue asks if there's something in the sky, but her master denies it, though he thinks someone was monitoring the peak. Far away, a crystal sphere that was mirroring the scene shatters completely. An elder weeps with fury, questioning how Bai Luochen could be so cruel as to kill his nephew without leaving an intact body. In a cave, the Supreme Elder instructs Tu Wansheng to use Bai Luochen's disciple against him in the next grand trial. The Elder of the Law Enforcement Hall confirms that his hall has already made all necessary arrangements. Back at the peak, Bai Luochen's voice announces that he brought something for Yue. Su Liyue then stares at a gigantic creature, surrounded by lightning. With that, he reveals that this is the snow demon cicada, still in its larva form. He then explains that he wanted to find a catalyst for her advancement, but was lucky enough to find the creature and decided to bring it to her. Su Liyue is astonished to realize that the larva, despite being at the level of a spirit king, is completely docile in front of her master. With that, Bai Luochen states that the cicada will be of great help to her cultivation, as it possesses both water and lightning attributes. She then thinks about how powerful spirit kings are, and how not even in her past life could she subdue one, yet her master simply hands the creature over to her. With a cry of joy, the girl hugs him and thanks him immensely. Bai Luochen reminds her of the Academy's grand trial and tells her to use the opportunity to improve herself, and she promises not to disappoint him. He advises her not to push herself too hard, as the test won't be difficult, especially if she brings the cutie with her. Even without understanding, Su Liu asks if she'll be allowed to bring the creature to the trial. The master then assures her he can suppress the cicada's cultivation to a level that will be permitted in the test. She then wonders if the creature will actually agree to have its cultivation suppressed. Bai Luochen warns that he will help her with the process right now, but that it might hurt a little since it's the first time. With an orb of energy in his hand, he engulfs the larva in a powerful whirlwind. Su Liyue watches the scene in shock, questioning why the creature's cultivation is increasing instead of being suppressed. In an instant, the larva is completely enveloped in a cocoon of energy, and Bai Luochen announces that he's finished. Soon, the top of the cocoon begins to crack, preparing to reveal what's inside. Slowly, two delicate hands break through the surface of the energy cocoon. Then, a shod foot steps out from the dissipating threads of light. Su Liyue just silently observes the figure that emerges before her. The creature then introduces herself as Menglin and tells Su Liyue to call her Little Dream, while the girl thinks about how cute she is. Not understanding the reaction, Menglin asks what's wrong with Miss Yue. Su Liyue then comments that she thought all spirit kings were monstrous beasts, and that this was the first time she'd seen one so cute. With that, Menglin asks if Miss Yue had ever met other king-level spirits before. Su Liyue then realizes she accidentally let slip important information. Quickly, she corrects herself and says she has only seen illustrations in books before, and Menglin replies that she understands. Though relieved that her master didn't pay attention, Su Liyue wonders why she can't analyze that. With a wave of his hand, Bai Luochen raises an energy barrier around the area. With that, he announces he will leave Yue's advancement to Little Dream, who assures him he can leave everything to her. Menglin then says it's getting late and they should go rest, while Su Liyue wishes elder brother Luochen a good night. Meanwhile, Bai Luochen approaches a patch of giant carrots. He soon concludes he was right, and that the people from the Equal Void sect weren't after Little Dream, but rather the jade pendant she was guarding. As he observes the snow demon cicada, Bai Luochen wonders what that piece of jade is that not even the system was able to analyze. Suddenly, a screen appears and congratulates him for activating a new mission. The mission details that he must guide his disciple to obtain first place in the trial, listing the rewards and the punishment for failure. He then expresses surprise that the system can give missions, thinking it was just a counter, which makes the screen indignant. Soon, he realizes there's something wrong with the system screen. With that, the screen hurries him to make a decision, and he finally agrees to accept. After the screen disappears, he concludes that the prizes are useless to him, but he can give them to Yue, who should advance without a problem with Little Dream's help. He then enters his room to rest. As soon as he lies down, a bluish light appears beside him on the bed. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a woman floating inside a containment chamber filled with error messages. The mysterious woman then whispers that, unfortunately, this still isn't enough. Lying in his bed, Bai Luochen observes the figure of energy lying next to him. With that, the figure expresses its desire to be able to see him again one day. 5 days later, several pieces of meat are seen roasting over a bonfire. Catching the scent, an approaching disciple comments that someone is grilling something and that it smells really good. Just then, Bai Luochen is seen sprinkling salt on the meat with a stylish gesture. Jiang Hemming then yells, asking what the hell he's doing, while Bai Luochen asks if he's also interested in the roasted game. In a hallucination, one of the disciples sees an angelic creature asking if he would like to hear the words of his Lord and Savior. Back in reality, Bai Luochen admits he calls the meat game, but honestly has no idea what that weird bird that appeared on the peak was. Outraged, Jiang Hemming points to the exam entrance and reminds him that this is the site of the Academy's test. The instructor then thinks to himself how all the disciples there smell so good. He then orders everyone to get back and line up properly, while Bai Luochen defends himself, saying he's not disrupting the trial in any way. Jiang Hemming just thinks about how irrational that attitude is. Soon he states that someone like Bai Luochen isn't suited to be an instructor, but the man just replies that he already knows that. Further back in line, a disciple laments that the Beastmaster department is doomed, but his colleague sees it as a chance for them to finally shine. Another young man just watches the scene in silence. Elsewhere, Su Liyue appears with a small moth resting on her head. Upon seeing her, Feng Shu comments that her talent isn't bad, but it's a shame she became the disciple of a cripple. Feng Shu approaches, introduces himself, and thinks he's going to win her over with his charm. However, Su Liyue completely ignores him and runs right past him. She then clings to her master, who tells her to stop because he's busy. From a distance, Feng Shu watches as she asks what her master is cooking and begs for a bite, but he refuses because of the amount of spiritual energy in the food. Outraged, he wonders how she dares to ignore someone as charming and handsome as him. Suddenly, a large hand lands heavily on his shoulder. Head instructor Shi Hongshang advises him not to get worked up over a woman, reminding him that jealousy is a feeling for the weak and incapable. At that moment, a disciple excitedly announces the arrival of the Department of the Four Arts. The instructor and her female disciples, including Yun Ruo, draw everyone's attention as they approach. The camera focuses on the instructor of the Department of the Four Arts, Moon Xuanzhu. At this, Shi Hongshang approaches her and comments on the coincidence of their meeting. She ignores him and uses a wind technique to move quickly. The instructor lands in front of Bai Luochen and thanks him for saving her disciples. Confused, he asks what Senior Sister Moon is talking about. Bai Luochen then introduces her to Su Liyue as her martial aunt, and the disciple greets her formally. Feng Shu teases his master, but Shi Hongshang furiously denies being jealous, his body consumed by rage. Suddenly, an elder's voice demands silence from everyone present. Atop a large tower, the man calls for the attention of all the assembled disciples. With a megaphone, the Elder of Chores announces that the exam will take place in the secret realm and that he will state the rules. He then explains that the time limit is 2 days, and the ranking will be decided by the number of points collected. Besides finding treasures and killing demons, the Elder informs them that disciples can also steal tokens from each other to earn points. A strange creature emerges from the ground to oversee the test. The Elder sternly warns that if Grandpa's eye catches anyone intentionally harming another disciple, the punishment will be immediate. As soon as he finishes speaking, the ground beneath the disciples begins to open up. Everyone watches the scene in complete shock. The tower then splits apart, revealing a large portal, and a voice announces that the trial will now officially begin. At this, Feng Shu orders the members of the extermination department to advance and secure all advantageous positions. Su Liyue takes a step forward, ready to enter the portal. She says goodbye to her master, telling him she's leaving now, and Bai Luochen simply tells her to take care. However, as she turns, she notices her master flirting with Senior Sister Moon and thinks she doesn't want to go anymore. Moon Xuanzhu asks if he isn't worried about his disciple, but Bai Luochen assures her that she is no weaker than anyone else there. With full confidence, he finishes by saying that, above all, she is his disciple. In a quick glimpse of Little Dream's daily life, it's shown that she likes to curl up in a cocoon to sleep. Besides being kind and friendly, she also loves to help others, even if it's assisting with cultivation while the person is trying to sweep the floor. She also loves to eat and wastes nothing, not even the Emperor's rare carrots that were meant for someone else. Because she is hardworking and honest, everyone adores her, and she always greets him enthusiastically upon his return, telling him she took good care of the house. Inside the secret realm, a powerful beam of energy cuts through the sky and strikes the valley. A disciple runs desperately through the forest, fleeing an imminent attack. Fallen and wounded, he wonders why there's a monster like her in the talisman department, which everyone said was a joke. With that, another energy beam falls from the sky, followed by cries of agony. The man then screams for Su Liyue to stay away as she approaches with energy arrows in her hands. In an instant, one of the arrows hits the identification token attached to his waist. The defeated disciple's token is then absorbed by Su Liyue's. As her small guardian spirit floats beside her, she reads her status and concludes she's still too slow. In the distance, another creature is eliminated, and the moth on her head just makes a sound. With this, Su Liyue grabs it and says that since no one is watching, it can stop pretending and speak normally. In her hand, little Menglin complains she's being crushed and asks if she's ever met a great spirit who could talk. Suddenly, she changes the subject and asks if there's something in that direction. Even without knowing what it is, Su Liyue decides to go take a look. Soon, she stops before a vast, misty mountain range. Unexpectedly, a large red frog appears in front of her. In a dark forest, one of the hooded figures announces they've found him, while the other orders them to lead the way quickly. Back at the Academy Plaza, the disciples watch in shock on a large screen as a participant is brutally defeated. At this, one of the spectators comments that Su Liyue attacked Fengku even after he surrendered, questioning how a cripple's disciple can be so strong. Moon Xuanzhu then asks Bai Luochen if he isn't afraid his disciple will attract the wrath of others, but he replies that only the weak care about what others think. He continues, stating that those with true power find confidence in their own strength. Faced with his response, the instructor just comments with a smile, "Is that so?" She then thinks to herself that he's the same savage from 10 years ago, the one who shook the heavens and subjugated the world. Awkwardly, Bai Luochen denies the accusation and says she must be imagining things. An ornate golden bell is shown in detail. Suddenly, the large screen in the Academy Plaza loses its signal, and the crowd wonders aloud what happened. One of the event organizers informs Elder Bing that they lost connection to the grandfather's eye due to a massive clash of spiritual energy. The elder asks how quickly it can be repaired, and the subordinate explains that it's impossible to fix from the outside. They'll need to send disciples in for internal repairs. Hearing this, an instructor gathers the disciples of the formation department to enter the portal, stating that there are still people who haven't given up. He then urges them to move faster, declaring it an emergency. Unexpectedly, a dark, armored figure emerges from the portal and warns them not to blame him for not playing nice anymore. Inside the secret realm, a lightning dragon is summoned and charges across the land. With that, one of the lightning bolts hits a barrier, causing a huge explosion. A small monitoring creature is seen sleeping peacefully on the forest floor. A woman then steps on the creature and crushes it, lamenting that the talented boy won't live to show his full potential. Faced with the scene, Su Liyue asks if the woman isn't afraid she'll report her to the sect. The two then tell her to eat it and kill herself, and the woman asks who she would report them to. Even surrounded, Su Liyue refuses to believe the law enforcement hall can do whatever it wants in the academy. One of the men advances with his sword drawn, questioning if she really thinks she'll get out of there alive. In the blink of an eye, Su Liyue is shocked to see his sword has cut her lightning bolt in half. The man then declares, "It's time to end this." As the two advance for the final attack, she realizes they are both stronger and that fighting will only delay the inevitable. With that, Su Liyue asks Little Dream for help, as she can't burn her cultivation again. The woman then releases a powerful aura, mixing fire and ice energies. Seeing this, the masked man shouts the technique's name, Shiling! With his sword in flames, he charges forward and yells, Slash! With a cry of pain, the masked man is hit head-on by the freezing energy. Then, a mysterious figure blows a gust of cold air toward the attack. Just then, Menglin appears in her giant form, and warns the enemies they are no match for her and should disappear if they want to live. The woman is astonished to see the creature has transformed into a human, and concludes that she is a spirit empress. At this, Menglin declares the girl is under her protection, and that they'd better disappear. The two then flee at high speed without looking back. Su Liyue asks why she transformed into something so big, and Menglin explains it was to intimidate them, as she didn't want to show her true form. The disciple then asks if it's okay to let them go, but the moth on her head replies that she's only protecting her because her master ordered it. Soon, she points in a direction and announces the treasures are that way, and Su Liyue agrees to go, though without much enthusiasm. In a memory from days ago, Bai Luotian's voice asks what Little Dream is doing. With her hands on Su Liyue's shoulders, Menglin replies that she's helping her cultivate, but the girl asks what kind of cultivation this is. She then explains that she's helping treat her wounds with the medicine the old monster they call Master gave her. As Su Liyue asks her to be gentler, Menglin warns that she is using her lightning key to repair her damaged meridians. With her hands on the disciple's stomach, she warns that the process might be a bit stimulating. Somewhere in the demon race's forest, a man tries to melt a large ice crystal with his energy. He warns the woman trapped inside Shiling that she'd better be okay, because he wouldn't know how to live if she died. Suddenly, the man senses a bloodlust coming from nearby. Soon, a voice declares that Luo Xiao and Shiling, disciples of the law enforcement hall, have deliberately murdered their peers, a crime that cannot go unpunished. Facing the masked man, an energy figure warns him that next time, before calling for people's deaths, he should remember to be prepared to die himself. A desert landscape is seen through an observation sphere. Thus, the grandfather's eye flies over the mountains, monitoring the entire area. In the distance, the shadowy figure of Bai Luochen warns that since they allowed the law enforcement hall to use such means, they shouldn't blame him for being merciless. He then raises his finger and utters words in an unknown tongue. A voice then echoes through the realm, giving a final warning and asking not to be forced to act. In a distant location, the Supreme Elder spits out a large amount of blood. In his seclusion cave, he is supported by two servants and assures them he's fine. With a bloodied face, the man wonders to what terrifying degree Bai Luotian's strength has recovered. Meanwhile, in the Demon Ruins cave, Menglin asks Su Liyue if she even knows where she's going. She then complains that she's tired of flying, and it would be better if they found what they're looking for soon so they could rest. Hearing Menglin's complaints, Su Liyue calls her weak and questions how she expects to get first place like that. With that, she points at the creature and says her chatter is annoying, questioning if they would be lost if it weren't for the treasure hunt. Menglin's eyes then flash with the intensity of lightning. Faced with the provocation, she creates an ice blade and asks if Su Liyue wants to fight. Su Liyue just watches in shock, not believing she's actually being attacked. She then braces for the imminent impact of the blow. Unexpectedly, a wall of crystals emerges from the ground, revealing poisonous larvae trapped inside. Menglin warns her not to underestimate demons, as even a demon king would suffer against them, and tells her to be grateful for her presence. With this, Su Liyue realizes that the larvae only live in dark environments with abundant spiritual qi. She then concludes that there must be a hidden treasure there, and uses her lightning to illuminate the cave. The energy explodes, shattering the ice crystals that blocked the path. The two now watch what has been revealed amidst the crackling lightning. Before them, a large ancient gate appears, and Su Liyue comments that the place looks familiar, feeling that her breakthrough is near. Menglin suggests they go back, as she has a bad feeling, but the disciple reassures her, saying there's nothing to fear with a demon king around. With the decision made, she uses her cold sky cut technique to open the gate. With that, Su Liyue's attack freezes the gate's entrance in an instant. Menglin boasts about her protection, but the disciple just tells her to look closer before saying anything. Seeing that the frozen gate remains intact, the creature is astonished and questions how that's possible. Embarrassed, she claims she was just kidding and will now show the true strength of a demon king. With a burst of power, she yells for the gate to open. Exhausted, she gasps and asks if her attack worked. With that, she notices there isn't a single scratch on the door. Frustrated, the creature hits the gate with her energy blade. She then complains about the usefulness of such a sturdy ruin, concluding that there must be something wrong with whoever built it. Su Liyue approaches in silence and observes a handprint on the door. Then she places her own hand, charged with lightning, over the mark. An electric energy courses through the entire surface of the gate. Unexpectedly, the door begins to open, and Menglin wonders why it's opening now. Su Liyue just watches, not believing how it's possible. Inside the chamber, a voice narrates the story of a little demon king named Xiao Meng. Menglin approaches a pedestal and comments that there's an inheritance left by an expert, while Su Liyue keeps finding the place familiar. With that, the creature gets excited, believing that this is the key to obtaining the inheritance. Suddenly, a memory flashes in Su Liyue's mind as she looks at the statue on the pedestal. A memory from her past life surfaces, and she recognizes the demonic aura of the place. Thus, she realizes this is the sealed place she herself created when she was still in the Mahayana stage. Unaware of anything, Menglin approaches the seal with a scythe, and Su Liyue yells for her not to touch it. The creature then turns to her in its monstrous form and questions what she said. In an instant, the large stone monolith that served as the seal begins to shatter completely. With the seal broken, the entire floating island starts to crumble and release a dark energy. One of the disciples is captured by black vines sprouting from the ground. Soon, the man is pulled into a forest of twisted vines and wonders what the hell this is. Back at the academy, a disciple reports to the elder that there's an anomaly in the secret realm and that all teleportation arrays have stopped working. Desperate, the elder fears that a demon emperor in the body unity stage has appeared. Outside, the crowd panics, questioning the presence of such a powerful demon on the premises and screaming that they're all doomed. The elder tries to stay calm and asks everyone not to panic. At that moment, the image of Headmaster Lee appears on the screen and asks the Deacon Hall what is happening inside the ruins. Director Lee questions how the appearance of a demon emperor is possible while being informed that the disciples cannot escape and the teleportation array is no longer available. With urgency, he orders that simple teleportation arrays be sent into the secret realm. Thus, several beams of light are fired toward the floating island, with the mission of saving all the disciples trapped inside. While two female disciples wonder what's happening, a portal opens and one of them recognizes her mentor. The instructor then appears to calm her disciple, who desperately points inside the portal. Amid the chaos, Bai Luochen approaches and asks the sisters if they've seen Liyue. Yun Roa simply replies that they haven't seen her anywhere. While watching the rescued disciples, Moon Xuanju concludes that, since they appeared alongside their instructors, this means that, with that, one of her disciples realizes that Su Liyue might be in trouble. From the top of a crystal structure, a malevolent voice echoes, commanding the miserable world to tremble before him. Then, Demon Emperor Dong Shu fully reveals himself and announces that he has returned. With an explosion of power, he declares that the world belongs to him. Menglin panics, thinking about fleeing, but knows she wouldn't be able to explain the situation to Bai Luochen. The Demon Emperor then notices them and questions the presence of an insignificant human there. Without any warning, he fires a small beam of energy toward them, commenting on the human's bad luck. Menglin is startled to see another attack coming her way. Facing the danger, she creates a barrier of ice, warning Su Liyue that the best help is to do nothing. The Emperor's form then dissolves into a mass of organic matter. In an instant, the creature completely reconstructs itself, reassembling before them. Dong Shu then questions her about the meaning of a creature of the same race daring to defy him. With that, Menglin begs for mercy, claiming that the human is merely a slave created by demons. Not knowing what to do, Su Liyue asks what the plan is, and Menglin instructs her to escape first, assuring her that she has her own means of escape. She then pushes the disciple away, shouting for her to get lost and not dirty His Majesty's eyes. In her thoughts, Menglin reveals that she needs to buy time for little Xiaomeng to be able to escape. The demon Emperor merely watches the scene in silence. With a calm voice, Dong Shu assures that no one will escape from there. Menglin confronts him, saying it's not polite to eavesdrop on a lady's private conversation. The Emperor scorns her, stating that they are all mere insects and that he can take their lives at any moment. In a quick flashback, Bai Luochen explains to Menglin about a powerful prohibition seal, while in the present, she challenges her master to say that to the monster. With that, a powerful energy strikes the creature directly. Suddenly, fleshy tentacles rapidly spread across the forest floor. In an instant, one of the disciples is impaled and lifted up by vines sprouting from the ground. Soon the man's body falls to the ground and is completely engulfed by the tendrils. The vines then merge with his body, forcing him to rise already transformed. Overtaken by a strange energy, the disciple screams in agony as the mutation progresses. With his face contorted by the transformation, he lets out a bestial roar. Meanwhile, one of the rescued participants watches the teleportation portal. Suddenly, Director Li and his guards arrive at the location and are shocked by the scene. The creature then leaps toward them in an attacking frenzy. Unexpectedly, a female warrior appears and cuts through the vines, shouting for the despicable being to die. Even with the help, one of the instructors comments that there seems to be no end to the vine's attack. With his eyes glowing, the director then summons a spirit sword formation. Thus, a great energy barrier materializes to protect everyone. He then instructs Jiang Hemming to lead the search for the disciples while he protects the portal, but the instructor suggests sending Instructor Bai back. Not understanding, the man asks why he should go back first. Jiang Hemming shouts that he will die if he goes in, since he is only at the rotating light stage, and that he won't be at ease if he lets him go. With that, Director Li advises young brother Bai to stay behind, since he has already sacrificed so much for the academy. Moon Xuanzhu then steps in, reminding them that Luochen is also an instructor, and that his only disciple is in danger, so he should be allowed to go. Faced with this argument, the director sighs and agrees to the request. He then warns them not to overexert themselves, while Bai Luochen takes the opportunity to see how much he has recovered. As they prepare to enter the portal, Jiang Hemming calls him ungrateful and says he will die with no one to collect his body. Another instructor assures he'll help if that happens, while Jiang Hemming simply tells Bai Luochen to wait. Suddenly, a massive beam of energy cuts through the skies of the secret realm. A floating mass of land pulsing with chaotic energy emerges on the horizon. With that, the Demon Emperor is struck directly by the explosion. Enraged, he screams and demands to know who dares to attack him by surprise. In the distance, the Emperor realizes that the seal has been broken and is meeting resistance. In the sky, a shadowy figure floats and begins the annihilation. A dark energy then starts sucking in everything around it like a black hole. The figure merely watches in silence as the energy vortex expands. In the distance, a huge explosion of energy lights up the top of a mountain. Among the ruins, Mi Meng's frozen body slowly begins to fall apart. From her mouth, a pulsing cocoon of energy begins to emerge. Unexpectedly, the ice statue's foot steps on and crushes the cocoon on the ground. The cocoon then rapidly expands, growing to a colossal size. From within it, Menglin's form emerges, wrapped in strands of light. The bands of energy then dissolve, revealing her back. With her body now free, she looks back, her eyes glowing. She then comments on the cruelty of the monster, but is thankful to have had the ice silkworm's shell that protected her life. Suddenly, a small version of herself appears and calls her by the name Little Xiaomeng. The small creature points in a direction, and Menglin asks if that's where she should go. Soon, she sees Bai Luochen's body flying unconscious through the forest and follows him. Upon landing, she comes across an unexpected scene. There, fallen on the ground, Su Liyue breathes softly, unconscious. Menglin then finds herself conflicted, thinking about ignoring her, but fearing that the demon sent on the girl might attract the demon emperor and cause her own death. With that, Menglin decides that, with the restrictions broken, she has no reason to stay, since she was only captured to be a pet. She then recalls how her food was restricted, with Su Liyue accusing her of eating Xiao Wu's carrot again. Next, she remembers that the place where she lived was run down, with the disciple sewing her a new blanket at night. Finally, she recalls when Su Liyue thanked her with a mulberry leaf cake, which made her feel treated like a mere insect. Irritated by the memories, she grabs the unconscious girl and carries her off, shouting that she'd better not die, since she needs someone to wash her clothes and cook for her. In the midst of a storm, a monstrous winged creature appears, tearing through the skies. Immediately after, the creature descends at high speed, surrounded by multiple bolts of lightning. With that, a powerful energy attack is fired toward the ground. The impact of the blow causes a huge explosion in the middle of the forest. At the crash site, a formless mass of flesh begins to writhe and take a new shape. Then, an imposing demon emperor rises from the wreckage. While observing a silhouette in the sky, the demon emperor questions how such power can exist in this realm and asks for its name. The mysterious figure just floats silently, manipulating energy talismans in its hand. Faced with silence, the demon emperor asks if it doesn't answer, because it considers him unworthy of knowing its name. At the same time, the other winged creature fires a beam of energy at the opponent. Hidden, Bai Luochen comments that something is fighting the demon emperor and suggests that Jiang Heming go and try to kill him. Jiang Heming refuses, stating that he can't even guarantee his own life, and then questions what Bai Luochen is doing with a talisman. With a smile, Bai Luochen replies that he can't allow that and tells Jiang Heming to stay quiet while he applies the seal. Soon after, Bai Luochen stretches and announces that he will now deal with that strange bird head. The demon emperor then reflects that his power is almost depleted, but the shadow doesn't weaken, and he wonders if he will be defeated again. The winged creature observes the pillar of energy and questions if that is the aura of its demon lord. With that, the demon emperor gives thanks for the granted power and orders his opponent to die. Bai Luochen's shadow announces that its time limit has been reached and it will now return to the main body. Seeing the figure dissipate, the demon emperor accuses him of trying to flee. Then he yells for the heretic to go to hell as he attacks with his energy. From a distance, the real Bai Luochen begins an incantation by uttering the word decree. A gigantic energy sword forms in the sky, causing a spectator to recognize the old monster's aura. The new attack collides directly with the power the demon emperor was firing. With the impact, the sword breaks through the defense and strikes the demon emperor's body. After having part of his armor shattered, he wonders if there is another expert on the battlefield. The draconic creature then demands that Bai Luochen and his shadow identify themselves. Soon, Bai Luochen reveals his identity and questions how his opponent fought his clone for so long without recognizing the main body. Pointing to a talisman, he simply gives the order for the spell to advance. The demon emperor despairs as he is trapped by an immortal talisman, screaming that it's impossible for someone in the sacred stage to use it. In response, Bai Luochen states that the unprecedented is not impossible, making the demon emperor demand to know who he really is. Bai Luochen claims his identity is irrelevant and demands to know when and where the demon encountered the Western demonic tribe, while the prisoner screams that his soul is burning. From afar, Menglin recognizes the demon sovereign's voice and worries the old monster will do the same to Yue, while the creature begs them to stop burning its soul. As the demon insists he knows nothing, Bai Luochen reassures him, saying he'll have plenty of time to think. Then, Menglin flies toward him and asks for Brother Luochen's help, warning that Miss Yue can't hold on any longer. Seeing his disciple's condition, Bai Luochen asks Little Dream how Yue ended up like this. Menglin begins to cry and apologizes, lamenting that she was useless and couldn't protect Miss Yue. With a furious look, Bai Luochen declares he has changed his mind and no longer wants to know about the connection with the demonic tribe because his disciple ended up this way because of that guy. The demon then warns that if they kill him, the demon lord will not let him escape. Suddenly, the demon emperor looks to the sky and exclaims, surprised by what he sees. Soon, the gate of the underworld materializes, and Bai Luochen decrees that not even the coming of the demon ancestor could save him. The sovereign refuses to accept his fate, screaming that he cannot die in this place. As he is dragged toward the gate, he begs for his demon lord to save him. The gate closes and transforms into a mountain, sealing the demon forever. With the situation resolved, Bai Luochen observes that the demon sovereign couldn't fight back against the old monster. Suddenly, Su Liyue begins to scream in pain. In a sudden movement, Su Liyue lunges to attack her master. Desperate, Menglin screams for her master upon seeing the scene. With possessed eyes, the disciple bites Bai Luochen's neck. Even while being attacked, he just holds her and tells her to drink. Then, Su Liyue begins to absorb the energy directly from him. Upon waking up, she asks in confusion if that is her master, who replies with a good morning and asks if she slept well. Su Liyue then apologizes for attacking him, but Bai Luochen reassures her, saying it wasn't her fault. Soon she is startled to see the demonic miasma on his body, but he calms her down, explaining it's just the demon's residual power. Then, Bai Luochen demonstrates that he can easily get rid of that energy. A system screen then informs that a strange power has been detected in the host's body, and the cleaning process will be initiated. Inside his consciousness, the demonic energy is contained by multiple error warnings. The remnant of the demon's soul then comments that the foolish human sacrificed his own life to save his disciple. Then, the soul promises that as long as that fragment exists, it will be able to rise again. The demon continues, stating that it will use his body to kill all his companions once it gains full control. Surrounded by more error alerts, the soul fragment wonders what this is. As the system announces the start of the cleaning process against the foreign body, the demonic soul desperately questions who its opponent is. Later that night, at the Bluebird Peak, the scene focuses on a new moment. With a serious expression, Su Liyue decides she has become too weak and needs to get stronger quickly. Remembering her master and Menglin, she tells herself that she doesn't want to be a burden and will do whatever it takes to gain power. Soon after, Menglin enters the room and comments that she has worked hard, asking if Su Liyu's eye is still not well. In an attempt to joke, Su Liyu covers one eye and announces that she is now a cyclops. Menglin immediately scolds her, saying it's not the time for that joke, which makes Su Liyue apologize. Once in bed, Menglin apologizes, taking the blame for what happened, while Su Liyue promises that she will ensure it doesn't happen again. Suddenly, a voice shouts Little Dream's name, ordering her to move away because she is too close. On a peaceful day, Bai Luochen chops firewood while Menglin carries it, and Su Liyue practices with her energy. Suddenly, Su Liyue sneezes, prompting her master to ask if she's caught a cold. With a smile, she replies that it's nothing, just a runny nose. Menglin then explains that Yue's condition might be her fault for using all her power, but she assures them the recovery will take 3 days at most. Bai Luochen decides not to wait and announces he'll take them to the Department of the Four Arts the next day, sending a message to senior sister Moon. He then mentions that the best hot springs in the region will cure the cold, which gets Menglin excited. The next day at the Department of the Four Arts, water flows from an ornamental fountain into the hot springs. As Su Liyue holds a tiny Menglin, she insists on seeing what her friend is hiding, but Menglin claims it's impossible to show since it's in her sea of consciousness. Su Liyue argues that the Empress risked her life to protect her and should share her treasures, making Menglin question if the demon essence their master gave her wasn't enough. Annoyed, Menglin shouts that it was her reward. Then, Su Liyue covers her with a towel. Using the towel as a ghost costume, Su Liyue jokes that she wants her reward, but Menglin retorts that the treasures were gifts from their master. Shortly after, the curtain at the entrance to the hot springs is opened. Moon Xuanzhu enters the bathhouse and walks toward the water. Finally, she reaches for her towel, which was at the edge of the pool. Su Liyue relaxes in the hot springs, commenting on how comfortable it is. Soon, one of the sisters asks Yue how the water is, and she replies that it's great and she can feel the cold leaving her body. Moon Xuanzhu then confirms that the hot springs of the Department of the Four Arts are the best in the entire Cloud region. Suddenly, Yunro emerges from the water with a giggle, leaving Su Liyue confused. As she teases her, Yunro splashes water on her and shouts for her to think fast. Then, Yunro announces it's time to run. Her older sister calls her a troublemaker and tells her to come back, but Yunro just challenges her to catch her. With that, Su Liyue notices the small blue creatures and asks what those things are. One of the demons then warns in its language that they can only take 1 sip each. Yunro's sister explains that those are demons called starlings, responsible for keeping the water clean, and the other agrees that the quality of the springs is thanks to them. As one of the starlings cheers excitedly, the other scolds it for shouting, warning that it'll blow their cover. Su Liyue wonders if they really clean the water, as she doesn't remember seeing them in her past life. At that moment, someone approaches and stops at the edge of the pool. An unknown woman then scoffs at her, saying that for someone who won the tournament, she's just a country bumpkin who's never seen the world. Annoyed, Su Liyue turns and asks directly if she's calling her a country bumpkin. Dipping her foot in the water, the woman sighs and calls them uncultured barbarians. With a smirk, she comments that, in the end, The disciple and her master are just alike. She then offers to show them the correct way to use the starlings and calls them over. The little demons then start fighting among themselves, yelling to get out of the way and that it's their turn. As the starlings clean her feet, the woman laughs and exclaims that it tickles. The other women advise Yue not to take her words seriously, explaining that she's just taking out her anger for not being able to defeat their master. With a malicious look, the woman reveals she saw instructor Bai entering Moon Xuanzhu's room with her own eyes. Shocked, Su Liyue demands to know what she just said. In a flashback, a breathless Bai Luochen asks his senior sister if this isn't a bit inappropriate. Moon Xuanzhu responds by questioning what's inappropriate and tells him not to act like he doesn't want to. He then admits that of course he wants to, but he hesitates to continue. The scene changes to Bai Luochen roasting food indoors, and when Moon Xuanzhu finds it odd, he retorts about her roasting chicken wings outside the trial zone. He argues that their situation is different, but she reminds him of how mischievous and ill-mannered he was when he was just a brat. In a brief memory, Bai Luochen uses a wind skill on her, admitting he was still immature back then. Back in the present, Bai Luochen assumes his senior sister must have another reason for calling him there. Moon Xuanzhu sighs and tells Bai Luochen he's become very boring. She then reveals that she wants him to take the disciples of the Department of the Four Arts to train in a secret realm in the Fanghu Mountains. Moon Xuanzhu explains that the location was recently discovered, and because of that, she needs someone to watch over it. Bai Luochen hesitates, arguing that he can't just leave his disciple behind, but Moon suggests he take her along, as it will be a good opportunity. After Moon Xuanzhu explains the mission's importance to the department, Bai Luochen finally agrees to help her. As soon as Moon celebrates the agreement, the door opens and Su Liyue announces she's done. With a smile, Moon Xuanzhu kisses him on the cheek and comments that he's still as cute as when he was a boy. Instantly, he feels his disciple pulling on his sleeve. Su Liyue then says her goodbyes and starts dragging her master out, while Moon reminds him of his promise. As soon as they leave, the other disciples congratulate their master. Back at Bluebird Peak, night falls over the mountains. In an isolated spot, a bonfire burns intensely amidst several talismans. In the center of the fire, Su Liyue floats, enveloped by a powerful aura. Her master then praises her for already learning the new technique, stating that at this rate, even Little Dream might lose to her. Soon, Bai Luochen warns her not to rush and to clear all malicious thoughts when using the Six Origins skill, as it's a technique he just created. With a confident smile, Su Liyue leans toward her master, who reacts with surprise. Bai Luochen calls her name, trying to understand what's happening. Then, with an intense gaze, Su Liyue proposes that they make a baby. As soon as Bai Luochen orders her to stop, Su Liyue asks if her master doesn't like her anymore. Then she sits on his lap and asks if she isn't as good as instructor Yue. Bai Luochen denies having that kind of relationship with senior sister Yue and asks what his disciple was thinking about during training. Ignoring the question, Su Liyue moves closer and asks if she's beautiful, and her master confirms that she is. Right after, he states that he still prefers her normal self. With that, he uses a technique to calm her mind, which reacts to his touch. Lying on the floor, Bai Luochen sighs in relief for stopping her, while Su Liyue murmurs that she wants 3 children and has already thought of their names. The next day, the scene shifts to the secret realm of the Fanghu Mountains. A camp has already been set up in the icy landscape. Bai Luochen then instructs the disciples that they will be sent to a random location and must not lose the protection talismans he gave them. He turns to Su Liyue and advises her not to be greedy, explaining that the first task is to reunite with the others. Remembering what she did, Su Liyue panics, unsure how to act around her master after losing control like that. Soon, she tries to compose herself and remembers that her true goal here is to become an immortal. Watching her from a distance, Bai Luochen just hopes his disciple's mental state is stable. Suddenly, one of the disciples shouts for her senior sister. A disciple runs in and warns her senior sister that someone is attacking outside. As the senior sister worriedly calls for their martial uncle, Bai Luochen calmly decides to take a look. Upon going outside, the disciple recognizes the newcomer and questions what Kang Mingxiu is doing there. With a superior air, Kang Mingxiu calls her ungrateful and asks if she's forgotten how she took care of her when she was younger. The disciple then accuses her of betraying the sect and the former vice instructor, stating that she has no right to say anything. With an irritated look, one of Kang Mingxiu's followers questions how she dares to speak in that tone. Right after, the woman decides she needs to teach her a lesson in her master's name. The attacker orders her not to resist and to kneel to be forgiven, while the disciple defends herself with a shield. The attack is blocked at the last second by an energy barrier. A mysterious voice then warns that if she uses the instrument so crudely, the weapon's spirit will cry. Surprised, the woman realizes she has lost control of her spiritual weapon. Bai Luochen now holding the flute, tells her not to waste her effort, as the weapon is now his. The senior sister is stunned to see the spiritual weapon betray its master as soon as it came into Martial Uncle Bai's possession. Furious, Kang Mingxiu finally recognizes him and yells that he is that woman's former lover, Bai Luochen. Unfazed, Bai Luochen simply starts playing the flute calmly. One of the disciples is surprised that Martial Uncle Bai knows how to play an instrument, while another comments that he plays better than the instructor. Su Liyue is also surprised, as she didn't know her master had musical knowledge. She soon concludes that since he was a childhood friend of instructor Yue, it was only natural for him to be good at it. Kang Mingxiu then summons a demonic eel and shouts for the trash to return the jade flute. The creature then charges forward, but the attack is blocked by Bai Luochen's energy barrier. With the defense, the woman is thrown back by the power of the melody. One of her subordinates runs towards her, shouting that he will catch Elder Kang. With that, the man catches her in his arms before she hits the ground. Bai Luochen warns that he will spare her this time because of the spiritual weapon and orders them all to disappear. He then promises to give the flute to the disciple and help her turn it into an imperial weapon, which makes her very happy. The other girls complain that Uncle Bai is biased, but he reassures them, saying they will have their chances too. With a smile, Bai Luochen turns to Su Liyue and advises her not to waste this opportunity. One of the disciples asks Su Liyue if something happened last night, but she just calls her nosy. Suddenly, immense energy explodes in the distance, coming from a mountain. One of the senior sisters then announces that the secret realm is open and orders everyone to get their gear and prepare to leave. One of the disciples tells Martial Uncle Bai they will go in first, and he reminds them not to reveal their location before the meeting point. Seeing his disciples worry, Bai Luochen reassures her, telling her not to be afraid because there won't be any accidents this time. Little Dream then appears and tells Brother Luochen that she is also there, reminding him of her presence. As Su Liyue says her goodbyes, Bai Luochen reflects that a normal person's memory would have been affected by the talisman, concluding that she is no ordinary girl. Outside, a large blue serpent watches the portal to the secret realm close. At the same time, one of Kang Mingxiu's followers uses an artifact to observe the area from a distance. After defeating an opponent, Kang Mingxiu is enraged that they took advantage of her, while her follower informs her that the group has entered the secret realm. With that, Kang Mingxiu orders them to enter as well, reminding everyone not to forget their mission. Elsewhere, a group of cultists performs a ritual, claiming that blood and flesh are weak and declaring their rebirth. Right after, Bai Luochen also crosses through the portal into the secret realm. As soon as he arrives, a system screen appears, announcing a sudden world quest to suppress the Soul Ancestor, leaving him confused about what it means. The scene is set in the secret realm of the Fanghu Mountains. Upon arrival, a huge explosion of green energy erupts among the rocks. A disciple approaches to investigate the source of the smoke. There, she finds a man being stomped on by an unknown figure. A pink-haired woman calls her Fierce Kitty while keeping the man pinned down. Surprised, the disciple wonders how her opponent isn't dead. With a smile, the woman in pink warns that she's going to teach her a good lesson as she summons her tentacles. At the same time, the flute in the disciple's hand begins to crack. Even with the damaged instrument, she starts her sword and song technique. Using the melody, she unleashes waves of energy against the advancing tentacles. However, the tentacles manage to pierce her defenses and strike her. Immediately, they begin to wrap around her body. She is then completely immobilized and lifted into the air. As the disciple's energy is drained, the woman in pink laments how such a fine weapon has become useless in her hands. With that, the tentacles tighten their grip on her body even more. As the pink-haired woman asks what other tricks the disciple has, the captive calls her shameless. In a last-ditch effort, the disciple calls out to her martial uncle for help. The woman in pink scoffs, asking if she's finally begging for help. With a furious glare, the opponent declares that the disciple must be punished. Then, the tentacles squeeze the disciple's body even tighter, making her scream. The pink-haired woman questions such a big reaction, warning her that the lesson is just beginning. Suddenly, a monstrous-looking fish appears on the scene. The fish lunges forward and bites the back of the pink-haired woman, catching her by surprise. The impact sends the woman to the ground, and the tentacles dissipate, freeing her prisoner. Soon after, Bai Luochen arrives and notes that the Blessed Palace set up an ambush, which is why they took so long. As he helps her up, he asks if she can walk. The disciple replies that her legs feel weak from having her power drained. He then asks about the others, and she informs him that she killed most of the enemies and the rest should be fine. Handing back what she dropped, Bai Luochen suggests they regroup with the others quickly. Suddenly, they both look up, startled by something they see. The disciple stumbles and grabs his arm, calling out for her martial uncle. Just as the disciple asks what that is, a strange blue creature appears before them. In an instant, the creature is paralyzed in midair by a burst of energy. Bai Luochen then closes his hand, capturing it in a single motion. The disciple identifies it as an anemic wasp, explaining that the Blessed Palace uses them to collect souls. With that, Bai Luochen crushes the creature and concludes they need to find the others as soon as possible. At the same time, the sky darkens and is split by multiple lightning strikes. Then, a powerful pillar of lightning violently strikes the ground. The energy's shockwave expands throughout the entire area. At the center of the impact, a silhouette stands amidst the lightning. The figure is revealed to be Su Liyue, who is surrounded by electrical energy. She then exhales a gust of pure energy. Suddenly, Su Liyue appears beside Menglin and startles her with a greeting. As Su Liyue scolds her for popping up out of nowhere, Menglin retorts that she's the one scaring away the demons with her lightning. Su Liyu then states that to reach her master, she's willing to pay whatever price the path of immortality demands. Menglin then questions why she's so determined to reach that monster, stating that the man is far beyond normal. Unable to answer, Su Liyue just looks away, embarrassed by the question. In a distant location, a mysterious man remarks that he didn't expect another harvest before releasing the soul ancestor. Back in the secret realm, Su Liyue and Menglin come face to face with a group of strangers blocking their path. The group's leader approaches and advises them to come with her peacefully so they won't have to suffer. In response, Menglin becomes enraged, questioning how they dare threaten them after all they've been through. The opponent then reveals she is more than a demon emperor and just didn't want to show her full strength. She then throws an object into the air, declaring that this is what she relies on to win. Immediately, a gigantic pillar of energy falls from the sky and crashes violently into the ground. Terrified, Menglin can't help but comment on the immense demonic power emanating from the site. Knocked to the ground by the impact, Su Liyue worriedly screams Xiaomeng's name. Menglin then turns to her and calls her Li Yue with a concerned expression. A powerful wave of energy rushes forward and spreads across the entire battlefield. The attack destroys everything in its path, carving a clearing in the forest. Wounded inside a crater, Menglin admits that bastard is someone she can't handle. With her last bit of strength, she begs them to quickly call that monster. Facing the pillar of energy, Su Liyue stares at the greenish aura emanating from it. Her eyes widen in fear at the high concentration of demonic energy. The opposing group's leader then thanks the Little Sixth Venerable for her help. Soon, the figure materializes and complains, wondering how many times she'll have to repeat herself. Then, Demon Master Chang Xiaoliu furiously demands that they call her Sixth Elder. In a dark cave, a strange organic substance clings to the rock walls. With a trickle of blood on her face, Su Liyue slowly begins to awaken. With a groan, she opens her eyes and flashes a defiant smile. Trapped and hanging upside down, Su Liyue wonders how she got here. Looking down, she is startled to see a group of people gathered for a mysterious ritual. The group's leader then raises her arms and announces that the time has come and the ritual must begin. Then, Su Liyue realizes that her other sisters from the Department of the Four Arts have also been captured. Seeing her peers in danger, she decides she must save them quickly and tries to break free with her lightning. A giant figure then warns her not to waste her efforts, as that super strong ice silk is its masterpiece. Shocked, Su Liyue asks Xiaomeng why she is trapping her and how she could betray both her and their master. With a wicked smile, Menglin denies the betrayal and declares she is now following the Sixth Elder. Su Liyue glares at her with a determined look, ready to fight back. Noticing that Menglin is also tied up, Su Liyue asks why she bound herself, and the other replies that she did it on purpose. Menglin then whispers that she has already used the location talisman and asks them to work together to buy time until their master arrives. Annoyed by the noise, the Sixth Elder threatens to kill them, causing Menglin to apologize immediately. With an annoyed look, the Sixth Elder turns and questions what's happening. The cult leader then asks the soul ancestor if the souls they've offered are still not enough. From a distance, a woman from the Blessed Palace scoffs, questioning if they really thought they could free the ancestor with so few souls. A follower tries to calm the entity, warning that there are still other souls that can be offered as a sacrifice. With that, the cult leader orders her followers to bring the women from the Department of the Four Arts. The followers then approach the captured disciples, ready to take them to be sacrificed. While Su Liyue demands to be released to protect her sisters, Menglin advises her to be calm and just watch first. Suddenly, a powerful bolt of lightning strikes the ground, separating the prisoners from the cultists. The electric attack then hits the followers head-on, sending them flying. Not understanding the source of the power, the cult leader questions what is happening. Menglin then reveals that this is her ability, the Demon Empress. The cult leader begs the sixth elder for help, who simply asks why she should help her. The sixth elder then reminds her that she already helped her defeat the Demon Empress, and that their deal was for just one cassia branch. Annoyed, the cult leader laments that the Blessed Palace only has 3 cassia branches, and it would be a waste to use a second one here. One of her followers then asks why Elder Kang seems so distressed. One of the advisors then declares that the people of the Blessed Palace also have souls for the sacrifice. Outraged by the suggestion, Kang Ming-shu questions what the soul advisor is doing. The other woman then orders Kang Ming-shu to put away her cassia branch, reminding her who she depended on for the palace's success. One of the followers then calls for silence, announcing that the Lord is returning. With that, the chains sealing the altar shatter amidst the flames. Then, a torrent of energy explodes from a pile of skulls at the center of the ritual. A skeletal hand emerges from the energy, and the creature comments that it's been 1,000 years since it last saw Yun Huang. Soon, the ground erupts in a massive explosion as the soul ancestor announces he is back. Terrified, Suliyue wonders if the creature being freed is the one that caused disasters for hundreds of years. The creature then rises to its full height, revealing itself as the earthly immortal and soul ancestor. Immediately, the disciples of the soul refining sect kneel and welcome their ancestor. Looking up, the soul ancestor senses a superior soul in this place. Then, the creature points its finger and commands the chosen one to come with it. The cult leader's soul begins to be extracted, and she desperately cries out to the little sixth venerable. Her cassia branch disintegrates in midair as she screams for help. The sixth elder ignores her follower's plea and attacks the soul ancestor, reminding him once again to call her by her proper name. Desperate, Kang Ming-shu uses a secret talisman, invoking the power of the blessed heaven. With this, she manages to escape and dives into an energy portal. Seeing the sixth elder preparing to flee, the Demon Empress suggests they run away too. Annoyed, Menglin questions why she took Su Liyue, reminding her of their one branch for one favor deal. As Suliyue orders her to let go, the sixth elder tells her to stop moving and come with her if she wants to live. Menglin tries to follow them, begging them to take her along. The soul ancestor then comments that Yun Huang has changed a lot over the 1,000 years. One of the followers explains that their sect was oppressed for years and begs for mercy, claiming the fugitive was just a puppet. In a rage, the soul ancestor curses the self-righteous people and prepares to attack. He then declares that he will devour these souls, so the world will know true fear once again. Desperate, Menglin wonders why he hasn't arrived yet, as she can't hold the barrier any longer. Suddenly, a powerful beam of golden energy violently strikes the cave. A large axe slams into the ground, and a voice complains about how hard it was to find them. From atop a rock, a mysterious silhouette observes the battlefield. The soul ancestor glares at the newcomer with a look of pure hatred. With a smirk, Bai Luochen asks what he's looking at, and if he's never seen a main character before. Under the bright sun, Bai Luochen stands at the edge of a cliff, watching the scene from above. Startled, one of the followers asks who the newcomer is. The soul ancestor then reflects that although the brat is in the revolving light stage, he can't see through his abilities. In an instant, Bai Luochen leaps from the cliff and lands on the battlefield. Surrounded by a fiery aura, he realizes the Blessed Palace was collecting souls to revive an old man like that. The soul ancestor then scoffs, questioning how insignificant insects have become so insolent after 1,000 years of his sealing. The creature then unleashes multiple tentacles of dark energy at its opponent. Unfazed, Bai Luochen reveals his 5-star divine talisman. From it, a gigantic golden dragon emerges and charges at the tentacles. Surprised, the soul ancestor wonders how a divine rune master could exist at this stage, and demands to know his opponent's name. With a defiant smile, Bai Luochen simply replies that he is his father. The soul ancestor screams in denial at the taunt. In a swift motion, the creature activates a banner formation that releases a black ooze all over the area. Soon, the banners begin to devour Bai Luochen's divine talismans. The soul ancestor then laughs, warning that there's nothing he can do inside its domain. Trapped by the ooze, Bai Luochen clicks his tongue in disapproval. The black substance closes in completely, submerging him in its swamp. With a serious look, he realizes that this soul swamp can also melt his talismans. His golden aura then protects him, creating a shield against the surrounding ooze. Then, Bai Luochen invokes the power of the divine talisman, Xuan Wu. The energy explodes from within the swamp, trying to break through the domain. Surprised, Bai Luochen wonders what is happening. Suddenly, his body is struck by multiple invisible attacks. The soul ancestor scoffs, stating that even a rune master with heavenly power can only wait to be slaughtered in its domain. With a sadistic smile, the creature challenges him to see how long he can last. The attacks continue, wounding Bai Luochen's body. With an annoyed look, He calls his opponent an old fly and asks the system to explain the domain. The system then reports that the domain can suppress all cultivators weaker than an earth immortal. After receiving the information, Bai Luchen concludes that the enemy has just sealed its own doom. Seeing the smile on his face, the soul ancestor asks if he's gone mad with fear. Suddenly, Bai Luchen attacks the ooze creatures with a series of swift strikes. He then charges forward, slicing through everything in his path with his golden aura. Shocked, the soul ancestor wonders how it could be wounded inside its own domain. Covered in wounds, the creature asks what Bai Luochen is holding. With a smirk, Bai Luochen replies that it's just the axe he uses to chop firewood. The ooze then tries to attack him, but is repelled by the weapon's aura. Bai Luochen then reveals that in the past, he only used this axe to save the heaven's face. With a single step, he closes in on the enemy. He then warns that today, the soul ancestor looks a lot like a piece of wood. The strike creates an energy cocoon that traps the creature. Trapped, one of the followers shouts for the demon empress to be smart and join them. Hearing the proposal, Menglin just wonders if that monster is finally coming out. Free from the domain, Bai Luochen emerges, holding the soul ancestor's decapitated head. One of the followers then screams that it's impossible and asks where the soul ancestor is. The creature's head falls to the ground and dissolves into a pool of blood. In an instant, Bai Luochen attacks and defeats the last remaining enemy. With the blade near her face, the woman screams in terror. Kneeling and bound, she begs them not to kill her, promising to do anything. Bai Luochen then orders that, since she's being so cooperative, she be taken back to the sect for questioning. With the situation handled, he turns to Menglin and asks where Li Yue is. Scared, Menglin tries to flee, but is quickly caught by Bai Luochen, who warns her not to even think about running. Then, one of the disciples approaches and hesitates to speak with Martial Uncle Bai. The girl then reveals that she used a mindfulness technique and discovered that Senior Sister Su was kidnapped and taken to the Blessed Palace. Surprised, Bai Luochen asks about the Blessed Palace. In a place known as the Blessed Residence, Su Liyue slowly awakens. With a determined gaze, she opens her eyes, ready for whatever comes next. The scene reveals she is bound by energy chains, sealed with talismans. Seeing her captor, Su Liyue stares with an expression of shock and recognition. A mysterious figure then greets her, saying it's been a long time. The entity then introduces himself as Celestial Kai Shu. In a secluded location, the great Liu Li Palace stands amidst the mountains. Inside the palace, a woman reminds Manman that they agreed not to force their immortal destiny. Manman then reveals she received an epiphany, a fortune bestowed by the heavens. Surprised, the other woman asks what kind of epiphany she had. With an intense gaze, Manman reveals that the way they had been cultivating was wrong all along. She then declares that the immortal realm is beyond the imagination of mortals. Manman then pierces her own body and shows her companion the 3 corpses. With her face covered in blood, she reveals they are the reason they cannot ascend to immortality. The scene cuts to a hand crushing 2 golden spheres of energy. Using a mystical technique, the woman accuses Kai Shu of suffering from a cultivation deviation. Fallen on the ground, Manman stares back at her with a confused look. Holding a blade near her face, she questions what the other one knows. Manman then screams for them not to dare stop her from ascending. The other woman attacks her, accusing her of being ungrateful after sharing such a wonderful discovery. With her hand glowing, the woman prepares to crush the 2nd sphere. With a look of ecstasy, Kai Shu announces that she is about to ascend to immortality. As the other woman tries to use a suppression technique, Kai Shu laughs and asks if she finally sees that it's working. With tears in her eyes, the woman observes the immortal key and calls out to Kai Shu. Suddenly, Kai Shu wonders why she isn't ascending, asking Manman what went wrong. In despair, she realizes that only 2 of the 3 spirits have been destroyed, and wonders where the 3rd one is. The woman then reveals that the 3rd spirit is with her. As the palace explodes, the woman desperately screams Man's name. Surrounded by a healing energy, the woman promises herself she will find a way to bring Kai Shu back to normal. With the last spirit in her hands, she concludes that there is still hope as long as she can protect it. In the sky, an eclipse begins to form, covering the sun. In the darkness, Kai Shu asks why Manman is hiding, reminding her of their agreement to become immortal together. With a furious look, Manman refuses to accept defeat. She then declares she won't let them stop her from ascending, even if she has to hide in the veins of the earth. The darkness then completely covers the sun. The shadow of the eclipse spreads across the entire landscape. Amidst a healing energy, the woman calls out Kai Shu's name. Soon, a vast surface of frozen water begins to crack. Then, a giant shell emerges from the turbulent waters. With this, the woman uses her mystical technique to summon an imaginary dragon. The summon then materializes an immense dragon made of crystal. Facing the creature, Kai Shu prepares for the confrontation. As soon as it forms, the dragon fires a powerful beam of energy. Kaishu then retaliates, accusing her opponent of overestimating herself. Meanwhile, the shell that emerged from the water floats away from the battle. Realizing the full power of the immortal weapon, the woman decides she must escape its reach. Kaishu then warns Manman that she can't hide, as she knows her like the back of her hand. With a crazed look, she vows to flatten mountains or dry up seas to find her. Next, Kaishu launches a shower of energy projectiles at the ground. The attack hits the mountains, devastating the entire landscape. With a victorious smile, she finally announces that she's found her target. In the darkness, the energy projectiles rain down violently on the green sphere of light. Surrounded by floating rocks, the woman holds her ground against the attack. With a shout, she activates her mystical technique and prepares to counterattack. Stomping on the ground, she releases a grid-like wave of energy. The woman then questions Kaishu, asking what she saw to make her lose her mind like that. Kaishu challenges her back, asking if she ever considered that she wasn't the one who lost her mind. With a determined look, the woman decides that if becoming immortal means going insane, she'd rather keep the last spirit. She then declares that she will ensure neither of them becomes immortal and initiates a heaven-reversing technique. Kaishu challenges her, telling her to see if her mystical techniques are stronger than her weapon. With that, multiple green energy dragons emerge from the ground and charge against Kaishu's attack. The two powers clash violently in midair, creating a massive explosion of light. The energy from the collision spreads across the entire battlefield. Inside a dimensional space, Manman declares that this time, the victory is hers. Defeated, Kaishu asks why Manman won't ascend with her, questioning if they weren't best friends. With a sad smile, Manman replies that it's precisely because they are best friends that she doesn't want to see her like that. With a determined look, Manman declares she will bring her back to normal, even if it's just a part of her. With her eyes bleeding, Kaishu can only call out Manman's name through her pain. Falling to the ground and fading away, the woman hears her friend apologize and beg her not to go. Alone in the destroyed landscape, Kaishu alternates between laughter and tears, lamenting that she killed Manman. Before Suliyue, a vision of her past life as Kaishu appears, desperate amidst an overwhelming energy. On her knees and shaken, Suliyue whispers to herself that it can't be true. With tears streaming down her face, she insists that such a scene is utterly impossible. The mysterious celestial Kaishu then asks if she has finally remembered, but Suliyue denies that person is her. She then stands up abruptly, demanding to know who he is and what his true intentions are. Unexpectedly, Manman appears beside the sixth ancestor and asks Kaishu to listen carefully. With a serious look, Manman advises her not to go down the wrong path once again. Suliyue finally recognizes her and, surprised, asks how she became a death immortal. At that moment, Celestial Kaishu notices a movement and remarks that they seem to have a visitor. With that, Manman orders the little sixth ancestor to meet the newcomer. Outside the main hall of the Blessed Palace, a huge explosion suddenly erupts. Amidst the debris, Bai Luochen emerges holding a body and demands they return his disciple at once. The palace mistress, Yi Kenzu, scolds her subordinates for being useless and unable to stop a single man. The woman then just shows a confident and enigmatic smile. Soon, one of the palace guards declares he'll have to eliminate anyone who gets in his way as he unleashes a curse. Facing the attack, the palace mistress screams for a shield to protect her from the curse. Immediately, Bai Lochen rushes toward her with his hand outstretched. Struck head-on, the woman begs for the little sixth ancestor to save her. With a violent impact, a huge wooden stake slams into the ground. From atop the stake, the sixth ancestor corrects Bai Luochen, demanding to be called by the title of Ancestor. As the palace mistress thanks her, the little ancestor warns that this is the last route and the last time she will help her. Bai Luochen then questions if a demonic ancestor from the transcendent realm is the support they're counting on. With disdain, the sixth ancestor states that she doesn't need to introduce herself and tells the intruder to go back where he came from. As rocks levitate around him, Bai Luochen tells her to watch her words, stating he only wants to know where his disciple is. The sixth ancestor taunts him, confirming he is her master, but refuses to give any information. Upon hearing the confirmation, Bai Luochen warns that he'll have to rip the answer out of her by force. With a swift move, his hand lunges toward the little ancestor. The palace mistress watches the scene and desperately screams the little sixth ancestor's name. Soon, Bai Luochen grabs her by her long ears, as she questions how someone at the accumulation stage managed to touch her. He then lifts her up and prepares to spank her. Desperate, the sixth ancestor asks what he plans to do and screams for him not to touch her. Bai Luochen simply activates his technique, Heavenly Power. The Golden Emperor beats the drum. With that, His hand fills with a brilliant energy. Soon, the little ancestor begins to receive a series of spankings. In a fury, she calls him a bastard and demands that he release her immediately. With a serious look, Bai Luochen simply warns that she'd better start talking. His hand glows once more, ready for the next strike. Then, the punishment resumes with even more slaps. The sixth ancestor then yells that she will kill him and tear him into 1,000 pieces. Unfazed, he asks if she's still not going to tell the truth. The punishment continues as he repeats the question relentlessly. Amidst an aura of energy, Bai Luochen demands to know where his disciple is, but the ancestor just insults him. He then warns that was the wrong answer and continues to beat her. The palace mistress watches the scene from a distance, completely in shock. Suddenly, a voice from the palace yells for him to stop, promising to tell everything. On the ground and crying, the sixth ancestor reveals she is friends with his disciple and was just paying off a debt. With his arms crossed, Bai Luochen asks if his disciple is okay and says she should have just said so from the start. As the sixth ancestor complains about the pain, he orders her to take him to his disciple right now. The palace mistress watches in shock, realizing his power is so insane that not even the ancestor was a match for him. With a smile, she claims this is even better, as the ancestor's sacrifice bought her time to activate her technique. Suddenly, the woman lunges forward amidst an aura of energy, catching Bai Luochen by surprise. Then, a huge magic circle appears, and a giant hand emerges from the ground through the ascension of blood and flesh. Bai Luochen questions the technique, saying he didn't hit her hard enough, while the sixth ancestor complains that the mental trauma was the most painful. Immediately, the giant hand grabs the little ancestor forcefully. In the blink of an eye, the same hand also manages to capture Bai Luochen. On top of the creature, the palace mistress lets out a loud laugh as she watches them trapped. With a crazed look, she then declares that flesh is weak and only ecstasy is eternal. With the palace mistress on its head, the giant red creature lets out a sinister laugh. Caught in the monster's hand, the sixth elder screams in fury. She demands to know how they dared to betray her, vowing to slice them to bits. The palace mistress tries to calm the creature, pleading with her lord not to be angry. She then reveals her long tongue, marked with a symbol, explaining that they are bound by flesh and blood. As the creature opens its massive mouth, the palace mistress asks, "Isn't it beautiful?" to Bai Luochen's despair. Inside the mouth, the sixth elder argues that rabbits are cute, and Bai Luochen scolds her for debating this now. However, Bai Luochen says with a smirk, "If I'm going to be eaten with you, that changes things." He then unleashes a blast of energy, sending her flying and declaring that it won't be that easy. Hurled through the air, the sixth elder summons her meteoric sand pestle for defense. The creature commands her to come closer, but her pestle gets lodged between crystals on the ground. The young ancestor is completely stunned by the command. Falling helplessly toward the crystals, she screams, wondering if this is how she'll die. At the last second, Bai Luochen snatches her by the ears again, saving her from the fall. He stomps down hard on the unstable surface, creating a safe foothold for them both. Inside an energy sphere, Bai Luochen tells her to be quiet, but the sixth elder retorts, "Why should I listen to you?" The giant creature simply regards the situation with curiosity. The palace mistress expresses her disbelief that he managed to break through her flesh and blood technique. Then, the creature's flesh rapidly begins to reassemble. The monster fully regenerates and screams, "That's the best you can do!" Bai Luochen observes the scene and remarks that the ability to regenerate limbs is a real pain. With that, he decides to fight, until she can no longer regenerate, and launches his 4-star sword talisman. The attack strikes the monster head-on, instantly shattering its body. Protected by a barrier, Bai Luochen comments that the amount of minced meat is disgusting. Suddenly, he senses something odd and turns his attention back to the pile of remains. Amid the creature's remains, the palace mistress re-emerges. "That really hurts," she says with a laugh. She then screams that such extreme pain is actually the world's greatest pleasure. Taking on a new form, she thanks them, as she can finally pass through the final gate to immortality. The woman then launches an attack, inviting them all to become flesh and blood and share in her ecstasy. The sixth elder cries out in surprise as the projectiles pierce through his energy barrier. As the young ancestor demands he do something, fleshy tentacles begin to engulf him completely. The sixth elder lets out a piercing scream as she is suddenly ensnared by the fleshy tentacles. As she's groped all over, she pleads with the tentacles not to touch her in certain places. Completely immobilized, the young ancestor despairs, realizing she can't use her aura. The villain in her new form laughs and advises her not to waste her energy. She then reveals that as long as their blood and flesh are touching, she can absorb another's aura. The woman then licks the sixth elder's face, vowing not to let go until she's completely drained. The elder screams for the pervert to get away. The villain declares the same will happen to the man. "Is that so?" Bai Luochen simply asks. "Then take all you want." Bai Luochen challenges, unleashing all of his energy at once. Completely shocked, the woman wonders how such a dominant aura can even exist in the world. The energy overloads her body. "It's too much power!" she screams. "I'm going to burst! If you wanted my aura so badly, you can have it all," Bai Luochen says, as the enemy's body explodes into pieces. Looking at the remains on the ground, Bai Luochen understands. "Is she really dead this time?" the sixth elder asks. He explains that she's using the flesh and blood formation to connect to an earth energy vein. The pieces of flesh reassemble, and a voice confirms his analysis is correct. The villain then reemerges, declaring she won't die until the Earth's energy vein runs dry. Cutting his own hand, Bai Luochen states that this seems to be the only way. He then scatters his blood, offering it as a sacrifice for his next technique. With this, a massive golden entity manifests, towering over the enemy's fleshy form. The entity's hand descends, striking the creature with overwhelming force. The woman screams in despair as she is engulfed by a blast of golden energy. "It's useless! You can't kill me!" she screams, even while sealed. "A seal is enough," Bai Luochen replies. He immediately materializes the handle of his axe in his hand. The woman taunts him. "What can you do with a broken axe?" In response, Bai Luochen unleashes a massive slash of energy toward her. The powerful strike cuts across the entire battlefield, splitting a mountain in half. Deep underground, the strike severs the earth energy vein that was fueling the villain. Completely in shock, she wonders how the vein could have been severed at the same time. Terrified, the woman wonders, "Who in the hell is this man?" With a gesture, Bai Luochen orders her to shrink at once. The villain pleads for him to stop as her body is compressed by blades of energy. With a final motion, Bai Luochen completes his technique, kicking up a large cloud of dust. The woman, now powerless, struggles to form a sentence, still in shock. She then questions how she could have turned into some kind of undead action doll. As the woman struggles and demands to be released, Bai Luochen simply orders her to stop fighting. He then explains he sealed her with the Earth's vein, turning her into a mere aura-filled puppet. Next, the young man turns to the rabbit-eared girl and asks if she is Little Sixth. Without waiting for an answer, he says he'll give her a gift and throws the prisoner, now a small sphere of light. The elder observes the small flaming figure in her hands, not understanding what it is. Trapped inside the flame, the woman becomes enraged and curses the seal containing her. Surprised by the energy emanating from the item, the young woman wonders if this isn't too ridiculous. Soon, she describes feeling her whole body being enveloped by a spiritual power she had never experienced before. Seeing her on her knees, exhausted, the young man approaches to ask if she's all right. Still trembling, the young woman asks, "What's with that puppet that it possesses so much spiritual energy?" The other explains that the prisoner's body is linked to the Earth's vein, allowing anyone who touches her to absorb the area's energy. With that, he reveals his plan to turn the woman into cultivation material for his disciple, leaving her in her care for now. Facing the elder's smile, the small puppet asks apprehensively what she plans to do. The prisoner screams desperately in denial. Then, the woman screams in pure despair as she is completely engulfed by tongues. As the woman begs them to stop licking her, a sudden noise in a dark cave makes a blue-skinned woman wonder what's happening. As the cave collapses, the other woman wonders if someone is breaking in. In a distant vision, a woman advises Liu not to stray from the path in this life and to listen to her advice. Back in the present, the blue-skinned woman gets irritated, wanting to know what Little Sixth is doing to cause such a ruckus. Right after, she warns that she will discipline the girl as soon as she returns. At that moment, a giant foot descends from the hole in the ceiling and lands right in front of them. The image reveals Bai Luochen, who asks if she was the one who kidnapped his disciple, while Elder Sixth remains busy with the puppet. Beside the woman, Su Liwei recognizes her master's arrival. The other woman then addresses the newcomer, asking if he is Liwei's master in this life, and the young man confirms. With that, she says he should also advise the girl to give up immortal cultivation, as it's a sham that will lead her down the wrong path again. Unfazed, the master questions what the problem would be if his disciple followed the wrong path once more. He continues, explaining that good and evil are just definitions given by the world, and whether immortal cultivation is a sham depends on one's own definition. The young man concludes his thought, saying that one's universe comes from within their heart. Facing Su Liwei, the master finishes, stating that what he taught her was to cultivate from the heart. Still unconvinced, the blue-skinned woman asks what would happen if Liwei succumbed to a chi deviation cultivation again. Next, she argues that she doesn't understand the bond they've built, but the master assures her that as long as he's around, his disciple can cultivate whatever she wants. Challenging her, the young man repeats her question, wanting to know what gives him the right to say that. With a firm gaze, he declares that the right comes from the fact that he is the girl's master. The other woman is visibly surprised by the energy that accompanies his declaration. Suddenly, an invisible force hits her, and she wonders what it is. Transported to an unknown place, the woman asks where she is, and the other explains this is his divine consciousness space, similar to a domain. He then asks if she still has any doubts, but the woman questions him about his power level, to which he replies not to focus on details. Seeing the enormous petrified bodies, she asks what those corpses are, and the master reveals they are the wood he's been chopping for years. After explaining that all the bodies there are of beings at least at the Mahayana stage, he asks if she can now entrust Liyue to him. The young man then says he will give her some time to think. Back in the cave, the woman finally understands why Liyue trusts that master so much. While Bai Luochen advises Su Liyue to listen to him carefully, she promises to work hard on her cultivation, as the other woman reflects on his terrifying strength. Changing the subject, he turns to the small figure and asks if Elder Kang is one of hers. Hiding in the shadows, a woman is startled to realize she's been discovered. With a burst of light, the young man asks if the woman thought he wouldn't find her just because she used a sacred weapon to hide. The other, an Earth immortal, wonders how he found her, since not even she could detect the weapon. As she's being bound by an energy, Kang Mingxiu yells at Bai Luochen for invading their territory and threatens him with her sex ascension formation. Unimpressed, he refuses Elder Sixth's offer to touch the so-called formation. Chang Mingxiu, in disbelief, can't believe that not even the flesh and blood formation was able to stop him. With a confident smile, she challenges him, asking if he thinks he can handle a true Earth immortal. Seeing the jade pendant about to be crushed, Manman shouts that they can't let her break it. Immediately after, chains break, and a dark energy explodes from the blue-skinned woman's body. Elder Sixth panics, screaming that her boss is about to lose control. She explains that the jade pendant is what controls the chains on her master's body. With the chains gone, all of her restraints disappear as well. Then, her teeth grow and turn into sharp fangs. Facing the transformation, the girl shouts that Manman's consciousness will be devoured, but Bai Luochen calms her down, telling her not to panic. Meanwhile, the creature's face contorts in pain. Still captured, Kang Mingxiu laughs maniacally and orders everyone to die. Enraged, the creature unleashes waves of dark energy at everyone. To defend himself, Bai Luochen summons a 4-star divine talisman to cleanse the area. Seeing this, the sixth elder despairs, recalling it took 3 cultivators to seal her master last time. Seizing the opportunity, Kang Mingxiu yells that no one is leaving this place alive. Annoyed by the interruption, he calls her noisy. The next moment, the woman is shocked to find herself magically gagged. He then hands a talisman to his disciple, while the elder wonders why she was also gagged. Ignoring the others, the creature advances with a soul-stabbing technique. Its attack causes multiple energy spikes to erupt from the ground. The 2 energies clash violently in the center of the cavern. In the midst of combat, the master finds it interesting that a corpse's husk can also create a seal. With the talisman embedded in her chest, the woman challenges him, asking if that's all he's got. Unfazed, he replies that in the end, a corpse is just a corpse, and touches her claw. The creature screams in pain at his touch. A massive energy explosion erupts, causing Su Liyue and the elder to scream in concern. After the explosion, the blue-skinned woman seems to slowly recover. Suddenly, she's surprised to see Bai Luochen falling face-first onto her chest. While she confusedly stammers his name, he simply orders her not to move. Embarrassed, the woman explains that her body has become a zombie's, so he shouldn't be doing that. Ignoring her plea, he simply remarks that this is how things are. He then pulls away and, as green energy flows from his mouth, says he now understands everything. Seeing her master back to normal, the elder celebrates, while he explains what really happened. The blue-skinned woman then understands he had no strange intentions, but had discovered a problem with her body. He confirms it was an accident, but explains that her body can't stay this way, and he needs to fix it as soon as possible. The master continues, saying it will be a complicated process, and that due to a lack of resources, she'll have to return to the sect with him. At this proposal, the woman seems to hesitate with her answer. Without pressuring her, Bai Luochen says they can talk again after she's had time to think it over. Next, he turns to Kang Mingxiu and says he'll deal with her first. Desperate, the woman begs for her life, saying she was blinded by the Blessed Palace and calls him senior brother, which surprises him. With a gesture, he says he'll spare her life, since they're from the same sect. Still confused by the situation, Kang Mingxiu asks Bai Luochen what he is doing. Then, she screams in pain as a golden energy completely destroys her cultivation. With a talisman in hand, the master banishes her, telling her to get lost, and that from this day on, the academy has nothing to do with her. The sixth elder immediately objects to the decision, but Manman tells her to do as she pleases. The blue-skinned woman tries to calm the girl, who doesn't understand how her master, an earth immortal, could want to follow someone of such a low level. Ignoring the argument, he turns to Manman and asks if she has thought about their offer to go with them. Seeing her friend's hesitation, Suliyue smiles and invites her so they can go together. Hearing the invitation, the woman kneels before him and asks what he meant by cadaverous immortal. With determination, Chang Manman asks the master to accept her as his disciple. With a smile, he replies that she can just follow him to the sect, without needing to become his disciple. At that moment, a system window appears, congratulating the host for activating the final piece of a world quest. The screen details an urgent mission with a severe penalty, making him complain that the system is deliberately making things difficult. Under the light of a red moon, the night deepens in the forest. Exhausted, Kang Mingshu wonders why she's still trapped in the same forest after so many hours. Filled with hatred, she vows revenge on Bai Luochen for crippling her cultivation, but her fury is cut short when someone calls out to her. Hearing the voice, she demands to know who's there, but is met only by a sinister laugh from the shadows. Soon, a man with a disfigured face emerges from the darkness and invites her for a chat, leaving her stunned when she recognizes him. Suspicious, the woman realizes something is wrong, as she knows that given Bai Luochen's personality, he would have never let that man escape. She then demands to know who he really is, causing the man's face to contort as he mutters nonsense. Then, his face deforms grotesquely, and he declares that all appearances are reality. Revealing a demonic face, the creature asks why it couldn't be Yang Cheng. He then asks if she really believes she ended up in this forest of her own free will. Suddenly, a scream of pure terror echoes through the forest under the red moon, startling all the birds in the area. Back at Qinglan Peak, a portal opens in the sky, bringing with it a huge, ornate coffin. The object lands heavily on the ground, kicking up dust and cracking the earth around it. Facing the scene, Bai Luochen remarks it's a good thing they got the coffin, as it would have been hard to control the immortal's exploding body. Without wasting time, the master orders them to quickly take Manman to his room. Even with difficulty, the sixth elder struggles to carry the unconscious woman across the courtyard. However, upon reaching the door, Menglin appears and tells the girl to just wait outside. The refusal reminds Little Dream of the time the other girl offered her grass, not knowing it was a prank that would get her in trouble. Turning around, she's startled to come face to face with the girl, who comments on the coincidence of them meeting again. With a furious glare, the sixth elder says she's angry and blames her for making her suffer all night, forcing the other to apologize. The argument is cut short when the bedroom door slams shut in front of them. Inside, a sphere of energy begins to absorb all the power around it. With that, Bai Luochen directs the energy into Manman's body, who floats unconscious in the center of the room. Watching the scene, Su Liyue decides it's time to open the coffin's seal. As soon as the coffin opens, a green energy fills the room. As the energy dissipates, the sphere of light in the center begins to crack. Floating, Manman tells the master she feels the trees can no longer contain the corpse's energy. At this, Bai Luochen warns they must act before it's too late and orders the two of them to take off their clothes. The blue-skinned woman reacts with confusion and embarrassment at the sudden order. Beside her, Su Liyue is also startled, questioning if he really means their clothes. As he turns around, the young man insists they hurry, while the other girl thinks his thoughts are a bit inappropriate for the moment. Already topless, he asks how they can perform the procedure if they don't undress, while the two worry about their lack of experience. Still blushing, Manman says she understands and will do as he asks, as long as the master doesn't mind. Seeing her friend start to undress, the girl reacts with surprise. A faint smile forms on Su Liyue's face. With a blushing face, she also agrees to follow his orders. Next, a female foot steps on the clothes already on the floor. The master is completely paralyzed by the scene before him. Not understanding his reaction, his disciple, now naked, calls out to him. Outraged, Bai Luochen shouts, asking why they took everything off, and says they should have at least left their underwear on, leaving the two shocked. He then orders them to get dressed quickly, and the girls immediately agree. With his hand on his face, the young man mutters that enhancing spiritual energy transmission through skin contact is common sense. Then, he questions what exactly they were thinking and if he really seems like that type of person to them. Completely embarrassed, Su Liyue apologizes to the master for having such impure thoughts. Changing the subject, he warns that a corpse immortal's explosion is no joke, and that he will teach them the method, asking them to listen carefully. As she prepares, the disciple asks Manman to be careful, but the other assures her she's fine and ready for whatever comes. With that, the master explains that to suppress and control the corpse's energy, his supreme yang energy is needed. He continues, saying that injecting the energy directly would cause an explosion, so the two powers must first be harmonized in Liu's body. During the process, the girl asks her master not to go so hard. The young man encourages her, explaining that this is a great opportunity for her cultivation, and the young woman agrees, panting. Soon, the disciple feels the master's spiritual energy entering, and says it's so much power it feels like it's about to overflow. Next, he instructs her to switch places and transfer the energy to Manman. He then warns that the feeling of being controlled by the energy isn't pleasant, and asks Liu to stabilize the other's body. As she approaches, Su Liue tells Manman not to worry. With a smile, the disciple comments that her master's skills are very good, and the other agrees. Next, Manman is told to prepare herself because he is about to enter. Suddenly, the scene changes to a giant glowing carrot. Outside, Menglin offers the vegetable to the sixth elder, while another girl calls her an evil bug. In disbelief, the young woman wonders how a carrot of such perfect quality could exist in this world. Right after, she is impressed by the amount of spiritual energy emanating from the food. Curious, the girl decides to try a piece. After the first bite, she is shocked by what she has just tasted. With open arms, the young woman throws herself back, declaring that it is truly delicious. However, she soon realizes that out of carelessness, she ate the whole thing. With that, the elder turns to the other girl and declares that from now on she is second in command and must give her a carrot whenever she asks. The other girl then taunts her, saying that she, who seems strong, is actually weak, and asks who she is and if she's also going to steal her vegetable. With an evil smile, the girl simply replies that she understands. Then, a hand offers the young woman a chance at an immortal destiny in exchange for her carrot, since it possesses a lot of spiritual energy. The same voice then expresses curiosity about how powerful the girl could become if she reached the Demon King's realm. With a sigh, Su Liu slowly opens her eyes. Upon waking, she's surprised to see Manman by her side, who says she's finally awake. Excited, the young woman tells the master that Manman is back to normal, but he, exhausted, explains it was just her meridians and that he needs to rest. He then reflects on how guiding energy for an earth immortal consumes a lot of power, leaving his own spiritual energy nearly depleted. The other woman also acknowledges that it was very difficult for Liu to consume such a large amount of energy. Then, Manman says she doesn't know how to repay such a great favor, as it's the first time in thousands of years anyone has reshaped her meridians. The master instructs her to use the corpse's energy to nourish her spiritual consciousness, explaining that perhaps she can rebuild her form and return to life. Suddenly, a wave of green energy from outside hits him, taking him by surprise. The woman recognizes that energy as the birth of a demon king, and the young man asks them both to rest while he goes to check on what happened. The scene shifts to the night sky, showing the full moon. In the distance, a pillar of green energy rises from one of the mountain peaks. At the scene, Menglin and the other girl watch the source of the energy. The pillar of light completely envelops the bunny-eared girl, dissolving her clothes in the process. In her place, a new figure appears with long black hair, bunny ears, and dark skin. Chang Xiaoliu declares that the young woman is now hers, and guarantees that as long as she uses her name, no demon will dare bother her. The other complains that her breasts are a bit heavy and uncomfortable, saying she wishes she were like the elder. Hearing this, Menglin can't hold back her laughter, which leaves the sixth elder completely embarrassed. Annoyed, the elder says it seems she'll have to teach Menglin to respect her elders, but the other replies that she's not treating her like a young girl. Angrily, the bunny-eared girl yells that she told her to respect her elders. Then she fires a beam of energy that hits the spirit empress head-on. In pain, Little Dream wonders if this is the fury of the have-nots. The taunt enrages the elder even more. With that, the girl grabs the other's breasts, saying she'll help her remove that weight, while the empress screams that she's just jealous. Suddenly, the sixth elder is thrown back forcefully. Bai Luochen appears and asks if she's already trying to rebel again, but the young woman retorts that he can do whatever he wants, but she can't. The master explains he was just helping repair Manman's meridians, but the girl sarcastically tells him to pretend he wasn't taking advantage. In the middle of the argument, Menglin runs towards Bai Luochen to ask for help. Seeing the new girl running towards her, the empress yells that the two are ganging up on her, but the young man just warns her not to throw herself at him. Without hesitation, the dark-skinned young woman lands a powerful punch on the other's face. With her fist stopped in the air, the young woman lands the punch on Bai Luochen, who absorbs it without moving. With disdain, she declares that she won't let him steal her radish. While patting the girl's head, the master praises her agility, but reminds her that even as a demon king, she must respect her elders. He then orders Chang Xiaoliu to take Menglin home and Wu Zia to accompany him to the courtyard. But the fallen elder on the ground demands to be called Sixth Chief. Alone, the young man reflects that the birth of a demon king is a major event. He concludes this must have alarmed many people, as several beams of light cross the night sky towards the academy. The image shows the entrance to one of the academy's courtyards at night. Soon, the beams of light land on the ground, revealing a group of instructors. With a compass in hand, Shi Hongshang confirms that this is where the object is pointing. Instructor Ni Shu, however, warns that it's inappropriate to invade Qingluan Peak without proper permission. Yan Shangqing agrees with him, suggesting they should at least ask the Grand Elders first. The head instructor reminds them that Director Li is helping Bai Luochen and that their responsibility is the academy's safety. Far away, Jiang Heming is furious with the situation, complaining that he now has to patrol late to clean up Bai Luochen's mess. Beside him, Moon Xuanzu just clicks her tongue, annoyed by the comments. Back in the courtyard, one of the instructors questions why the other clicked her tongue, while the group leader says the academy's safety is the priority. To end the discussion, Shi Hongshang informs everyone that he will take the lead. Without hesitation, the head instructor breaks down the courtyard door with a single punch. However, upon entering, they find only Bai Luochen in the middle of the empty courtyard. With a smile, Moon Xuanzu approaches and greets him, calling him Junior Brother Bai. The young man then addresses the newcomers and asks what brings the instructors from every department to his peak. Outraged, the red-haired man demands to know what Bai Luochen is doing there and where the Demon King is. With a mocking smile, the other replies that as a talisman instructor, he would naturally be in the talisman department. Then, he turns and calls for Wu Zai, asking the Demon King to come forward. The mere mention of the name leaves the head instructor utterly terrified. Soon, Bai Luochen explains that the horse he raised has just advanced a level, and that the Demon King they're looking for must be her. Nishu finds the situation amusing, commenting that raising a Demon King is a first for the academy. Yan Shangqing congratulates the talisman department for being the first to achieve such a feat. Suddenly, Jiang Heming interferes and orders the horse to be handed over to the monster control department for custody. Moon Xuanzhu immediately questions the instructor's intentions, reminding him that the horse belongs to Bai Luochen. With an air of superiority, he justifies that an uncontrolled demon is too dangerous and that he is acting for the good of the sect. With a laugh, Shi Hongshang agrees with the instructor and orders Bai Luochen to hand over the demon horse, but the other challenges him to think about what would happen if he didn't. With a menacing smile, the red-haired man just repeats the question, asking if he really won't hand her over. Immediately after, he unleashes his spiritual power and warns that this isn't a decision for the young man to make. With a defiant look, the head instructor says he'll consider him capable if he can stop him. Unintimidated, Bai Luochen replies that it's not necessary, as he only wants to test his demon's strength and invites him to a competition between beasts. Enraged, the other man demands he repeat what he just said to an instructor from the demon taming department. Calmly, the young man restates his proposal for them to use their beasts in a match. Soon, Shi Hongshang accepts the challenge with a laugh, declaring that if he wins, the horse will be his. With a wave of his hand, the head instructor orders his power to be unleashed. Next, he summons his creature, calling out the name Ao Di. The released energy rapidly expands into a dark and threatening form. Slowly, the form solidifies, revealing the contours of a winged creature. Before everyone, the demon Ao Di reveals himself in his complete peak Demon King form. With an air of superiority, the summoned creature scoffs at the situation. Seeing the scene, Jiang Heming asks why Instructor Yue seems so anxious about a simple match. Worried, the woman warns him that if anything goes wrong, the director won't let them go unpunished. The other reassures her, saying that Instructor Yu knows his limits and that a fight between demon kings isn't something you see every day. Taking a step forward, he announces that the showdown is about to begin. As the winged demon advances, the young woman with rabbit ears faces him with a determined expression. With a swift move, the creature attacks with a straight punch, which is promptly blocked by the girl. Still, the head instructor boasts that his demon, trained to be invincible, has far superior speed and strength. With a confident smile, Bai Luochen remarks that his demon, Wu Zhui, belongs to the same category. With her eyes glowing a new color, the young woman prepares her counterattack. The energy she releases repels the winged demon, who is thrown back by the impact. Behind the girl, a spiritual projection of her battle form manifests. Surprised, Jiang Heming recognizes it as the personification of spiritual energy and is amazed by the horse's potential. Angered by the turnaround, Shi Hongshang yells for Ao Di to stop waiting and return the favor. In response, a red spiritual projection also appears behind the creature. Soon, the two spiritual projections clash in a swift and brutal exchange of punches. Watching from a distance, one of the instructors asks if they're just going to trade punches, but the other explains it's a test of strength, speed, and endurance. As smoke rises from an incense burner, The battle rages on. As the incense burns, Jiang Hemming watches the fight intently. Seeing the smoke clear, the instructor declares that the winner has been decided. He notes that Aodi's movements are getting slower, and that he won't last much longer. With a final blow, Wu Zhui's projection completely shatters the opponent's blood double. The punch lands squarely on the winged demon's groin, leaving him vulnerable. Next, the purple projection unleashes a barrage of blows all over the opponent's body. After the attack, the rabbit-eared girl scoffs at her opponent's strength, calling him weak. With his demon's defeat, the spiritual projection fades, and the creature's body disintegrates. Furious, Shi Hongshang screams in disbelief that the demon king he worked so hard to capture is dead. Unconcerned, Bai Luochen congratulates his demon on a job well done and asks if the other man is still going to try and extort him. Angrily, the head instructor summons a red chain, ready to attack. However, a giant bell falls from the sky, stopping the fight and making everyone back away. With a hand seal, Yan Shangqing scolds the other, saying that fighting between instructors is against the rules and that he clearly can't accept his defeat. Shi Hongshang defends himself, stating that matches shouldn't be taken to extremes and that he needs an explanation, but the other accuses him of being a sore loser. Moon Xuanzhu suggests he report to the director and let the old man decide, but instructor Nishu warns that the director is already on his way back. Annoyed, Shi Hongshang gives up the fight, saying they're all the same. As he turns to leave, the head instructor warns that he won't forget what happened, but Bai Luochen just orders him to fix his door before going back. With that, the young man turns to the other three and thanks them for speaking up for justice. He then explains that he wouldn't dare take the initiative, but he couldn't stand seeing his family being bullied. With a smile, Nishu teases his colleague, saying that junior brother Bai has become a good man, but she denies it has anything to do with her. Seeing the scene, Yan Shangqing announces that since there are no more problems, he and the other instructor will leave first. As he walks away, Nishu wishes the two of them happiness, and his colleague complains that his elixirs are going to get cold. Still laughing, the master remarks that instructor Ni really loves to joke around. Beside him, the rabbit-eared girl says she's sleepy, and the young man congratulates her on her hard work and tells her to find a room to sleep in. With everyone leaving, instructor Yue also says goodbye, telling him to get some rest. However, as soon as the two are alone, she grabs him by the collar. With a smile, the woman asks if he still remembers the deal they made, but the young man pretends not to know what she's talking about. Without waiting for an answer, the master then asks her not to tease him and wonders if she came here for another reason. The instructor agrees to stop teasing and says what she wanted to tell him is something else. While lamenting that he didn't get closer, the woman pulls a red invitation from her robes. She then explains that it's an invitation to the celebration party for the Department of the Four Arts. With the invitation in hand, the young man asks if it's possible for him not to attend the event. Before getting an answer, he realizes the instructor has already left and wonders where she went. Faced with this, he concludes that not going isn't an option. Suddenly, Su Liyue hugs him from behind, startling him and making him ask why she left her room. The disciple explains she feels her advancement has hit a bottleneck and asks him to help with her chi flow again. Awkwardly, the master replies that he has no extra spiritual energy to help her right now. Hearing his refusal, the girl's eyes fill with tears and she starts to cry. Ignoring his excuse, the disciple drags him inside, insisting that the master help her, while he complains that he really has no chi left. The next day, at the Department of the Four Arts, the place is decorated with lanterns for a grand celebration. At the entrance, one of the disciples greets the guests arriving for the event. As they watch the commotion, a man questions the reason for so much fuss over a simple trip to a secret realm, but his friend explains it's because the department managed to monopolize all the resources. With a malicious smirk, the other one suggests the female instructors must have sold their bodies for the favor, and his colleague agrees, laughing that it makes sense. Annoyed by the conversation, Yun Ruo slams her hand on the table and demands to know if they're done talking. The young woman then defends her master, saying she was kind to invite them, and calls them ungrateful dogs who only know how to bark. Outraged, one of the young men stands up and questions how a woman from the Department of the Four Arts dares to raise her voice at him, declaring they are from the Sword Arts Department. Unintimidated, the girl retorts that their department is nothing but trash and that they obviously belong to the Department of Bastards. Enraged by the humiliation, the two men threaten her, saying she's dead for insulting their department. With an aura of energy surrounding her, Yunro declares that if she doesn't teach them a lesson, they won't understand the consequences of their actions. At that moment, a voice orders everyone to stop immediately. As the two disciples are restrained by an energy, Moon Xuanzhu appears and reminds them that the academy forbids personal duels, but the other girl insists they insulted her master. The two young men just stare at each other in silence after the reprimand. Right after, they start protesting, shouting that the resources shouldn't be monopolized by the Department of the Four Arts, as it would be a waste. With a laugh, the instructor comments that the disciples are just like their master. With energy forming into fists, the instructor asks if their words were ordered by Jiang Heming. She then declares they must be punished for disrespecting their elders and attacks them with her energy. At this moment, He Xiangsheng intervenes, agreeing that they deserve a lesson, but that he has a suggestion. The senior brother from the beast taming department proposes giving 90% of the resources to the academy to then allocate them to the departments in need. Outraged, Yunro retorts that everyone knows the resource allocation always favors the sword arts and beast taming departments. With a mocking smile, the other one repeats her question. He then declares that the reason is that the world values strength, and all they know how to do is play useless instruments. Angrily, a voice questions who said instruments are useless. Suddenly, the young man feels a strange force on his neck and wonders what kind of sorcery that is. Soon, all the disciples from the sword arts department are affected by the same power, left gasping for air. At that moment, Bai Luochen arrives and apologizes for being late, introducing his companion as Ziling. The woman's arrival shocks everyone, who wonder if that is really Ziling. The newcomer explains that her previous appearance was just a skin painting technique and that this is her original form. Surprised, Moon Xuanju asks how she got out, since she was supposed to be trapped in a spirit prison. The master then reveals he was the one who freed her, as she has already been questioned and won't cause any more trouble, offering her as an assistant to the other instructor. With a smile, Moon Xuanzu says that it's not a big deal, and that the most important thing for now is to let them go first. She reflects that if they really die there, it won't be good for her. The musician agrees and, with a touch of her instrument, undoes the spell. With that, the young man falls to the ground, gasping and foaming at the mouth. Bai Luochen scolds Ziling, telling her to go easier next time, while the woman apologizes repeatedly. Beside them, Yunro laments that the young man is still breathing and hasn't died. Next, a disciple carries the fainted men away in a wheelbarrow. Soon a young man informs the instructor that he was the last of them and that the spirit stones can be collected outside. Moon Xuanju comments that the two departments are the main faces of the academy, which explains their confidence. But Bai Luochen says that Instructor Zhang's gift was unexpected. Suddenly, two beams of blue light fly past overhead. Upon catching one, the young man is surprised to see it's a messenger paper crane from the director. The messenger then reveals a flaming message, informing them that there's trouble at the mountain entrance and that all instructors must go there immediately. At the academy entrance, two furious voices shout for Yue Xuanzhu and Li Guangqi to come out immediately. From one of the rooftops, an instructor demands to know who dares to cause trouble on academy grounds. The elder of the Zhu Mountain sect introduces himself and says they've come for an explanation, questioning why only the academy's disciples are safe. Beside him, the sect leader, Master Dingshu, says they certainly don't want to pay with their lives, but they can't refuse the supply of resources. With a malicious smile, the sect leader reflects that, more importantly, Yue Xuanzhu won't be able to refuse him this time. Meanwhile, Jiang Heming tries to calm the crowd, saying the Department of Four Arts is solely responsible and that it has nothing to do with the academy. However, the protesters retort that the department is one of the main six, and therefore the academy is also responsible. With that, Jiang Heming kneels before the leaders and, while complaining they spat on him, defends the academy by saying that fatalities are inevitable. Losing his patience, the instructor says that since they don't believe him, they should go straight to the Department of Four Arts to settle the matter. With a smile, Master Dingshu agrees to do as the instructor said, and the other man questions if he'll really let them in. Facing the situation, Jiang Heming reflects that with Bai Luochen in the department, he wants to see how the young man will handle the experts on their way. Meanwhile, in the department's courtyard, one of the female disciples screams for help as her clothes are torn. Other disciples are also attacked, and one of the invaders declares that the Department of Four Arts is finished. With disdain, the sect leader comments that this place is truly where the academy raises fairies, and that he'll take 2 more slaves with him, but the other man warns him not to touch the teacher. With that, one of the men grabs a female disciple and demands she surrender, saying they owe it to them. Suddenly, a green flying object is launched at high speed. The weapon strikes the aggressor's shoulder dead on, and he screams in pain from the impact. Confused, the injured man calls for his master as green smoke begins to rise from his body. He then falls to his knees, groaning in pain from the attack's effect. Seeing this, the sect leader identifies it as corpse poison and orders everyone to get back, while the fallen man begs them to save him. At that moment, Bai Luochen appears and says he didn't expect them to come on their own. With a powerful aura, the master declares that this is academy territory and not a place for them to act as they please. Outraged, the sect elder accuses him of killing people who just wanted to talk. Angrily, the sect leader says he now understands why she rejected his proposals so many times. Then, he points at the young man and asks if Xuanzhu chose him over him. With a smile, Bai Luochen asks if he's supposed to be a suitor. The instructor then explains that he is the patriarch of the Jushan sect and that they met during a competition. She continues, saying that after that, he kept coming to the academy. The woman reveals that in the last 3 years, he has proposed to her over 200 times, as an image shows him making another proposal. With a laugh, the young man concludes that he's nothing but a flatterer and is impressed by his perseverance. Enraged by the insult, the sect leader repeats the word with disdain. With a hateful glare, he says that's all in the past and calls out for Yue Xuanzhu. He then declares that he regrets proposing to her and that now he won't leave the entire Department of 4 Arts in peace. Hugging the instructor, Bai Luochen apologizes, saying the senior sister has very high standards, which is why she doesn't like him. As the elder tries to calm the sect leader down, he warns him that if they don't calm down, they won't be able to ask for the resources. With a smile, the young man realizes they really did come here for the resources. The other man then declares that since the department has resources, they can be considered payment for the deaths, but Bai Luochen shouldn't think of stepping on the smaller families. Outraged, the instructor retorts that everyone knows her department isn't good at fighting, and that the ones who killed their disciples was the Blessed Palace. Angrily, the elder accuses her of making excuses, saying the Blessed Palace has already been destroyed. Surprised by the news, the woman wonders if she can't just say she's the one responsible. At this, Bai Luochen proposes a noble fight to resolve the stalemate, in case they think he's intimidating them with his power. The sect leader then asks how they will do it, and the elder accuses him of not being a gentleman. The young man explains that each side will send 5 disciples for an arena battle, but they can participate personally if they're afraid of losing. While the elder worries about the other's talented female disciple, the sect leader assures him that he has his own ways of dealing with the situation. With a challenging look, he warns that if they win, he'll have one more request besides the department's resources. With a smile, Bai Luochen says he has no problem with any condition he wants to set. With a look of pure hatred, the sect leader yells that he wants to castrate the young man himself. While the instructor vehemently refuses the proposal, the master agrees calmly. Then, the woman declares that if they want to kill junior brother Bai, they'll have to kill her first. But he corrects her, saying no one talked about killing him. Believing the two want to live and die together, the sect leader accepts the deal, calling them a couple. With that, the young man says that to make things fair, if he wins the bet. With a sinister smile, he concludes that he'll want the heads from their necks. In the public square of the Department of 4 Arts, a huge explosion marks the start of a battle. In the very first round, Tang Dudu from the Department of 4 Arts concedes defeat to Yu Chu from the Bamboo Mountain sect. In the stands, the crowd roars in support, cheering for their senior brother to show those academy dogs who's boss. The sect leader taunts instructor Bai, suggesting he admit defeat, but the young man ignores him and calls Yunro for the next fight. Annoyed at being ignored, the man threatens him, saying that not even the dean can save him when he loses. Just then, the master greets the newcomers, while the other instructor explains the dean is held up, but the other instructors will arrive shortly. Excited, Yunruo offers to fight first, so her master can talk with Uncle Master Bai. Upon seeing the instructor, the sect leader calls her by name, visibly charmed. Unfazed, the woman simply asks if he wants something. The man then says she knows her disciples are no match, and gives her a chance to back down. The instructor replies that she doesn't regret her choices, and doesn't believe her disciples will lose. Ignoring the tension, Bai Luochen offers food to the two of them, enraging the sect leader, who screams his name. Suddenly, blades of green energy slice through the air at high speed. The blades rip through Yunro's clothes, and her opponent suggests the little girl surrender now. Annoyed, the young woman realizes he attacked her clothes on purpose and calls him a pervert. With a confident smirk, the young man boasts that his sword is a spiritual weapon, and that a difference in grade can't be overcome with cultivation. Unimpressed, Yunro says it's just a spiritual weapon, and that she'll start fighting for real too. With her flute, the young woman launches an energy attack that surprises her opponent. The green energy envelops the young man's sword, turning it into a serpent that turns against him. Desperate, the young man screams for his precious sword as he watches it shatter into pieces. Still playing, the girl says they are simply unreasonable. She then unleashes a sonic blast that sends her opponent flying, making him scream in pain. In the stands, the crowd is stunned to recognize the flute as an emperor-level equipment. Defeated, the young man laments his sword, unable to believe a disciple from the Department of 4 Arts could have such equipment. The sect leader is also enraged by the rarity of the equipment, but Bai Luochen taunts him, asking if there's any reason to be so surprised. With a smile, he offers to give him one just like it, as long as the other man barks like a dog for him. While the elder advises him not to stoop to his level, the sect leader becomes furious. The older man then says that no matter how strong the equipment is, someone with her cultivation can never use its full power, he continues, revealing that his sect has a disciple who specializes in fighting female cultivators. Soon, a brown smoke with a disgusting smell begins to spread across the arena. In the stands, everyone complains about the repugnant smell, while one of them announces the fighter has arrived. From the smoke, a giant and imposing figure emerges in the battle arena. Pinching her nose, Yunro complains that the smell is revolting. In the center of the arena, the man introduces himself as Li Haisheng, a disciple of the Mount He sect. With an air of superiority, he offers his guidance. The young woman scoffs at his cultivation level, but also wonders why he smells so bad. From outside the arena, Bai Lochin calls out to her and asks her to let her senior sister handle this opponent. Outraged, Yunro questions the decision, saying she can still fight. Just then, a woman's foot in an elegant shoe steps onto the edge of the arena. Seeing her sister, the young woman falls silent and accepts the instruction to get dressed and obey her uncle master. As the smoke dissipates, the man says it doesn't matter who fights him. In response, Yunxi, a disciple of the Department of Four Arts, introduces herself and also seeks guidance. Without waiting, the man lunges forward and attacks her with a direct blow. The girl counterattacks with a sound wave, wondering what kind of technique he teaches his disciples. With that, the man's attack transforms into a swirling vortex of filth that rushes toward her. In the stands, everyone screams to run as the horrible smell spreads and makes them vomit. As the smoke spreads, Jiang Hemming complains about what Instructor Bai has caused, but Su Liyue greets the instructors. In response, Instructor Ni offers her a scented pouch to help get rid of the bad smell. With a serious expression, he explains that the odor is caused by a torturous cultivation technique that ordinary cultivators cannot withstand. In the center of the arena, the man prepares to attack, shrouded in the energy of the so-called Tao of Filth. Pinching his nose, the sect leader asks what the Tao of Filth is. The elder explains the technique requires constant immersion in a cesspool, which is why no one has succeeded in centuries, and he's surprised that the leader guided his disciple down such a path. The two agree that, although unpleasant, what matters is winning. With a disgusted look, Bai Lochin wonders if giving him a bath would directly undermine all his efforts. When asked, Senior Brother Ni states that while there might be some strength, it won't be much, as the Tao of Filth can still hold its own against others of the same realm. Beside him, Yunro worries about her sister's impending defeat and complains that her conscience feels tainted just from confronting him. Amidst the water attack, the man questions if she thinks she can get rid of his body's stench with that. He continues, saying it's impossible to wash off the smell completely after 15 years in a cesspool, and begins to spin at high speed. As he spins, he sprays dirty water everywhere, causing everyone to curse him for being so inconsiderate and not splashing the spectators. Then, projectiles of filth are shot at high speed towards everyone. The sect leaders shout for their disciple to stop immediately and control himself. Seeing the situation, Instructor Bai suggests they admit defeat, as Yunxi is in a tough spot. With that, the master calls for his disciple and tells her it's now her turn to fight. Watching the scene, Jiang Hemming scoffs, saying that women are useless, and it's no wonder they say the people from their department are actors, not cultivators. However, a pair of golden eyes opens, watching the battle intently. While taunting, Jiang Hemming says he can send someone from his department to help her, as long as she kneels and begs. Suddenly, a twig hits his mouth, making him choke. Disgusted, the instructor grimaces and starts to vomit. As he vomits a rainbow, the master questions him about his unstable chi control. Enraged, the young man curses at him and prepares to attack. However, he is stopped by his martial uncle, who asks if he's trying to pick a fight with him. Indignant, the young man asks if it wouldn't be reasonable to fight the one who put him through that, but the other just tells him to consider himself unlucky. The argument is interrupted by a loud bang. The elder is surprised by what he sees in the arena, questioning how that could be possible. As the dust settles, Su Liyue comments that the Tao of Filth isn't about fighting, and it's revealed that Li Haisheng was defeated in a single move. The sect leader says an unorthodox cultivator shouldn't be on that stage, but the elder corrects him, saying he hasn't lost yet. The other simply advises him to accept reality. Then, he points to the arena, showing how charred the opponent has become. However, the master realizes something is wrong, and that he used the lightning to temper his body. Worried, Shi Hongshang says they must stop him at all costs, as the academy's position in the Southern Kingdom will be in danger if they don't. With an aura of energy, Su Liyue orders for the opponent to be taken down quickly. Annoyed by the lack of action, Shi Hongshang shouts, asking if she's deaf. He is then surprised to realize what the young woman is doing in front of the enemy. Still standing there, the head instructor questions if she is cultivating in the middle of a battle. Outraged, he yells at Bai Luochen, asking how he taught his disciple to be so stupid. Angrily, the red-haired man says it's impossible to argue with him. The elder tries to calm everyone down, saying not to panic, as it's just an immaculate body. With an evil look, he says that when he returns, he'll make all his disciples cultivate the Tao of filth, and then it will be the academy's turn to panic. The head instructor scoffs at the technique, asking if they think they can't cultivate it too. While the instructor worries about the opponent's level, the master reassures her, saying Liu wouldn't do this if she wasn't confident of victory. With a smile, he reflects that compared to the immaculate body. The young man concludes that his disciple is far more monstrous, as her eyes glow with immense power. With a loud laugh, the man releases his energy, making the arena floor tremble. He then declares himself invincible, and that the Tao of filth is eternal. Next, the fighter says that on this day he will make privileged people like her understand. With determination, he finishes that he, Li Haisheng, is stronger than all of them. Before everyone, Li Haisheng shows off his imposing physique. Watching the scene, Su Liyue remains silent, showing no reaction. With an aura of energy surrounding him, the young man then asks with a smile if his opponent is scared. In response, the girl casts a spell that rushes directly at him. At this, Li Haisheng screams in despair, not understanding why his immaculate body is incomplete. From a distance, one of the instructors comments with relief that the young man failed, stating that his Tao of filth is no big deal. Jiang Hemming arrogantly agrees, saying that trash doesn't deserve such power, and that arts like music are just as useless. Outraged, one of the female disciples scolds him, asking if that's the proper way to address an instructor. An attack is then launched in his direction, but he deflects it with a swift move. The girl who confronted him warns that, out of respect for senior brother Chen, she'll let the insult slide just this once. Then, her companion warns him that if he says one more word, she herself will use her right to enforce the sex rules. Just then, Shi Hongshan grabs him from behind and tells him to stop arguing with women and pay attention to the match. With a smile, the head instructor comments that the competitor in the arena seems to have completely lost his mind. Engulfed in an aura of energy, Li Haisheng yells that he refuses to lose, as his desire is to become an immortal. Seeing this, Su Liyue warns him to stop immediately, because if he keeps this up, he'll lose control of his power. Ignoring the warning, Li Haisheng charges forward uncontrollably, yelling for her to go to hell. In response, Su Liyue unleashes her spiritual ability, a powerful energy attack called Moonlight Thunder Slash. The blow hits its opponent head-on, kicking up a cloud of dust and debris on impact. Fallen to the ground and shrouded in energy, the young man refuses to accept defeat and says he will try one more time. As soon as the fight ends, his master runs to him, and he calls out in a weak voice. The young man tries to get up, saying he can still fight, but the other cuts him off, ordering that it's enough. With a bloodied face, he desperately pleads for one more chance, promising he will cultivate again and succeed. With a stern look, the master asks if his disciple truly thinks strengthening the body is an easy task. Then, the man kicks him away and yells for him to get out of his sight. Aimlessly, the young man wanders off into the forest, wondering why this happened. On his knees, he questions why he's treated this way, since all he did wrong was want to cultivate his power. With his face covered in blood, the young man laments how unfair the world seems to be. Right after, he spits dark blood onto the ground, feeling the weight of defeat. Finally, his body gives out, and he collapses right there, in the middle of the forest. While unconscious, a mysterious voice asks if he desires revenge, and the young man can only ask who's speaking. Suddenly, a 3-star celestial talisman activates, enveloping the young man's body in an aura of energy. As he gets up, he realizes in shock that all his injuries have completely vanished. With that, Bai Luochen explains he can give him a new, strengthened body, but it will depend solely on his desire for revenge. Even without understanding, Li Haisheng asks him why he's receiving this help. The instructor replies that it's because they are alike, as he also knows what it's like to be used and then discarded by others. The young man says that's impossible, since everyone knows Bai Luochen is a heavenly genius, but the other just tells him to believe what he wants. Then, the master turns to leave and warns that if he doesn't desire revenge, he should just pretend they never met. Alone, the young man reflects that, whether he could trust him or not, this was the only path left for him to follow. With his decision made, he kneels on the ground and calls out for Instructor Bai. Before the man, Li Haisheng asks with all sincerity for him to accept being his guide. With a smile, the instructor comments that he isn't bad and that it seems worthwhile to teach him. Eagerly, the young man asks when they can start, but Bai Luochen tells him not to rush and to take off his pants first. In complete despair, Li Haisheng screams and asks if the instructor has no interest in women. Not understanding the reaction, Bai Luochen asks what the problem is and simply tells him to take them off. With a flushed face, the young man says it's his first time and asks the other to be gentle with him. Perplexed by the situation, the instructor stays silent for a moment. Then, he kicks him in annoyance, shouting that he was just asking to check his body and asks if his mind is full of nonsense. The master reinforces that he only wanted to examine him and threatens that if he overthinks it again, he'll castrate him himself. After a brief look between the young man's legs, Bai Luochen finally says he understands the situation. With that, he informs him that he knows what to do and lets him get dressed again. The instructor warns him the process might get painful, but Li Haisheng shouts that the spiritual powers are entering him, making Bai Luochen threaten to kill him if he says that again. Meanwhile, in the arena of the Four Arts Department, Su Liyue prepares to face her new opponent. The opponent, from the initial stage of the Zhushan sect's core formation, confidently says that not even nascent soul masters can withstand her formation and tells the girl to surrender. Shrouded in energy, the young woman calls them shameless for putting such a high-level cultivator against her. With a provocative smile, the other replies that she'll do anything to win. Then, the woman summons her 9 Palaces death formation. Faced with the scene, Su Liyue gets into position to face the powerful technique. In the stands, one of the instructors notes that the formation is complete and that martial disciple Su might lose, while Jiang Heming suggests Bai Luochen already knew and ran away. With a smirk, Jiang Heming remarks that if they lose the battle, he's willing to give up his resources because otherwise, the other might not even be able to keep his own life. Beside him, Moon Xuanzhu determinedly states she won't let him get involved, even if it means submitting to Qingju. From a distance, a voice asks senior sister Yue not to say such desolate words. At that moment, Bai Luochen suddenly appears and declares that as long as Su Liyue doesn't surrender, no one can know what will happen. Hearing this, Yan Shangqing expresses his concern, explaining that the formation is extremely dangerous and Marshal Ni Su couldn't possibly handle it. With a confident smile, Bai Luochen replies that perhaps his disciple didn't learn about formations from a young age, but when it comes to dealing with them, he fears that no one in the world knows more than she does. Surrounded by energy, Su Liyue admits her opponent is strong and praises her for controlling the formation so smoothly. In response, the opponent concentrates all her power into a single devastating attack. However, to the other's surprise, the young woman remains unscathed and simply laments what a pity it was. The opponent can't believe the 9 Palaces death formation caused her no damage at all. With that, Su Liyue begins to manipulate the energy of the formation around her. While redirecting the attack back at her opponent, she reveals that she has fought the creator of that technique many times before. Desperate, the woman yells that the formation came from the earthly immortal domain 1,000 years ago and demands to know how she could possibly know its creator. Without answering, the girl challenges her with a smile, asking what other formations she has and why not use them all at once. In desperation, the opponent shouts for the souls to heed her command. With that, she summons 1,000 souls that rise into a giant energy vortex in the arena. From afar, Nishu recognizes the technique as the 1,000 Lost Souls formation, belonging to the soul-devouring sect. Outraged, Shi Hongsheng approaches the leader of the Zhu Mountain sect and demands to know what's going on. Right after, Moon Xuanzhu accuses him of working with heretics and asks how he could do such a thing to his ancestor's name. Master Dingshu replies that the matter belongs to his own sect and accuses the group of just being afraid to lose and wanting to back down. Worried, the instructor tells Brother Bai that the battle must end so they can save Li Yue, but he just says the show is only beginning. Completely shocked, she asks what he means by that. Watching the scene, the rival sect leader wonders why the other is so calm, while his elder laughs and says the girl is done for. In the arena, the opponent says it doesn't matter how good the young woman is at breaking formations. With a cruel smile, the woman then asks if she has ever experienced this type of cultivation before. As a demonic creature materializes, the opponent reveals this is her last trump card, since the girl couldn't even handle the previous formation. With her eyes glowing with energy, she orders her opponent's soul to be shattered. While everyone watches in shock, Bai Luochen remains completely relaxed and uninterested. The creature's dark attack pierces through Su Liu's body in an instant. With that, the girl falls to the ground, apparently lifeless and covered in blood. Everyone in the arena wonders in shock if Su Liyue had really died. Celebrating, Shi Hongshang and Jiang Heming victoriously shout that the betting prizes are now theirs. However, Zi Ling appears in the arena and accuses them of breaking the competition's rules by killing a participant. Immediately, Moon Xuanzhu tries to charge onto the battlefield, but is stopped by Bai Luochen. He holds her back and tells her to calm down, saying it's not time to act yet, even as she insists her disciple is already dead. With a calm look, the instructor simply tells her not to worry, as the competition isn't over yet. Back in the arena, the opponent scoffs at the fallen body, saying that after all that talk, she expected the girl to have some power. With contempt, the woman calls her a mere sheep in wolf's clothing. Suddenly, a cocoon of bright energy forms where the body was, putting the opponent on alert. Shortly after, Su Liyue emerges from within it completely transformed, to her opponent's astonishment. The woman is speechless, as she was certain the girl's head was right there on the ground. Before everyone's eyes, the decapitated body on the ground dissolves into pure blue energy. Shocked, the opponent asks how she can use demonic powers, but the young woman corrects her, explaining that it's ghost power. Terrified, the opponent says that woman is horrifying and decides to stop the fight, declaring that she gives up. Before she can finish speaking, Su Liyue hits her with a high-speed energy blast. Next, the girl destroys the wall next to the other woman and asks what she was saying. Lying on the ground, bloodied and defeated, the woman can only murmur that she surrenders. Suddenly, Su Liyue starts drooling strangely, as if she were hungry. Remembering what happened, she recalls Menglin giving her the husk of his frozen silkworm to save her life at the right moment. The young woman then grumbles that, although that was great, it was absolutely disgusting. Still confused, she tries to understand what exactly she had eaten. With a grimace, the girl complains that it tasted like Little Dream. From afar, the rival sex leader shouts in shock, not understanding how that was possible. Master Dingshu accuses the academy of cheating, questioning how she could overcome a golden core cultivator. Desperate, he says they are all sects from the Southern Kingdom and asks if they really want everyone to die, but the elder beside him denies any involvement. At that moment, Bai Lushen appears before them and asks if the master prefers to do the honors or if he should handle the matter himself. With no choice, the man yells that they forced him to do it. With that, he unleashes a dark energy and summons the 5 soul blood-drinking parasites. Feeling the energy, Shi Hongshang recognizes the scent and realizes the man has been hiding his powers, while Jiang Heming adds that there are traces of a spiritual ability from the spectral realm in his methods. Amidst the dark energy, Master Dingshu transforms into a demonic creature, and Nishu comments that the man had been hiding his true ability all along. With a scream, the creature charges forward and yells for Bai Lochen to die, but the young man just says he came at the right time. In that instant, Moon Xuanzhu shoves him away from the attack and yells for Brother Bai to be careful. The creature's blow strikes the ground with full force, causing an explosion of rocks and dust. Lying amidst the debris, the instructor sighs in relief and thanks the heavens. With his face pressed against her chest, Bai Luochen comments that she didn't need to hold him so tightly. Standing amidst the dust, the transformed master watches the two of them as the young man complains he can't breathe. Completely enraged, the man calls them bastards and yells that he's going to kill them all. Suddenly, he notices a small bottle on the ground and wonders when it got there. Without him noticing, Bai Lochen appears in front of him and hits him with a direct punch to the face. The blow unleashes a huge explosion of poisonous energy that completely consumes the master's body. Watching the scene, all the other instructors are completely shocked and speechless. As the master falls defeated, Bai Lochen comments on how pathetic it was that their master was beaten with a single punch. Desperate, the man kneels and begs instructor Bai to forgive him, stating he understands his mistake and is willing to pay any price. Ignoring the plea, Bai Luochen says there are others who want his head more than he does and tells him to disappear, which makes Moon Xuanzhu wonder how there are 2 brother Bays. In response, the other young man offers to give her the puppet, since the instructor seems to like it so much. As she gets closer to examine it, the woman touches the puppet's face and realizes it's made of earth, falling silent. From afar, Jiang Heming asks in shock if that guy just killed a peak cultivator with a single punch, and Shi Hongshang confirms that he did. At this, Nishu questions if his ability is already far beyond that level, and the head instructor agrees it probably is. While the others comment on the strength of the blow, Shi Hongsheng quickly takes his leave, saying he has to go feed his dog. Watching him leave, Yan Shangqing comments that he didn't even mention his ability has recovered, but Nishu defends him, saying the other man must have his reasons. The alchemist then concludes that, either way, this is a good thing for the sect. Meanwhile, the master congratulates his disciple on a job well done, and Ziling takes the chance to ask for the same treatment. He then asks why she wants the puppet, but the musician enigmatically replies that she has her own plans. Arriving at the ruins of the Blessed Palace, the investigation team leader warns of a poisonous miasma in the sky and orders everyone down. With that, the Southern Kingdom's Martial Alliance team lands in the midst of the strange mist. Surveying the destruction, one of the members is utterly shocked by the scene. He then asks what exactly could have happened here to cause such devastation. The group leader remarks that the culprit must be on another level, as even the veins of the earth were ripped out, and orders them to use the recording stone. Suddenly, a member points to the sky, drawing attention to something emerging from the clouds. High above, a gigantic eye manifests, and one of them wonders if it could be the manifestation of the great Tao. Under the vision's influence, they realize they've walked the wrong path and that becoming an immortal was much simpler. Immediately after, a shining object begins to be forcibly expelled from the leader's body. As this happens, the woman spits up blood the very moment the item is fully removed. While one member rips his own chest open, screaming that he has finally understood the path, another desperately begs for them to stop. Terrified, the survivor laments that the Immortal Alliance's secret treasure has shattered and wonders what they are facing. In the sky, an immense entity of golden energy manifests before them. From the flames, Kai Shu emerges, commenting that this aura feels very familiar. The woman then laments that the heavenly Tao won't allow her to descend to this realm. Facing imminent danger, the survivor decides she must use her talisman to escape and report the incident to the Alliance. Just then, a beam of green energy erupts from the ground, drawing the attention of the entity in the sky. Then, Kai Shu appears and says she's finally found her after so many years of searching. She then reveals with an intense gaze that she was looking for her best friend, Manman. Far away, back on Qingluan Peak at Qinghong Academy, Bai Luochen suddenly stops chopping wood, sensing that something is wrong. A system alert informs him that the heavenly Tao was spying on him, but the threat has been successfully concealed. Right after, another warning appears, restricting the maximum amount of spiritual energy he can use. Confused, the young man asks what's going on and why his power is being restricted like this. The system explains that to avoid attracting the heavenly Tao's attention, he can only use 10% of his energy. Hearing this, the master scoffs that this power level, equivalent to the academy's headmaster, is quite weak. So, he demands compensation from the system, which directs him to take a new weapon he obtained earlier. Before him, a figure completely wrapped in bandages like a mummy suddenly appears, leaving him speechless. Shocked, the young man yells at the system, asking what kind of weapon this is and calling the wrapping hideous. At that moment, a light begins to shine from within the bandages, and he wonders if it can also glow. In a bathhouse, two young women are relaxing in a hot spring. The purple-haired girl comments on the master's generosity, while the other in the tub suggests his constitution might prevent him from using the pill. The young woman explains that it's a rare treasure that advances cultivation by 3 levels, proving how much the master values her. In the tub, the girl laments that the master wasn't the one to strengthen her body with his own hands. The other explains that the strengthening process is different from remodeling and must be done completely naked. She adds that because of the differences between men and women, the master entrusted her with the task and tells the girl to take the pill. After the girl takes the pill, the other asks how she feels. The girl says it tastes salty, but her companion cuts her off, clarifying that she meant the sensations in her body. Suddenly, the girl feels something different and says, an amazing feeling is about to happen. She then begins to scream in pain, saying her body is burning hot. With her eyes glowing, the other reassures her, telling her to hang in there and that everything will be fine. An immense amount of green and blue energy begins to swirl intensely throughout the room. The energy's force makes the water in the tub churn and splash onto the stone figure. Sweating, her face contorted, the young woman continues to endure the painful transformation. As the girl screams in pain, her companion holds her tightly, telling her to hang on because it's almost over. Her face flushed and body trembling, the young woman feels she is reaching the climax of the transformation. Outside, a thunderstorm begins to brew over the mountains. Observing the scene, the sixth elder realizes the girl is advancing a level and wonders why the lightning tribulation looks so strange. From afar, Bai Luochen also notices the change in the sky and remarks that the system really isn't going to make things easy. He then watches intently as lightning bolts cut through the dark sky. He questions why Liu's golden core tribulation would have such a peculiar aura. A huge blast of golden energy lights up the sky over the mountains. From a high peak, Bai Luochen wonders why the golden core tribulation seems so ominous. Realizing Liyue is in danger, he activates a 3-star divine talisman and is enveloped in a golden aura. Soon, the beam of golden energy shoots across the sky and collides with one of the storm's lightning bolts. The lightning's energy strikes the ground near 6th Elder, who is caught by surprise. Stunned, Menglin is hit squarely by the lightning and wonders where it came from. As he runs past, Wu Jui shouts, asking if that was an accident or if he hit her on purpose. In shock, the 6th Elder wonders if this is really a golden core tribulation. With that, Bai Luochen positions himself in the air to draw the storm's attention to himself. His hand bleeds as he braces for the coming confrontation. With a serious look, he orders whoever is there to stop hiding. From amidst the storm clouds, Kaishu finally reveals her presence. With a smile, she remarks that she finds it interesting he's at the revolving light stage. Without hesitation, Bai Luochen demands to know who she is and why she's attacking his disciple. The woman then recognizes him as the girl's master and congratulates him on protecting her from an immortal like herself. With a surprised look, Bai Luochen asks if she is the immortal Kaishu was talking about. In response, dark smoke spreads across the sky as the woman lets out a laugh. With a smile, she softly calls out Manman's name. Then, the immortal notes with satisfaction that her old friend still remembers her. Using an immortal art to instantly close the distance, she grabs him and asks if Manman has been well. Preparing for combat, the young man replies yes, but that she became a corpse immortal. Hearing this, Kai Shu says that's good, and that the new status suits her perfectly. The master cuts her off sharply and tells her to stop pretending, stating that Su Liyue is his disciple and has nothing to do with her reincarnation. The immortal then reveals the girl isn't a reincarnation, but one of her 3 bodies, a burden that must be eliminated. With that, she attacks him and says that since he's blocking her path, he might as well die. The energy blast hits the mountain with full force, causing a massive explosion. As the system warns him of the danger, Bai Luochen refuses to flee, stating his disciple is still there. He notes in shock that even with the talisman's formation, the damage was immense, and wonders what kind of monster she is. In the midst of the chaos, Menglin orders the master to take Liu away while she holds off the mad witch. With a determined look, the young man shouts for everyone to stay inside the formation, assuring them he'll handle the immortal himself. Facing the immortal, the young man asks the system if this counts as a special circumstance and demands his axe back. Even as the system urges him to be careful, the master activates a 5-star divine talisman and says not to worry. With that, he charges at the immortal with divine speed, saying she's just a bigger piece of wood to chop. The impact of his charge causes a huge explosion in the sky. From a distance, the 6th Elder yells that he's completely insane for facing a true immortal like that. With his eyes glowing with energy, Bai Luochen prepares to release the Buddha's aspect. Next, a gigantic golden manifestation of Asura appears on the battlefield. The manifestation's fist lunges forward with overwhelming force. The blow strikes Kaishu's golden weapon head-on. The impact of their attacks generates a new, violent explosion of energy. Protected, the immortal comments with a smile that it was quite painful. As she licks the blood from her lips, she is surprised that a monster like him exists in the mortal world. With that, the system warns him to be careful, as the enemy is about to get serious. Suddenly, the master's weapon is cut in half, leaving him completely shocked. Soon, the golden manifestation is hit and dissolves into the air. The immortal acknowledges his skill, but warns him not to get distracted while fighting her. Unfazed, the young man replies that it will be as she wishes. With that, the woman summons 2 strange creatures and orders them to attack. In response, the 6-armed Shura manifestation fires energy beams at the creatures. Meanwhile, he charges directly at the immortal, who wonders if he plans to attack her while his manifestation provides a distraction. Before she can react, the master strikes her with a wide swing of his axe. The creatures shield her from the impact, and she comments that the weapon is good and would be even better integrated into her moon wheel. With a serious look, the young man questions why she had to descend and attack his disciple if she had already ascended to immortality. She then corrects him, explaining that he's wrong. And it's not that she didn't achieve immortality. The immortal reveals that after her ascension, she discovered the celestial realm was nothing special, occupied by beings no different from mortals. With tears in her eyes, she screams that it wasn't the world she had longed for. With that, the woman declares her desire to pursue something beyond the heavens themselves. Her true goal was to see the true celestial path and become the very laws of heaven and earth. With a crazed scream, the immortal proclaims that she herself will become the heavens. Hearing such ambition, the young man simply remarks on how greedy she is. With a powerful move, the young man charges forward, axe in hand. Then, he unleashes a devastating blow and orders her to return to her celestial realm. The attack is so powerful it tears space itself, making the immortal scream in shock that he managed such a feat. Seizing the opportunity, Bai Luochen grabs her before she can react. Right after, he hurls her into the rift and yells for her to never return. Exhausted from the effort, the master pauses for a moment to catch his breath. Believing he solved the problem, he finally sighs in relief. However, before the rift in the sky can close, two hands force their way back into the mortal world. In a new monstrous form, Kaishu re-emerges and reminds him that he's not the only one who can tear space. With a crazed smile, she screams that he shouldn't even think of stopping her from becoming the heavens themselves. At that moment, a system alert reports that the immortal has damaged the celestial channel, connecting the divine path to the mortal world. The warning makes it clear that the situation has become extremely dangerous. From the sky, a strange, colorful substance begins to descend from the newly opened rift. With that, the goo hits the rooftops, spreading everywhere. The sixth elder screams, not understanding what the hell that is, while the others rush to protect Li Yu. Suddenly, lightning cuts through the sky, and someone yells for Little Dream to watch out. The lightning strikes the substance head-on, creating an energy barrier. Then the lightning's energy clashes with the golden barrier protecting the area. Floating in the air, surrounded by a golden aura, Bai Luochen looks completely annoyed by the situation. He then wonders what that crazy witch could have done in the celestial realm to cause such a mess. Looking at the rift in the sky, the young man can't understand why things have taken this turn. The system warns him that the celestial channel will devour the world, but he vows he won't let that happen. Amidst the substance, Kaishu proclaims this is the manifestation of her own path merging with the heavenly path. With a smile, she challenges him, asking how he intends to fight the heavens themselves. Next, the creature's tentacles shoot out at high speed, surrounding him from all sides. Even cornered, the young man remains motionless, waiting for the right moment to react. With a 5-star divine talisman, the tentacles close in completely around him, trapping him. With a powerful blast of light, Bai Luochen unleashes his energy and proclaims that day will break. In an instant, the blast completely consumes the tentacles that held him. Before them, the creature's remains are scattered across the sky. Right after, the pieces begin to fall like rain over the village. As the group shields themselves under an energy barrier, the tentacles fall around them. To the sixth elder's astonishment, the creature also begins to emerge from the ground, and she screams, not understanding what's happening. Suddenly, a beam of energy strikes the battlefield, and everyone realizes the threat is coming again. While Menglin complains about being the only target of the lightning, Wu Jue remarks that it's good the insect is drawing the danger away from them. Worried, Su Liu's companion hopes the master resolves the situation as quickly as possible. In the heavens, a new thunderstorm forms, even more intense than the last. At the center of the threat, the young man prepares to condense his energy. As a golden energy fist forms, he declares he will show that mediocre power of the heavenly path, that he himself is capable of tearing the heavens apart. With that, he unleashes a powerful sealing technique that rushes toward the rift. The immortal screams, unable to believe a mortal can wield such a tremendous amount of spiritual energy. With a laugh, Kaishu recognizes Pangu's creation axe and admits she was no match for its power. Watching the immortal disintegrate into the air, a panting Bai Luochen comments that she was truly insane. As the energy in his hand dissipates, he thanks his partner for her hard work. With the battle over, a shower of golden light begins to fall gently from the sky. Seeing this, the sixth elder assumes it's all finally over. She then remarks that this golden core tribulation was something no one had likely ever witnessed before. In Manman's arms, Su Liyue looks exhausted as her friend worriedly calls her name. In a weak voice, the girl replies that she can't hold on any longer. The sixth elder notices something is wrong with Liyue's body, while the others wonder what's happening. As soon as the master arrives, he asks what happened to Liyue, and the other woman replies that she won't last much longer. Annoyed, Manman hits the sixth elder on the head and yells at her to stop talking nonsense. Calmly, the young man extends his hand and asks them to bring his disciple to him. Upon receiving her, the master lays her on his lap and tells her not to speak, just to rest, because everything will be fine with him there. He then explains that Liu is in this state because she missed the final stage of the lightning tribulation process. Worried, Manman asks where they could find another tribulation for her to complete the process. The master explains that unless there's a thunder attribute cultivator tainted with celestial lightning energy, he fears Liu will suffer severe injuries. Hearing this, Menglin perks up and says they should quickly find this cultivator, suggesting they hold him by force if he resists. When everyone turns to stare at her, the pink-haired girl nervously asks why they are looking at her like that. At that, the entire group stares at her with the same intention. Frightened, the Spirit Empress backs away and asks why they are surrounding her. Right after, a beam of energy strikes her dead on as she screams for everyone to stay away. With the energy transferred, the golden core finally forms inside Su Liu's body. As soon as the process ends, the young woman opens her eyes and calls out for her master and Manman. Confused, she wonders if she really missed the final stage, since she successfully formed her golden core. The girl then asks where they found another lightning tribulation, and Bai Luochen tells her to consider herself lucky, while her friend adds that the demon was quite generous. As the group tends to an unconscious Menglin, Liu seems to finally understand what happened to save her. With the situation resolved, the master announces he's going to the Deacon's Hall to clean up the mess and rebuild the peak, letting the others do as they please. Far away, in the celestial domain, Kaisho slowly recovers, laughing as she thinks of Manman, Su Liyue, and Bai Luochen's names. With a menacing smile, the immortal swears that the next time they meet, it will be for their deaths. After the incident, Bai Luochen complains that everyone is an opportunist for wanting 50,000 spirit stones to fix the houses. Suddenly, the system announces that a new mission has been issued, and instructs him to find and accept a new disciple. Surprised by the news, he wonders why the system is giving him a new disciple. He then asks what the blue bar on the screen means, and the system explains it's a countdown to the target's death. Shocked, the master shouts that his future disciple is about to die, and the system simply confirms that she is. Meanwhile, at a camp, Su Liyue asks Menglin if she's okay, and the girl replies that at least she's not dead. At that moment, a fire creature appears and calls for Yue, who is surprised to see it's her master. The master instructs her to take Little Dream to the transport gate at the main peak, and the Spirit Empress is startled by the sudden order. With the mummy by his side, Bai Lushen calls the group and tells them to go with him to find the new junior. In Wulin City at the Liu family house, a man asks if everything is ready for what's to come. With that, the group's leader orders the soldiers to get into position for battle. The hooded man asks them to stall for as long as possible, promising a generous reward when it's all over. He then enters a room and locks the door. Inside, he says that as long as they can delay the Immortal Alliance's arrival long enough, they'll be safe. But a young voice begs her uncle to let her out. With a stern look, the man replies that the assassins are already in the city, and that he can't let her out under any circumstances. With a choked voice, the young woman laments that it's all her fault, because if she hadn't broken off the engagement, her parents wouldn't have suffered the consequences. She says she doesn't want to drag him into her problems too. With tears in her eyes, the girl begs her uncle to let her fight to the death. The man stops her and tells her not to do anything stupid, reminding her that her parents entrusted her to him, and that the person hunting her is too cruel. He reassures her, guaranteeing that as soon as the Immortal Alliance arrives, their enemies will suffer the consequences. Suddenly, a voice calls out, saying that Old Man Liu is underestimating his blood sword palace. On the roof, two assassins appear holding the severed heads of his men, and one of them comments that they couldn't allow them to report back. Desperate, the man shouts that one of the dead boys was only 16 years old. Enraged, he demands to know why they had to kill everyone, even after slaughtering Nalan's entire family. One of the assassins replies that it's because the palace lord finds it amusing to send them to the next world. With his last bit of strength, the man screams for Nalan to run. In an instant, the assassin's blade pierces through him, taking his life. Far away, on a flying boat, the group travels peacefully, and Menglin praises the taste of the melon. Indignant, Su Liyue scolds her for eating the new junior sister's gift, but the other retorts that she has sacrificed enough and won't give up the fruit. The system displays the new disciple's information, and the master wonders why her art seems different from his. In a flashback, Nalan Duo announces that she has come to break off her engagement to Xiaoping, taking full responsibility for the decision. Upon hearing this, the young man screams in anger and humiliation. The system explains that after Xiaoping lost his powers, the girl, who had always opposed the marriage, took the opportunity to end things. Enraged, the young man swears that the river flows east for 30 years, but it will flow west for the next 30, and that she will pay for this. The young man then began to cultivate like a madman, and, after becoming the new lord of the Bloodsword Palace, slaughtered Nalan's entire family to restore his honor. Upon hearing the story, Bai Luochen comments that it sounds strangely familiar. Suddenly, the system alerts him that his disciple is about to die, which shocks him with how fast things are happening. Immediately, he speeds up the boat and yells for everyone to hold on, as they need to go faster. The master takes control of the helm, accelerating to maximum speed. Meanwhile, the girls on the boat are startled by a giant spider-like creature that appears in front of them. The creature attacks them, and the Spirit Empress screams in terror. The melon she was holding is hit and explodes, and the girl screams in despair for having lost her fruit. One of the assassins threatens the young woman, saying that if she doesn't surrender, the remaining members of the Liu family will die. With no other choice, Nalan Duoduo tells them to leave the family alone, as she will go with them, which pleases the assassin. The assassin in white assures her that Lord Xiao will treat her very well when they return. Suddenly, the other man attacks her with dark energy, and the girl screams, not understanding what he's doing. The blow hits her squarely, making her scream in pain and spit blood. As the young woman falls to her knees, the assassin explains that he promised to let her go, but the Lord didn't, and she calls them monsters. With her eyes glowing in fury, the girl screams that she'll die together with those demonic spawns. However, she realizes in shock that her spiritual power is being drained. With a smile, the man says he had already told her not to struggle, and asks why she didn't listen. On the ground, the young woman is immobilized by dark energy seals. The assassin comments that with the seal and the rope artifact, there shouldn't be any problem. At that moment, another man in a black hood appears and asks if he's finished yet, but the other retorts that he doesn't look for trouble like he does. Suddenly, they spot something flying at high speed in the sky and wonder what it could be. The object collides forcefully with the ground, sending the hooded man flying and making him curse in shock. Enraged, the assassin in white screams, demanding to know who dares to interfere with the Blood Sword sect. As the dust settles, Bai Luochen appears on his flying boat and orders them to let her go. With his eyes glowing, he offers them a peaceful death if they obey. The assassin introduces himself as Ming Shi and asks if he's trying to rob them, and Bai Luochen confirms with a smile that's exactly right. With a gesture, he summons a golden energy and challenges them to come closer. The energy hits the assassin's barrier, who yells in surprise, not understanding how that's possible. In response, the man summons the immortal binding rope to try and capture the girl again. However, the seals break, and the young woman frees herself completely. Desperate, the assassin shouts that he won't let her escape. With a smile, the master asks if he wants to compete, to see who has the stronger spiritual power. The dark seals turn into light and begin to dissipate, disintegrating the girl's clothes in the process. Annoyed, Bai Luochen curses for having to witness that scene. Upon seeing the girl, Menglin compliments the new junior sister's body, while Su Liyue shouts the master's name in shock. While holding the young woman in his arms, the young man orders Liu and Little Dream to take care of the two from the Blood Sword Palace. The Spirit Empress shouts to leave them alive, and her companion confirms she understands. The assassin remarks that the young man is too strong, and that he'll unleash his blood sword to deal with them. With a shout, he unleashes a powerful slash of reddish energy. In response, Su Liyue charges forward with her own blades to intercept the attack. With a furious roar, the assassin commands his energy to explode. With that, he releases a technique that creates several dark blood clones to attack. Menglin scoffs at the attempt and declares that there's no escape for them. While trying to flee, the man tells himself that as long as he can escape, he can teleport away. Suddenly, he's trapped by thin threads of energy, leaving him completely stunned. The assassins watch in shock as their clones are decimated, not understanding how it's possible or the girl's power level. With her eyes glowing with energy, Su Liyue summons the moon wheel and thunder. The two men realize there's something beneath them and wonder what kind of golden core that is. Then, a pillar of energy erupts from the ground and hits them, making them scream in pain. Upon examining the captured young woman, the master realizes they used a blood seal to block her dantian. He then asks how she feels, and the girl is speechless, completely embarrassed. Calmly, the young man holds her and says he's there to save her. Outraged, the girl asks what kind of savior rips someone's clothes, but he explains it was an accident and tells her not to move. As the seal is removed, the young woman cries out in pain. He scolds her for moving and tells her the process is almost over. Still recovering, the girl asks who he is and why he's helping her. With a smile, the young man says she's all right and now just needs to repair her dantian, then introduces himself as Bai Luochen, inviting her to be his disciple. Shocked, the young woman asks if he's the famous trash of the academy. The master is silent for a moment, a bit thrown off by the reaction. With a smile, he confirms it's him and says to focus on repairing her dantian first, as the girl shouts for him to be gentler. He then asks what they should do with the two assassins, and Su Liyue suggests they bring them to him. Outraged, Bai Luochen steps on the men and says he can't believe the scum of the cultivation world laid their hands on a mortal. The new disciple watches in surprise as the two were defeated so easily, even though they were at the peak of the golden core stage. As she approaches, Menglin greets her, and the girl notices she's only in the initial stage of the golden core. Su Liyue asks if she is her new junior sister, while the spirit empress scolds her for her thoughts leaking out. The other disciple then points out that Miss Nalan hasn't accepted the invitation to join them yet. Impressed, the young woman thinks that if such a high-level demon follows him, he can't be a crippled piece of trash. With a look of anger and determination, she remembers Xiaoping. Making her decision, the girl approaches and says she accepts Instructor Bai's offer. With a smile, the master welcomes her and gives her 2 books as a welcoming gift. With a serious look, the young woman informs the master that she suffered a key deviation and can no longer cultivate. Hearing this, he asks with a smile if she wants him to destroy the Blood Sword Palace for her, stating it would be simple. Immensely grateful, the girl bows in thanks and calls him master. The young man then questions if she really thinks the anger in her heart will vanish if he helps her get revenge. He explains that cultivation is about purity of heart and clarity of thought, and that this was a challenge she needed to resolve herself. Desperate, the young woman shouts that she can't accept it, because if no one helps her, she'll never get her revenge. Calmly, the master uses a talisman to soothe her heart. He then reveals his intention was for her to get revenge herself, and reassures her, saying that with him around, the enemy's talent means nothing. With a hopeful look, the girl asks if she'll really be able to accomplish such a feat. The young man assures her that he never lies, and that this will be her first lesson. With that, he kicks the 2 captured assassins and orders her to use her most gruesome method to get rid of them. The young woman is speechless for a moment, shocked by the sudden order. With a determined look, she finally declares that she will do as he asked. At the Blood Sword Palace on Jiandang Mountain, a dark energy spreads throughout the area. 2 guards discuss what the palace master will do with the lady from the Nalan family, and one suggests he'll kill her after having his fun. With a malicious grin, the other remarks that if the master is willing to share, they could also enjoy themselves. Suddenly, a blade pierces his companion's neck, who falls to the ground, dead. Elsewhere, 2 women watch the palace, commenting that the concealment talisman they used is very useful. The younger one asks her sister if they're really risking their lives for a poor scholar. The other scoffs in response, questioning if she really thinks she'd do all this for just a man. With a determined look, the woman reveals that what she really wants is the mark that will grant her access to the dwelling. The girl reminds her that they can only fight a nascent soul, and the older sister retorts that's why they stole the talismans. With a smile, the young woman praises her sister's intelligence, and the other agrees before they prepare to move forward. Suddenly, they notice the place's protective sword formation is being activated. Alarms blare throughout the palace, indicating someone is breaking in. From the sky, Bai Luochen's flying boat appears amidst a golden light, breaking through the energy barriers. On board, Su Liyue gives Nalan a pill and tells her to swallow it, while the other complains that it was her 2-month supply. With a confident smile, the master prepares to descend, saying that if the enemy is just a nascent soul, he can ignore everyone else. Inside the palace, the guards wonder what's happening and realize someone has infiltrated, just as they lost contact with their emissaries. Xu Ping, the palace master, suspects it's the Silver Sword Palace, but remains silent, doubting they have anyone strong enough to break his formation. A voice in his ring warns him to summon his blood puppet before it's too late. Startled, the young man asks the great ancestor who this person he fears so much is. The ancestor replies he's not sure, but that the intruder is only at the revolving light stage, which confuses him even more. With a single punch, Bai Luochen shatters the palace's main gate in a violent explosion. As he flies over the destruction, he comments that he might have used too much force and wonders if a nascent soul would die so easily. With a smirk, the young man notices that, as expected, the palace master is still alive. From the rubble, a reddish energy aura rises toward the sky. From a distance, the older sister notes that Xu Ping is still alive and suggests they get closer to watch the fight, but the younger one scolds her for getting them into this mess. With a confident smile, the woman tells her not to be afraid, as she still has a talisman she stole from her grandfather, and escaping won't be a problem. The young woman asks that they hide their presence, and the younger sister praises her skill, saying she won't go out with her next time. Noticing the 2 of them, Bai Luochen recognizes them as the wild girls from the Mo family. With that, he decides not to bother with them, as long as they don't interfere in the fight. Amidst the blood aura, Xu Ping asks the ancestor if they aren't leaving. The ancestor replies that their presence has been discovered and it's impossible to escape, so they must try to negotiate. With that, the palace master asks who he is, and the young man just asks if he means him. Calmly, Bai Luochen introduces himself as an instructor from Qinghong Academy. From a distance, the older sister is surprised to learn he is instructor Bai, but the younger one chides her for not being stealthy. The other then recalls the story of how the genius talisman master sealed a portal to the demon world and ended up becoming a cripple. While the younger sister asks if she admires the instructor, a blue spirit comments that the academy seems interesting. Indignant, Xu Ping demands to know why he attacked them, since the palace has no grievance against the academy. The young man points to the flying boat and says that he should know what he did, so there's no need to destroy his sect. Then, he offers to give him a chance. He says that as long as the other can defeat his disciple in a duel to the death, he will let him go. With that, Nalan Duoduo appears in an aura of energy and yells, "It's him!" Seeing her, the palace master shouts her name, shocked and enraged. He then asks if Instructor Bai will really let him go if he defeats her, and the master guarantees he always keeps his word. With a smirk, Xu Ping asks if the other won't interfere if he gravely injures his precious disciple. Bai Luochen confirms he won't interfere, since, after all, she is the one who wants personal revenge. With a hateful glare, Xu Ping yells for Nalan Duoduo to face him. The girl informs her master she's going, and he instructs her to wisely use the treasure he gave her, assuring her she won't lose. As the young woman moves forward into battle, Su Liyue expresses her concern for her. She explains that Xu Ping is at the nascent soul stage, and she's never seen anyone defeat an opponent 3 stages above them, which would be like sending her to her death. With a smile, Bai Luochen reassures her, promising he'll never let anything happen to Duoduo. He then adds that if an accident does happen, he'll obviously do something, asking if she thought he brought her here on vacation. In the background, Su Liyue shouts her companion's name, worried about what's about to happen. As the girl is engulfed by a blood energy, the palace master mocks her, asking if she thinks she's the main character of some novel. With a cruel smile, he vows to slowly torture and humiliate her in front of her master to repay all the humiliation he suffered. With a defiant look, the young woman retorts that he's the one who should suffer. The item the girl used explodes with overwhelming force, engulfing the battlefield in flames. In the midst of the smoke, the ancestor complains that the bastard chose suicide to escape his torment. With a burned face, he realizes that even the blood puppet couldn't stop her, and admits he underestimated her. Amidst a tornado of energy, the young woman emerges and screams Xiao Ping's name. With fury in her eyes, she declares that the 206 members of her family and the Liu family were killed by him. Then, the girl yells that she has come to seek vengeance for all of them. As the scene unfolds, Menglin comments that the new disciple is quite ruthless, as the pain she feels is real. Annoyed, the Spirit Empress complains that the young woman has become a moth drawn to a flame, and that her cocoon was wasted. Worried, Su Liyue warns the master that Duoduo is bound to lose, but he explains that the girl's physique requires life-or-death battles to be activated. He assures them that once she reaches that point, Xiao Ping will be no match for her, and that the treasure and cocoons are just to speed up the process. The palace master comments that his opponent is insane for using self-explosion in a fight. Exhausted and with his blood puppets nearly depleted, he realizes he can no longer hold off the attack. Panting, the young woman uses her last self-explosion talisman, but realizes the power gap is still insurmountable. With that, she tries to detonate the talisman, but discovers she has no spiritual power left. Surprised, Xu Ping notices she's out of spiritual power, yet she continues to fight. With that, he charges forward and yells that he'll finish off that shameless bitch once and for all. The palace master holds out his hand and beckons her to face him. Fallen on the ground, the young woman coughs. Exhausted and with no strength to go on, he captures her and mocks her, asking if she's run out of tricks to use. Then, the young man yells that with her skills, she'll never get her revenge in this life or the next. He then reveals he has something to tell her before she dies, and summons an illusion of her father. The man's image explodes in front of her, and the girl screams desperately for her father. With a cruel laugh, the palace master asks how she feels, and if she's enjoying being blown up. He taunts her, saying there's a whole family waiting to greet her. Seeing the scene, Su Liyue says she's going to finish him, but Bai Luochen stops her, explaining that this is Duoduo's karma. With a serious look, he asks them to trust him and his disciple. Back in the fight, Xu Ping is disappointed she passed out so easily and decides to end it all. With a sadistic smile, he yells that he's going to reunite her with her family. In an instant, he strikes her with a bloody energy blast that severely injures her. Shocked, Su Liyue and Bai Luochen scream Duoduo's name as they see her get hurt. Suddenly, the girl awakens, her eyes glowing with an intense red light. As he tries to attack, Xu Ping screams in pain, realizing his hand is being consumed by a dark energy. With that, a new aura of power emerges from the young woman's body. Wings of dark energy form on her back, and she screams her opponent's name. Startled, the palace master tries to escape using his immortal blood escape technique. He asks the ancestor what it was that hurt him, and the other explains it's the awakened deep yin toxin meridian, and that it's poisonous. The young man swears he'll get revenge for his arm, and the ancestor warns him to use all his trump cards if he doesn't want to die. With that, he summons his bonded blood sword. Then, the girl unleashes a powerful abyssal hell slash and screams for Nalan Duoduo to die. Her attack surges forward with overwhelming force, shrouded in dark energy. The young woman's purple energy collides with the palace master's blood aura. The impact of their two powers creates a massive explosion on the battlefield. Amidst the dust, the girl emerges with her new energy wings. As he's consumed by the blood energy, the young man realizes his puppet won't last much longer. In a final, desperate plea, the palace master screams for his ancestor to save him. Panting, the girl retracts her energy wings, exhausted after the intense battle. With her face covered in blood, she breathes heavily, feeling the weight of the confrontation. Before her, Xu Ping's body dissolves into a pool of blood. The ancestor then asks why she's still not satisfied, even after crushing the young man's head. In response, the young woman attacks the energy manifestation and completely destroys it. Before disappearing, the ancestor yells that she will pay a heavy price for her actions. Falling into her master's arms, the girl says with a weak voice that she did it, and he congratulates her on a job well done. Suddenly, an immense aura of blood energy rises from the ground. Drops of blood begin to fall from the sky, staining the hands of the two onlookers. The older sister recognizes it as a celestial phenomenon, something that can only be achieved in the Great Ascension realm. Amidst the energy, the blood sword ancestor manifests and praises the courage of the young one who dares to challenge him. An immense red aura of energy and lightning expands across the entire battlefield. The ancestor furiously screams at him for destroying his mountain and killing his disciple. He then concentrates his energy into a single, powerful fist. Amidst the ruined battlefield, Bai Luochen worries about Duoduo's condition. Furious, the ancestor questions why he's so cruel, destroying the palace's legacy, and asks if he doesn't fear karma. With a smile, the young man replies that he is his karma, and asks what destroying the palace has to do with him. Suddenly, multiple copies of himself appear and attack the enemy from all sides. With a self-explosion talisman, the copies explode, engulfing the ancestor in flames. From a distance, the older sister comments that Teacher Bai is very strong, as the puppet's power was much greater than Nalan Duoduo's. Amidst the destruction, one of the copies falls to the ground, defeated. The girl finds one of the puppets on the ground and takes it to her sister. The older one analyzes the object and says that the engravings are intact and that the internal talisman probably won't explode again. With that, she decides to take it back for her artisans to study. Amidst the blood energy, the ancestor screams Bai Luochen's name. With a devastating attack, he screams for the young man to die, but the other just tells the old man not to get agitated. With a 4-star sacred talisman, the master unleashes an immediate slash of energy. Surprised, the ancestor recognizes it as a sacred talisman. The blow hits him squarely, causing his energy body to dissipate. The remains of his manifestation fall from the sky like a rain of blood and flesh. As soon as the pieces hit the ground, they dissolve into dust. With the battle seemingly over, all that remains is smoke and destruction. Su Liyue asks the master if it's over, and he says yes, but he needs to burn the remains so they don't pollute the area. However, Menglin points out that the old man is still alive, and the young man wonders if he's as tough as a cockroach. At this, the ancestor's projection admits his willpower has been defeated. He declares that since the young man killed his only disciple, he will take one of his disciples as well. However, Bai Luochen protects the girls and challenges the old man to try and kill her if he can. Enraged at being used as bait, Menglin screams that she is not his disciple and unleashes all her power. With a single blow, she rips the head off the ancestor's manifestation. Before disappearing, the head screams for her to wait until his real body descends to tear her to pieces, and Bai Luochen scoffs at the cliché villain line. With the battle over, Bai Luochen addresses the two from the Mo family and advises them to do what they came for before the alliance arrives. The young women then formally introduce themselves to the academy's teacher. He dismisses the formality, explaining that he knows their grandfather and that the old man took care of him when he was younger. With a laugh, the master reveals that the head of the Mo family is an old client who bought many talismans from him 10 years ago. The older sister explains she came for revenge, and the younger one begs him not to tell their grandfather about it. With a smile, the girl thanks him for taking care of the matter, but the young man completely ignores her. With that, he says he'll leave them to deal with what's left of the palace. Before leaving, Bai Luochen asks them to send his regards to the old man and says goodbye, leaving the two behind. The young woman advises her sister to cross the teacher's name out of her book, as she will never win him over. Irritated, the other tells her to hurry up and find the ring, explaining that the book is just a record of the young talents she approves of. On the flying boat, Menglin complains that she's tired and wonders why they haven't gotten home yet. While the master eats a snack, the system congratulates him on completing the mission and gives him his rewards. Suddenly, a green paper bird appears in the air, bringing a new mission from the academy. The message informs that Bai Luochen must represent the academy at the Ling family's ball in Tianxing City. With that, he changes course and announces that the academy has sent him to Tianxing City, and they are heading there now. Menglin complains that she doesn't want to go and that this is forced overtime, but Bai Luochen replies that he can't give her a bonus if she doesn't even get a salary. In the past, it's revealed that to perform a dual body swap, a drop of Mimeng's blood essence is needed first. The blood essence will then transform into a cocoon. 10 days later, 2 cocoons form and begin to pulse. Suddenly, little Meng emerges from one of the cocoons, full of energy. Next, she sews the cocoon back up, and it's revealed that her life expectancy is only 1 day. At the prestigious Qinghong Academy, an important meeting is taking place in the discussion hall. There, one of the attendees informs the director that young Bai has already left for the Lin family residence. With a satisfied look, Director Li Guangqi states that Bai Luochen will arrive in time for the Lin family's elder banquet, considering it a fortunate opportunity. At this, the law enforcement elder, Tu Wusheng, expresses concern that sending instructor Bai might bring shame to the academy, as the Lin family is very influential. Intrigued, the other law enforcement elder, Chang Yuning, asks if it's possible that instructor Bai has leveled up once again. The director then reveals that Bai Luochen likes to be discreet, but assures them his strength is no less than his own. With that, he announces his decision to delegate some of the elders' meeting rights to the instructors of all academies. Defiantly, Li Guangqi warns that if any of the elders present have an objection, they can discuss it directly with Bai Luochen. Still, the instructor from the Sword Arts Department, Jiang Hemming, stands up to voice a reservation to the director. He begins his argument by saying that while letting young Bai attend the event won't make them lose face, there is another point to consider. The young man finishes his thought by reminding everyone that the academy has not yet officially announced that Bai Luochen has recovered his strength. Meanwhile, in Tianjing City, the gates of the Lin family residence stand imposing. At the entrance, a guard announces the arrival of the Lin family patriarch, who is accompanied by his eldest son. Immediately after, the guests congratulate the patriarch on his ancestor's advancement to the body recombination stage. Suddenly, one of the guests is surprised to see 2 people approaching, while others comment on the newcomer's beauty. The red-haired young woman, Nalan Duoduo, catches everyone's eye with her beauty. Beside her, the other newcomer, Su Liu, looks around with a surprised expression. With a flirtatious smile, the patriarch's son comments that they are truly a delight. Right after, the young man asks his father which family the 2 female cultivators are from, but the older man doesn't understand who he's referring to. At that exact moment, Bai Luochen approaches and introduces himself, saying he has come to congratulate Ancestor Lin on his successful advancement. Recognizing him as Instructor Bai, the patriarch invites him in, informing him that the banquet will begin the next day. With that, the host orders a servant to prepare a good room for the instructor, and the attendant confirms he will do it immediately. As he walks away, the other guests comment that the academy's talisman instructor was useless and wonder how Nalan Duoduo is still alive. The patriarch then grumbles that the academy clearly looks down on them for sending trash to congratulate them, but his son suggests he's overthinking it and that Bai Luochen probably came to ask for help. Intrigued, the older man asks his son to explain how he reached that conclusion. The young man then explains that Nalan Duoduo was hunted by the Blood Sword Palace, and out of nowhere, started calling that master, Master, making it clear she wanted the academy's support. Losing patience, the patriarch says he doesn't want to hear nonsense and demands he get to the point. The whole situation boils down to the young man's interest in marrying the newly arrived girl. The young man then reveals his plan to marry Nalan Duoduo to get the Lin family's support, since the academy wouldn't back a master considered useless. With a cunning smile, he reminds his father that he's always wanted a grandchild, and confesses he desires not only Nalan Duoduo, but also the master's other disciple. The patriarch ponders that, While Nalan Duoduo is debatable, the Blood Sword Palace is a problem, but they can use the ancestors' power as a pretext to gain recognition from the Immortal Alliance. With a determined look, the man declares, "This is the perfect time for the Lin family to gain power and prestige," proposing to use the Blood Sword Palace as a dowry. He then instructs his son to ask the ancestor to deal with the Blood Sword Palace, giving him permission to do as he pleases with the two girls, leaving the young man grateful. With a smug smile, the young man thinks to himself that very soon, Nalan Duoduo will be his woman. However, the group is led to a completely abandoned and dilapidated courtyard. The dust in the place makes Nalan Duoduo sneeze immediately. Coughing, the girl complains that the Lin family must be mocking them, while Bai Luochen, on the other hand, comments that he finds the room quite nice. Su Liyue comments that the place looks sturdy and even better than the disciples' rooms at the college, leaving the other girl shocked to find out the conditions there are even worse. Next, the black-haired young woman says she'll go to the courtyard for water, while Menglin decides to find something to eat, making Nalan Duoduo complain that this room is worse than a servant's. Hearing this, Bai Luochen tells the girl not to listen to her senior sister and reassures her about the cultivation conditions, which makes her think with relief about the academy's good reputation. The master explains that as long as she focuses on cultivation, even a ruined room will seem like a mountain with breathtaking views, making her realize the place is actually worse. Even so, the young woman argues that as representatives of the talisman department, they should have a better room, and is also annoyed that her master is so strong. Unconcerned, the young man replies that the department's reputation is from 10 years ago, and that people focused on appearances will never achieve great things. To change the subject, Bai Luochen then turns and says that as her master, he will give her 2 treasures. Seeing the object's intense glow, the girl is left speechless and gaping. Confused, the girl receives the 5 lunar poisons and the lunar silk rope from the system. Then Bai Luochen explains that since she is a beginner, she won't be able to use the equipment, so he will give a demonstration. Seeing the energy move, the young woman gets scared and asks if it's going to strip her again. Looking flustered, the young man tells her not to talk nonsense and realizes he should have done it the other way around. In that same instant, Nalan Duoduo is yanked towards him and shouts for her master to be careful. Catching her, he apologizes for the mistake and asks if she's okay, but she can only say she doesn't know what's happening. With a flushed face, the young woman gasps and complains that her solar plexus is very hot. Suddenly, a powerful energy explodes from the ruined room, engulfing the entire courtyard. Energy wings manifest around Nalan Duoduo, who writhes on the ground, not understanding what is happening to her. With his hands on the girl's body, Bai Luochen tells her not to move and explains that the physique she has awakened needs a core to be controlled. Right after, the young man reassures her, stating that he has a plan for the situation. With that, he turns and asks Yue to bring Little Dream here, and the disciple promptly obeys. Holding the nest where the other was sleeping, Su Liyue wakes her up abruptly, telling her to stop sleeping because it's time to work. The sound of the nest opening echoes through the silent room. Still sleepy, Menglin complains about being woken up, questioning why they were calling her when she was told not to go out because of a banquet. With no time for explanations, Bai Luochen demands that she lend him her demonic core, but the girl refuses, shouting that he's crazy for asking for her life source. Losing his patience, the master pinches her cheeks and asks if she will lend him the core or if he'll have to take it by force, making her agree immediately. Muttering that he only knows how to mistreat her, the Spirit Empress removes the shining core from her chest. Next, the young man offers the core to Nalan Duoduo and orders her to eat it, but the young woman questions if it can really solve her low cultivation problem. Bai Luochen confirms that it can and promises to help her create a pseudo-golden core. Surprised by the term, the girl repeats his words as the master insists she eat it quickly, before the taste gets worse when it cools down. With a hesitant expression, Nalan Duoduo swallows the demonic core. While watching the process, Su Liyue wonders if such a technique really exists, and Bai Luochen instructs the other girl to focus her spiritual ocean around the demonic core. With an energy aura around her, Nalan Duoduo comments that she feels very full. A moment later, the red-haired girl blinks, complaining that the sensation is very strange. At that moment, the energy wings on her back manifest and dissolve into a shower of feathers. Sitting on the bed, she asks her master if that was really a golden core, as she doesn't feel any different. The young man then explains that the core only serves to guide her spiritual ki, and that her actual cultivation is still at the fusion realm. Nearby, Su Liyue sighs in relief that it's not so easy to obtain a golden core, thinking that the old monster has a few tricks up his sleeve. Suddenly, a piece of paper flies past her, drawing her attention to the door. A voice from outside announces that the Star Festival is about to begin and invites them to join. The mention of a Star Festival makes the group curious about what the event might be. The scene reveals a crowd gathered under a night sky lit by fireworks and floating lanterns. With an excited smile, Nalan Duoduo points to the sky and calls her master's attention to the spectacle. Then, the girl invites him to go over and buy some star lanterns, and he agrees. Watching the sky, Su Liyue wonders how the lanterns are flying, since she can't feel any spiritual power coming from them. Sitting on the disciple's head, Menglin complains that she is also without her spiritual power and therefore can't fly either. Excited, Nalan Duoduo calls her senior sister to her side, and the other responds promptly. Meanwhile, a person explains that the Star Festival is a traditional celebration where everyone, mortals or cultivators, lights and releases a lantern into the sky. Tradition says that if someone makes a wish upon a lantern, the heavenly Tao will hear it. Awed by the scene, Su Liu thinks that in her past life, she was so focused on cultivation that she missed out on such a beautiful sight. However, Bai Luochen notices that Nalan Duoduo is crying beside him and can no longer eat. Worried, the master asks what's wrong, and the young woman replies that she just remembered the festivals she used to attend with her family. Watching the interaction, Menglin warns Su Liyue that if she doesn't act, the old monster will be stolen away, and she'll no longer be the favorite disciple, but the girl scolds her for talking nonsense. The disciple then remembers how a master's attention towards their apprentice has always been based on talent and effort. With a smile, the young woman approaches the two and invites them to make a wish together. As she releases the lantern, she wishes that everyone on Bluebird Peak can live a safe and peaceful life. Hearing this, Bai Luochen tells Nalan Duoduo that from now on, Bluebird Peak will be her new home. Moved, the red-haired girl agrees with her master as the lanterns illuminate the night sky. With her hands clasped, the young woman communicates with her deceased family, saying she has avenged them, found a good master, and hopes they can rest in peace. Suddenly, Menglin notices their lantern is shaking and gets startled by the movement. With a smile, Bai Luochen reveals that it's not just a simple lantern, but a divine talisman. The divine talisman then shoots toward the sky at high speed, leaving a trail of light behind. In that same instant, the energy explodes and transforms into a ring of light, making the other guests shout, asking which bastard was using cultivation techniques. With Bai Luochen's talisman leading the way, a voice comments that with it, they wouldn't have to worry if their wish would reach the heavens. The master then declares that if the heavenly Tao doesn't listen, he'll go up there himself to ask. And when asked by Menglin if that isn't bullying, he just says she'll get used to it. To everyone's astonishment, dozens of other lanterns transform into beams of light, making the crowd shout indignantly, questioning where the justice was. Meanwhile, at Bluebird Peak, the sixth elder watches the full moon in silence. With her hands clasped, the young woman prays for the moon god to bless her so she can advance to the ancestral realm and reach her chief's cultivation level. Soon, Wu Jui approaches and asks her elder sister what she's doing, and the other replies that she's asking for blessings from the moon god. The sixth elder says she felt something coming from the moon and invites the newcomer to pray with her, who then asks to become smarter and protect the place from bad people. Far away, the beams of light from the talismans continue their journey, approaching the surface of the moon. Back in Tianjing City, a large sphere of energy forms over the Lin family's court. Inside the palace, the guests wait and talk amongst themselves with great anticipation. There, one of the guests wonders why Ancestor Lin hasn't appeared yet, while another mentions hearing he went into seclusion for not cultivating with the right techniques. At that very moment, a voice announces the arrival of Ancestor Lin, and a powerful aura emanates from the main gate. To everyone's surprise, the head of the Lin family, Lin Zhennan, appears carrying a baby, making the guests wonder if it's his illegitimate child. Soon after, his son informs him that all the guests are already present. In a crib, the baby ancestor Lin Cheng, in the initial stage of the body recombination realm, looks at the crowd with curiosity. With a surprisingly authoritative voice, the little one orders them to begin the ceremony. Thus, the family head announces that the banquet can begin and that all guests may present their respects. However, the guests hesitate, finding it very difficult to bow to a child. With his eyes glowing red, the ancestor gets angry and asks if they dare to look down on him. A strong spiritual pressure hits everyone, making them recoil in shock and amazement. Immediately, the guests bow and wish for the ancestor's cultivation to triumph over all, and for him to ascend soon. Meanwhile, at another table, Su Liyue tells her master she doesn't think it's right for them to just sit there. Unfazed, Bai Luochen chews on a twig and asks what's so bad about it. The young man then explains that they can't be seen by the others anyway. With a disdainful air, Su Liyue comments on how hilarious it is that the ancestor is acting so arrogant just for reaching the body recombination stage. Meanwhile, the master remarks that the ancestor has the right to be proud, since few cultivators have reached this level, but the conversation is interrupted by a fight for the food on the table. Suddenly, a furious man approaches and asks when a piece of trash like him earned the right to say something like that. Shaking with rage, Lin Zhennan's disciple, Ye Zien, shouts Bai Luochen's name repeatedly. The fury on his face is so intense that he can barely contain his hatred for the other man. However, the master just stares at him with a confused expression and asks who he is. Hearing this, the other man explodes in fury and accuses him of humiliating him over a woman years ago and now pretending not to remember. His rage is so great that the man spits blood, falling to his knees on the floor. Faced with the scene, Bai Luochen finally seems to remember him, exclaiming with a smile that he now knows who he is. Wiping the blood from his mouth, Ye Zien says he couldn't do anything against the guy at the academy, but now it's time to settle the score between them. Ignoring the threat, the master asks how long his condition has been like that and offers him a chicken leg to pull himself together. Annoyed, the man yells at him to stop playing dumb and attacks, knocking the food out of his hand with a single blow. Then, Ye Zien demands that Bai Luochen kneel on the floor if he doesn't want to die, just as he had humiliated him in the past. Outraged by the scene, Su Liyue stands up and confronts him, asking how he dares to insult her master looking like that. Losing his patience, Ye Zien yells that she's noisy and lunges forward with a spell. However, an energy stops him, and a mysterious woman blocks the attack with her own talismans. Surprised to be stopped, the man can barely react upon seeing the musician Zi Ling standing before him. At that exact moment, a servant approaches and informs Master Ye that the family head has ordered him to the palace. With a grunt, the man tells the servant to lead the way and leaves, prompting Bai Luochen to comment on what an idiot he is. Back at the table, Su Liyue complains that there are blind people everywhere, while Nalan Duoduo gets annoyed at the Lin family's arrogance, and the master concludes they are not welcome there. Soon, a system notification congratulates the host for unlocking world missions and instructs him to defeat enemies to spread his name. Next, the young man activates a sensory talisman to observe the situation. With a smile, he remarks that there's something interesting to watch in the Lin family, as the sky over the residence fills with clouds and lightning. In the palace, Lin Zhennan asks a kneeling Ye Zien if it's because of Bai Luochen that he hasn't been able to advance for 3 years. The other confirms, explaining that the conflict has become his inner demon, and asks the ancestor master to bring him justice. The family head, however, scolds him for the request, reminding him that the ancestor is still getting used to his new body and cannot provoke the Qinghong Academy over personal matters. Interrupting the conversation, the ancestor tells his father not to speak of what he doesn't know, explaining that his abnormality was what allowed him to advance. The little one then reveals he managed to evolve thanks to a secret book left by Miss Kai Shu and promises to show it to them both when they reach the peak of immortalization. Faced with the promise, they both bow in gratitude to the ancestor. The ancestor then warns that while the current academy is no threat, Li Guangqi is a problem, and that he must understand the situation. With a defeated expression, Ye Zien replies that he understands the message perfectly. Suddenly, a loud sound echoes and a huge spell circle forms over the city, frightening the residents. Inside the palace, the ancestor and his father wonder what is happening outside. With a serious expression, the little one realizes that someone is attacking the city's great formation and that it won't hold for long. Flying over the residents, a giant, shapeless creature grumbles that they really dare not to take him seriously. On top of the creature, a masked and imposing figure watches the city from above, ready to attack. The residents are startled by the noise, watching in confusion as someone attacks the city's defense barrier. With bright yellow eyes, the formless creature stares at the city with menacing intent. Amidst the chaos, the frightened guests scatter, wondering who would attack Tianxing City with such insane pressure. One of the guests asks the master if he thinks the invaders can break the barrier, and the young man replies that it won't hold for much longer. Su Liyue then remarks she doesn't get what the Lin family was thinking, putting a big shot with such low-level people, but she doesn't care about those idiots. Hearing the conversation, Bai Luochen stops eating, and with a serious look, asks if it's time. In that same instant, an explosion shatters the Tianxing formation, breaking it into countless pieces. Terrified by the scene, One of the guests can barely form the words to describe what he's seeing. The man then screams the newcomer's name in terror, revealing him to be the young master of the Green Serpent. The gigantic Green Serpent hovers over the residence, watching everyone from above. Right after, the masked man lands in the courtyard, releasing a powerful aura of energy. With a single motion, the invader concentrates his energy, creating a glowing sphere in his hand. The newcomer then turns and faces Bai Luochen's group in complete silence. Unfazed, the young man asks why the other is staring at him, and invites him to sit if he wants to join the party. Suddenly, a small serpent slithers out of the man's sleeve and lunges, prompting Su Liyue to ask if the master would like to try it in his powder. Facing the small creature, Su Liyue asks the master who that man with such a dangerous aura is, but he replies that he doesn't know everything. With that, the young man turns to Nalan Duoduo and, noticing her frightened expression, asks if she knows anything. Still in shock, the girl reveals that man was an evil cultivator from 200 years ago who caused trouble for all the great sects. Hearing this, Bai Luochen deduces that the Lin family is in trouble, but the young woman interrupts him, saying that's not quite it. She then reveals that the young master of the Green Serpent is already dead, leaving the master confused about who the invader could be. The girl explains she heard from her father that it was the Lin family's ancestor who killed him, sacrificing himself in the process. With a thoughtful look, the young man finds the idea of a man dead for 200 years coming back for revenge interesting. Then he brightens up and invites Liyue and Duoduo to watch the show while offering them some fruit. With a smile, the master clarifies that it is, of course, the spectacle of dogs fighting among themselves. Meanwhile, the masked man approaches the throne and says he came to congratulate the ancestor on his evolution, despite being very busy. With a threatening aura, the invader ironically asks if they aren't happy to see him. Recognizing the figure, the family head and the ancestor recoil in shock, unable to believe what is happening. The family leader then yells that he saw him get killed by his ancestor 200 years ago and demands to know who he is. Ignoring the question, the masked man turns to one of the guards and remarks that his boy is quite clever. With a nervous expression, the Lin family head corrects him, explaining that is his father, Lin Cheng. Unfazed, the masked man demands they bring out old Lin Cheng and inform him that the young master of the Green Serpent is here, causing the ancestor to shout that he is Lin Cheng. Seeing the little one's despair, Ye Zian wonders why the young master of the Green Serpent scares him so much. The ancestor then turns and calls for Xin, handing him a token and asking him to seek help from the great sects. The man accepts the order and leaves, thinking that the invader's pressure is as strong as the ancestor's, or maybe even stronger. With a wicked smile, he realizes that since the ancestor won't help him get revenge on Bai Luochen, perhaps the young master of the Green Serpent will. With the token in hand, he crushes it and swears he will make Bai Luochen pay for everything that day. Meanwhile, the invader and the ancestor face off, releasing their energy auras. Watching the scene, Su Liyue comments that the guy's presence is impressive, and Bai Luochen reassures her, saying their skills are too good for them to be noticed. The master then says that skills are worthless if you make a mess of things, and that they should just relax and eat melon. Ignoring the tension, the masked man sits down and says that old dog Lin has guests and isn't on his knees yet. Floating in the air, the ancestor yells at the evil cultivator not to brag, reminding him that they killed him 200 years ago and can do it again. However, the masked man charges forward and attacks him, causing Ye Zian to shout for the little Green Serpent immortal to be careful. With a single blow, their two powers collide in a massive explosion of energy. With a contemptuous tone, the masked man tells old dog Lin to let people finish talking. Right after, Ye Zian approaches to thank the immortal for saving him and offers him a gift, stating he only came to deliver it. The other says the young man has guts, accepts the gift, and guarantees his safety for the day before sending him away. Hearing this, the man offers to go get some sweets, while thinking that he can now finally get his revenge on Bai Luochen. Suddenly, the ancestor confronts him and asks if he thinks traitors live long, but the other replies that he'll live longer than him. Watching the scene, Bai Luochen turns and asks Duoduo for one of her poisonous feathers, leaving the girl confused by the request. Then, the master explains he's going to give Brother Ye a little hand, showing the feather along with other items. With a puff of breath, he sends the energy toward the man, who is hit squarely without understanding what happened. Immediately, power begins to surge within him, and an energy completely envelops him, starting a transformation. In his new form, the man thanks the Green Serpent Immortal for the blessing, impressed by the power of evil cultivation. A greenish, poisonous aura spreads across the battlefield. His body transformed, Ye Zian laughs, celebrating that he has finally reached the nascent soul stage. He then turns to the ancestor, warning that today, everyone will see he is not inferior to the Lin family's young master, causing the little one to call him an idiot. Seeing this, the family head insists they must kill the traitor while he's weak, but the little one calms him, saying now is not the time. The ancestor explains that the green serpent is watching them and that the reinforcement he sent with Yeziyun will arrive soon. From a distance, the masked man remarks that the Lin family has something good, but doesn't know how to use it, and decides to have some fun with the boy's strange power. In his new form, the traitor asks his new master if he isn't proud of his evolution, but the other calls him a coward for working with evil. Just then, the family head's son arrives and asks what's happening, and the transformed one ironically greets him for interrupting his fun. Desperate, the family head screams for his son, Zaire, to flee from this place immediately. Seeing the scene, the ancestor orders the green serpent to stop, while the father yells for his son to watch out behind him. Before the blow can land, the family head steps in front and yells for the monster to back off. The creature then strikes him with a powerful and devastating blow. Gravely wounded, the man falls into his son's arms, who screams his name in despair. Holding the family head's body, the monster remarks that its master was too slow to save him. Overcome with fury, the ancestor explodes with power, shouting that he doesn't care if he loses his strength, he will kill the green serpent today. With a powerful punch, the ancestor screams for the invader to give him back his grandson's life, but the other just scoffs at his commotion. With a single command, the masked man orders his serpent, Ching Por, to attack with all its power. A blast of energy is fired at the city, destroying everything in its path. The giant serpent then asks the old dog Lin if he's ever considered this was all his fault, but the ancestor refuses to listen to the evil scum. In the face of the confrontation, smoke and dust from the destruction spread across the battlefield. Nalan Duoduo then expresses her concern that although the Lin family is rude, they are still a good sect, and Bai Luochen reassures her, saying that helping is the right thing to do. The master then declares they must fight the evil and protect the good, and that now it's their turn to act, leaving Su Liyue ready for battle. He then asks his disciple to conserve her energy and not let the Lin family head die, and takes off at high speed. In the midst of battle, the ancestor manages to hit the serpent, but is then wounded by a surprise attack. The masked man then offers the old dog Lin a chance to live, if he begs for his life. However, the ancestor refuses to bow, stating that even if he dies, he will die for the good guys. Hearing this, the invader removes his mask and, with a mocking smile, questions the idea of good guys. He then reveals that 50 years ago, the ancestor forced his own daughter to marry for money, and on their wedding night, hunted them down until they died together. Seeing the man's face, the ancestor stammers in shock, unable to believe who he's seeing. The serpent reveals that he is about to become a demon lord and transform into a dragon, using the city's souls as food to pay for what the ancestor did. Horrified, the little one shouts that he's gone mad, as there are millions of innocent people in the city, and asks if he doesn't fear karma. With a disdainful smile, the man says that at least villains don't hide their actions, and blames the ancestor for not killing him in the past. Calling him a monster, the Lin family leader realizes that if he uses his next move, his current life will be over. Without hesitation, the ancestor uses his star-shifting technique and charges forward to kill the enemy once and for all. However, the man strikes him squarely, causing him to spit up dark, poisonous blood. Suddenly, a figure appears out of nowhere and blocks the attack, commenting that the ancestor went all out by breaking the void. Fallen on the ground, the little one coughs and despairs, realizing the poison has already reached him, something that shouldn't be possible. The invader then explains that a common poison wouldn't work, but a soul poison is a completely different story. He reveals his plan to use the old dog as an appetizer for a banquet of souls, with the people of the city as the main course. In that same instant, Bai Lochin appears through the smoke and protects everyone from the poisonous mist. Completely shocked, the man shouts, not understanding what the hell is happening. In the blink of an eye, the master traps the serpent in a golden sphere of energy and warns that he's taking the creature because it's too dangerous, leaving the other man in despair. Soon the villain despairs, realizing he is in a domain, something only Earth immortals can create. But Bai Lochin explains it's a simple version he calls nothingness. Surprised, the man asks when the Lin family got a big shot capable of opening a domain and demands to know who he is. And the young man introduces himself as a teacher from Qinghong Academy. Coughing and aged, the villain asks if the young man knows what the Lin family did to him, and Bai Lochin replies that he can see it on his face. The master then advises him to save his breath, explaining that he controls time here, and that while he is sorry for his story, He can't let him destroy the city, offering him a dignified death. Scorning the idea of dignity, the man screams that they are all fakes and deserve to die as an intense light bursts from his chest. Surprised by the explosion of light, Bai Luochen watches the scene, not understanding the other's intention. Outside, Su Liyue observes a strange, shining object appear in the sky and wonders what it could be. Amidst the rubble, the disciple recognizes the energy emanating from the object as the aura of the demon race.